Hello everyone and welcome back to What a Barb, a Polin podcast. I'm Obs and I've got everyone here with me. For now, the intro, we'll have some in and outs. But for now, hello Lecky, Beans and Veg. How are we all doing?
Oh, surviving.
Yeah.
Beans, your tonsils tried to kill you this week, so how are you doing, pal?
My friend gave me strep throat randomly, and I had to go to the hospital for about 12 hours because my tonsils were blocking my airway.
Great.
Essential, really.
Yeah, I'm on the up and up. You know, I'm on antibiotics.
I mean, I'm not being funny, Beans, but the down and down would have been death. So
Yeah,
I
literally.
feel like...
You also were in the hospital on the anniversary of your last hospitalization for the same tonsil issue.
Literally, the nurse was like, oh, you had strep 2 years ago on this very day. And I was like, oh, wow, great. And then he immediately gave me steroids, like liquid steroids through my IV, which made my vagina burn.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not pleasant.
There's a lot of face covering going on.
And then I got a really bad sunburn on my boobs.
It's not well.
Yeah.
She's not doing well.
Not a good day to be Beans' diddly parts.
I know.
Yeah.
Every extremity was experiencing something for the Bean this week.
I know.
But Veg, you have happier news. You just got back from a trip.
Oh,
Veg on tour.
well, we'll start with the bad, we'll move to the good.
Oh, no.
So, my cat, Pom, had some bad teeth when I got him and they just got worse, so he had to get them taken out at the vet.
Oh.
And he got back and he smelt like weird. Punks didn't recognise him.
Yeah.
Oh.
They have this thing where they can't recognise it if they smell different. And she was hissing at him for like 3 days.
Oh.
And they're still not friends.
Aren't they related, though?
Yes, but she doesn't know it's him. And they're kind of okay, but they're not. They used to be so cuddly.
I think he probably just smells like the vet.
Yeah.
So maybe he just needs to get the vet smell and whatever.
Well, I hope so, but it's been slow going, and he had to go for another checkup. So I took her that time, and I gave her to the vet, and I was like, "Take her,
Yeah.
just rub her on you."
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not friends. So that's distressing. But anyway,
I wonder if it's also the smell of the anesthesia or something that's still in his system.
Yeah, it freaks them out. That happened with my dad's cats when one of them got spayed. And they're mother and daughter. And the mother was like, don't ever come near me again to the daughter.
yeah,
They're fine now.
Yeah.
It just,
Okay, phew.
you have to get the smell off of you, you know?
yeah. So that's the bad news. Good news. Yes, I had a lovely trip to Scotland to stay with my aunt and uncle.
She saw the cows and the sheep.
I did see the cows.
Did you actually see cows and sheep?
I did, yes.
And dolphins. She saw dolphins. It was so
Dolphins.
beautiful.
How magical.
Yeah, it was really nice. And I did not. So there was the option to go. I always forget their name. What's John Sterling?
Kilmartin.
Kilmartin. So
You're just like Fran, she can't remember either.
Kilmartin. It was far away. However, I did go to Stirling Castle,
Same thing.
and really fittingly and darkly, it oversaw a graveyard.
Oh.
Perfect.
Like a really big graveyard was like all you could see from one direction.
A short walk for all involved. Crows ominously cawing in the background. My God, you were living your own season 4 adventure. I mean, I've never been to Scotland, babe, and I think I'd love it.
Don't you want to live in Edinburgh?
I know. I keep meaning to get round to it at some point.
And you've never been there, have you?
Didn't you go to see Didn't you go to see your aunt and uncle as well?
Yeah.
It's like the most Regency trip
To see my aunt and uncle,
to see
yeah.
your aunt and uncle in Scotland.
Well, it's because I have a wedding that I'm going to in South Africa, so all my holidays have got to be cheap. Oh my God.
It's Lecky's dog.
Sweet little baby.
Lecky's dog is insanely cute.
She hates the Zoom.
But she absolutely hates us more than anything because she can tell when Lecky's on, speaking to us.
sweet baby.
Hi! Oh my gosh! Guest host!
But anyway, she's fine.
What do you think of episode 6?
I don't think she's watched episode 6.
Oh.
Compelling thoughts there.
Beans, is that you?
Yeah.
She might be interested in the flower Dalek if she saw it.
We'll circle back to you.
Adorbs.
Look at you. So, Lecky, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm well. Pretty good.
Are you all right, Obs?
My God.
How are you, Arvs?
What a shit week.
Oh.
I think everyone on the call knows I've had a shit week. But, you know, we'll be on the up and up because Patreon members, you'll know this. We've already covered this. But I'm leaving. Not the podcast. I'm just leaving life. Not life. Oh my God. London.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus
The
Christ.
happiest update of all.
This has just turned into an intervention.
You know what I mean? It's been a week. But yes, overall, not a good week has been had.
That's awful. I'm so sorry.
We'll send good vibes.
But anyway, I'm taking permanent action by leaving the city for a little bit. So it'll be obs on the road, obs on the ship, once more coming to ears near you. But yeah, as you know, we're doing episode 6 in this one, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton.
Right.
We are trying to do it all in one episode. So listeners, buckle in. You're just here all night for this one.
Yeah.
You two are going to disappear for a little while.
Yes.
Because we're going to travel to last week when we recorded a little bit.
I'm on a delayed train.
Yeah.
She spent far too much time touring the cemetery looking for John's grave.
Understandable.
And I got a flat tire on the road, stuck in traffic.
Oh, that's right.
And then was actively getting strep.
I have a funny comment about that because you said you had the blowout on the road, and I was like, it's catching, which is a line from this episode.
No, it's not catching. Someone's trying to off us all.
Penelope in the engagement ring scene.
I know, but this isn't pregnancy, babe. This is sabotage.
Well, you know what it is? It's the Mercury retrograde.
What a bitch. I'm sick of her.
Anyway, moving on.
So yeah, sorry for the delays, guys, and we will see you in the next section.
Okay, so for the next hour, you just got me and Lecky. I'm so sorry. So, Lecky, it's been a little while.
As we usually say, but this time it really has been quite a while. We recorded our intro quite some time ago, and then many challenging circumstances have been thrust upon us. So this episode has taken quite a lot longer.
We're not the same people we were in the introduction.
Yes. So thank you for bearing with us and for your patience. We are still going through a very difficult time, but we are trucking on and hope to get the rewatch out to you as soon as possible.
By the time they hear it, it will be there, babe.
Well, I meant the rewatch as in the rewatch.
Oh. I was like, at this point, job done, babe.
Yeah.
Like, I've sent you into the streets to do some sweeping up of some crumbs.
Yes.
What have you got for us?
Of course, the big Bridgerton news in recent weeks has all been focused on the 2 new posters that were released for season 4. If you remember, one of those posters was officially released and the other seems to have been accidentally released. Leak alert, and promptly deleted by Netflix Netherlands. We actually released an episode discussing those posters in more detail, so you can go listen there for a little bit more information. But the main news is that season 4 will release in 2 parts on January 29th and February 26th.
So not too long to go now, babe, much to your horror.
Yes, we need to get the rewatch done, basically, but we're trying our best. So that is definitely the main news. However, there are a few other crumbs to sweep up. For the sake of time, we're just going to cover the main pieces of news from September onwards, for the most part, and then we will hopefully be more or less caught up. For those who are interested in who is writing season 4, the Writers Guild website updated their list of writers for season 4. So some newcomers, we have Kathy Liu, who was a writer for My Lady Jane. She's going to be writing episode 403. Elizabeth Reichelt, who is a previous writer's assistant on the show, will be writing episode 404 with Eli Wilson-Pelton, who did episode 303. And then we have Tess Leibowitz, who will be writing episode 407. We, of course, also have a bunch of returning writers from Bridgerton, including Lauren Gamble, who wrote our beloved Carriage episode 304, Jess Brownell, Asia Squire, Daniel Robinson, and Annabelle Hood. So there are plenty of familiar names amongst the writing team. We also know that the Emmys were a really long time ago now, but we have to offer our congratulations to the costume team and the hair and makeup teams of season 3, who both won an Emmy earlier in September. I think we can all agree that those wins were very well deserved, and it's great to see the teams be given recognition for their artistry. Julie Andrews also won an Emmy for outstanding character voiceover performance, and we can't wait to hear more from her Lady Whistledown in season 4. NYX has announced a new collaboration with Bridgerton with the tagline, "Mask on, be the baddie of the ball this season." The collection includes makeup inspired by the Lady in Silver, the Queen, and our much-loved Wallflower. In more collaboration news, Allure Bridals have teased a new Bridgerton bridal collection due to be released on October 15th. If you were around during the lead up to season 3, you may remember that Allure Bridals released their first collection in partnership with the show, with nods to Daphne, Kate, and Penelope. I will say that we became very invested in the collection at the time because we thought the designs might have hints for Penelope's wedding dress in season 3. In the end, it didn't really work out that way, but it was still fun to see how Allure were inspired by the characters. So maybe worth keeping an eye out anyway to see if they make any allusions to Sophie. In cast news, Yaren Hall will be joining the Don Mars production of The Maids, which will be running from the 13th of October to the 29th of November. Kind of on brand for her to play a maid, so we're there for it.
Very different kind of maid, I would have to say. The story is slightly darker, hopefully.
Oh, is it? Is it about, like, murderous maids?
Yes, it is. How did you guess?
Okay. While we're discussing the world of theater, we of course have to give a huge congratulations to Luke Newton and Hannah Dodd, who both completed their runs as Alexander McQueen and Sally Bowles, respectively. We heard from so many of our listeners who were able to go see House of McQueen and Cabaret, and who all had amazing things to say about Luke and Hannah's performances. So if you went, I hope you had a wonderful time, and I'm sure you did, to be honest.
We live vicariously through you.
In more casting news, Bert Seymour has been busy filming in Portugal for the erotic thriller Red Flags. Meanwhile, Jessica Madsen will be joining the cast of Wild Things, a new series for Apple TV Plus, which will tell the story of the Las Vegas magicians Siegfried and Roy. And for Queen Charlotte fans, Corey Milcrease recently starred in My Oxford Year on Netflix. If you're looking for another tearjerker, you may want to check that out. And he has also recently been cast in a new drama titled The Julia Set. Also, India Armatifio has been cast in the BBC drama The Rapture, a 5-part thriller where I believe she will also play a convicted murderer. So this is very on brand for October. Good Halloween vibes.
Oh my god, it's a theme developing, babe.
Yeah. And lastly, in crew news, Jack Murphy has announced that he's currently choreographing the new Pride and Prejudice series for Netflix. That's so exciting. Jack was also the choreographer for The House of Guinness, which was recently released on Netflix.
Have you seen that yet?
No. I've been watching Love is Blind.
Have you?
And I just started watching The Traitors Ireland, which is hosted by Siobhan McSweeney. And they have some Irish wolfhounds in the beginning. It's so cute. But I'm only one episode in. But I love a good dog. Show me a dog, I'm happy. So I need to watch the new Celebrity, The Traitors also. It's just the perfect time of year to start watching The Traitors. So I'm trying to get back into that.
What a dark theme has descended over Crumbs.
Speaking of themes, we have some themes to discuss, perhaps.
Do we?
The redecoration.
Oh.
So there is a new theme and color palette inside the Featherington house.
There is. I'm sad. I don't think we've really got time to discuss it here, but we can nod to it, and I'm sure we'll cover it at some point in the future.
Right.
So someone's been painting, basically.
Someone's added some blue. It's very bright. I will say that I feel like Colin had a big hand in choosing the color palette. I don't know if it's my favorite color palette, but it's very on brand for Colin Bridgerton.
I don't know that you said what's been redecorated.
Oh, it's the foyer, the entrance of the Featherington house.
Yeah, some pictures were leaked a while ago. This was a long time ago, but the completionist in me is like, we need to mention it here.
Yeah, it's cute. We'll throw up a little collage if you haven't seen it. It's going to be very bright. You know what? On Bridgerton, when they do the color grading, all of the colors end up being a lot more muted. So that really bright blue wall might be taken down several notches. So we'll see how it actually looks in season 4.
But I so wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly how it's going to be.
Yes. I will say, it's like the perfect marriage of like Colin baby blue Bridgerton with Portia wanting to be like flashy. It's like a gaudy version of a Bridgerton blue. So it's very on brand for just everybody in that household, except for poor Penelope, who I imagine couldn't have had much choice in the matter. But
it'd have been like, it's the color of your eyes. Well, what a lovely note to end on. We will probably return to that more at some point in the future. But for now, thank you, Lecky. We're finally able to get around to the rest of the rewatch. Enjoy. Hello everyone. We have temporarily lost Veg and Beans. They'll be back at some point. They'll interject at some point. For now, you've got me and Lecky. Should we jump in, Lecky? Are you ready to begin?
Yep.
Because today we are tackling Season 3, Episode 6, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, written by Annabelle Hood. Sadly, this is director Billy Woodruff's final episode for the season, following his brilliant work on Episode 5. He's not due to return in Season 4, is he?
No.
But I would love to see him on like Fran or Elle's stories. I think he'd be great.
Yeah, bring him back.
A music video style greenhouse scene. Sign us up. But going back to this episode, it seems to be something of a bit of a divisive episode amongst fans, Lecky. I don't know if you've noticed this. I know that personally, I've always had pretty mixed feelings towards the episode. It's always hovered towards the lower end of my Season 3 rankings. And I think I felt that way pretty much since the first time I saw it. Do you remember your first impressions? Have they changed that much?
I think we'll get into this later, but I was surprised by the depiction of the tree in this episode.
Oh, the tree.
Based on the drama that's kind of lingering under the surface.
What business do you have flourishing?
You're just waiting for the shoe to drop this entire episode.
Yes.
But rewatching it, I think I actually liked it a little more. Like, I definitely have some nitpicks about it, but I really love all the Polin moments in this episode.
You know what, Lecky? I agree.
Yeah.
I think I've warmed to it more than I have. You know that I never really got it the first time round.
Uh-huh.
But rewatching it, I tried to rewatch it with a lot more sympathy for Pen, because I think I'm a bit harsh on Pen in part 2.
Yeah.
And I think watching it that way, she's stuck between a really hard place. Like, that's just reality. And there are some really beautiful moments which we'll get to. Well, as with all of our rewatch episodes, we asked our incredible listeners over on Patreon to submit their questions for this episode, and I think this might have been the most discussed, or at least intensely discussed episode we've ever had over there.
Yeah, we got some essays from our Patreon members.
Lots and lots of thoughts, which I think really reflects how complicated the episode is. So thank you so much to everyone who submitted them.
Very appreciated.
I thought we'd just cover a couple of comments before we dive in, because it really sets the tone of the episode. Because funnily enough, the one phrase that kept coming up time and time again was an impending sense of doom.
That's a perfect way to describe it, yeah.
So the lovely Moon Pie said, oh, episode 6. This episode has some of my favourite moments, but I also really do not like it for the overall sense of doom. I imagine that this combo is not accidental, and I think you're on the same wavelength there, aren't you, Lecky?
Yeah.
Annie M said, Colin is so happy and romantic and in love. I just wish that Lady Whistledown wasn't hanging over every moment.
Yeah.
It would have been lovely to just sit and wallow in the romance and not the impending doom.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with this sense of impending doom hanging over it. And I've always found that it's overshadowed my enjoyment of the episodes because, like you say, there's just something hanging over all of these beautiful moments. And I think as well, I've described it as a filler episode beforehand. Lecky, do you agree as much?
It's not so much filler, is that it's setting up some of the drama later in part 2. So they kind of have to take this time to set up the events that are going to come. And I feel like there's so much in part 2. There's so much packed in that they don't even necessarily get a chance to set it up all organically or in a really clever way. So some elements seem very filler this episode, but then by the time we get to 308, some elements seem very rushed.
Yes, I think that's what's frustrating. And like you say, it's maybe not fair to lay all of the blame at the door of this episode because it's the whole arc of part 2.
And some things could have maybe have been set up even in part 1, like some of Ben's romantic entanglements and stuff like that.
I think a lot of this episode there's so much of it. It took me forever to get through it because it's just stuff. But then it's also stuff that because they're saving the reveal for the end of the episode, you almost want them to move it to the middle so we can get there quicker and deal the ramifications quicker. Yeah. But because they set it there, I don't know, there's a lot going on. Scribble Vinyl, our listener, said, as much as I love the show, I was kind of disappointed with what happened in part 2. The romance took a back seat in my opinion. The side plots were not very compelling. And I just think the Polin relationship didn't get enough time to get out of the Lady Whistledown reveal and the after effects of it.
I agree with that. And I think we'll probably dig into that more in episode 8, for sure.
And I think this episode, where there are so many subplots getting tangled in, it does feel like you're wading through them a little bit. And you're like, we need to get to the big moments. ZS_0607 said, I love part 2. I think overall it was better than part 1. However, 306 is the one episode of season 3 that I really struggle with. So mixed bag, Lex.
Yeah.
And another very contentious point about this episode before we actually get into it is the use of the book title, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, as its name.
Aha. Yes.
It's always been a sticking point. Our listener Nick perhaps sums this up best by saying, I think I share a lot of people's thoughts already about the episode being filled with tension and doom. So why did they use the book title here? It doesn't seem a good fit. Which episode would you have placed the book title? And if the plot or storyline remains the same, then for me it would have been better for episode 2 or 5.
I feel like 2 would be a good option because she's unintentionally romancing him. And there's a lot of moments straight from the book in that episode. Yeah.
So it feels a bit more like a nod to not only the fact that she is romancing him without either of them really knowing it, but like you say, it is the book episode. It's so heavily informed by that. I think we talked about this in our episode 2 rewatches as well, that it would be the best place for it there. Because by this point, not only is Colin completely romanced already, like you've got the ring on your finger, he's locked in, he's loaded. But tonally, I don't even know that it makes sense for the episode to be given the book title because the book title feels like very light and fun and flirty like those early episodes of the season were. Whereas this is so much heavier.
And by this point in the story, he's starting to question whether she even really loves him.
Yeah, it's like deceiving Mr. Bridgerton or causing Mr. Bridgerton to spiral into complete self-doubt because you've forgotten to mention that you've been in love with him forever and it's made him panic.
Yeah, exactly.
And our listener Muffman's Mama suggested this episode should have been called Succubus of the First Water, which I will tell you, it might not still be by the time this is out, but that's the current working title of this rewatch episode.
I feel like it's a genius line, and I would have used that as an episode title for sure.
I think maybe calling it Romancing Mr. Bridgerton set us up to think that it was going to be like a lighter episode. And you're watching and you're like,
no, stop.
This is so much darker.
Yeah.
But Gabby conceded, although it doesn't deserve the book title name, it's not a bad episode. I really wish we had just seen more of the aftermath of Pen fainting in the last episode, but I assume it's the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Yeah.
And just before we move on, our listener Late had an interesting perspective on the naming of the episode, which sort of makes a case for the romancing of the Mr. Bridgerton of it all. They said, I always felt the title was plopped onto the episode, but now I see it differently. It's in this episode that Pen sets aside that thing that is most important to her, trading it for the love of her best friend, her mother, the Bridgertons, and most importantly of all, Colin. She is in fact making a sacrifice out of love. In the end, though, to truly show her love and affection for Colin, she must in fact use Lady Whistledown to go to war, so to speak, to protect the Bridgertons from Cressida by publishing again. And in doing so, she gets caught and almost loses Colin's love altogether. This is her biggest sacrifice and truly demonstrates her deep love and devotion for Colin and her family. What are your thoughts?
She definitely makes some sacrifices out of love.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to go into it with that mindset, I think. Because otherwise you're just sort of frustrated that we're spending so much time not telling him and it getting more delayed and delayed and delayed and it getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
We will get more into that in episode 7 when Pen finally has a bit of a chance to explain herself to Colin.
Yeah.
And we haven't even started the episode and already there's so much to discuss. But there is one question, Lecky, you've already touched on it a little bit. The most important question of all, the one that's tormented us since we first watched the episode. And our dear, lovely friend Purple Cat perfectly sums it up by saying, as a lover of Polin, episode 6 just feels like the portent of doom. The whole episode is a boulder rolling down a hill, gathering speed, unable to be stopped, as it hurtles towards inevitable total destruction, crushing everything in its wake. Purple Cat, we love you.
Ah, that's perfectly described.
But Purple Cat asks the important question of all, if this is the case, why was the tree so happy? Lecky, why is the tree so happy?
I don't know.
If there is ever a time for a stressed out tree, it should be now.
Yeah, I feel like all of part 2 should have just been the tree like withering away and then flowering at the last minute or something.
What business does it have? It's like episode 8.
Yeah.
Episode 8, I can maybe make a case for because all's well that ends well, technically.
Yeah.
That tree isn't dated. Maybe that tree is happening in the epilogue.
It's not dated.
But what business do you have to be blowing in the wind right now?
The storm has not passed, right? The storm is literally the end of this episode.
I want to see it on fire. I think I've said it literally every single episode without fail, but this is maybe when I would have the Jane Eyre lightning strike on the tree.
Strike the tree.
With splitting in half. So, Purple Cat, I would absolutely love to know. But now it is time to jump into the episode. Lecky, it's a long one. We are determined to get this into one episode.
Yeah, we're going to try.
So if you're clicking on Spotify and it says 5 hours, 46 minutes long, sit down, get comfy, babe. Because we have a cliffhanger that we've left on. As you will remember, Cressida Cowper announced to the party that she is in fact Lady Whistledown, causing Penelope's already heaving chest to finally give out on her and send her straight to the floor. What will happen now, dearest listeners? Lady Veg, why don't you take it away and let us know?
Dearest gentle listener, a declaration at a soiree is not enough to satisfy our queen, who requires the Cressida right and issue on demand to prove her identity. Penelope and Eloise discuss this new development and get a little closer in the process. Portia continues to surprise with her affection and advice, and Pen and Colin move forward to the next step of their nuptials and love declarations. Francesca and John have their own love to share with the Bridgertons as they announce their engagement too. I think I can speak for everyone when I wish them a long and healthy marriage. Despite how gorgeous this couple is, Violet can't seem to remove the stick from up her bum, and also isn't seeing any other action in that region as Lady Danbury cockblocks Marcus due to a long-held sibling grudge. Finally, Will and Alice host their first ball, complete with a large floral arrangement which looks a lot like a Dalek. Pollinate! Pollinate! At the ball, Cressida crashes and hands out her, or rather her mother's, issue, leading to Pen and Eloise fleeing the ballroom to print a retort. But who's that on their heels? Could time finally be up for Pen's secret identity?
So we open our episode to find the people of the Ton paying a visit to our favourite filming location, the Old Royal Naval College. Whispers are flying and everyone seems a little aflutter. And you know what, Lek? I can't help but feel something is a little off as well. Something missing, perhaps?
Yes, the script notes that everything in the ton looks the same but doesn't sound the same. Julie Andrews' voice is noticeably absent, and Lady Whistledown has not published, which has sent the ton into a bit of a panic.
Indeed, there's not a scrap of scandal sheet in sight. As one lady of the ton remarks, it has not been delivered, no one has it. And thanks to the complete absence of a Julie Andrews voiceover, we the audience don't have it either, which is kind of a cool way to make us feel just as adrift, just as off-kilter as the rest of the ton, which I think is a clever way to start the episode.
And if you remember, most of the ton were not invited over to Polin's engagement ball the night before, and so they have yet to hear the news about Cressida announcing herself as Lady Whistledown. And so they are left wondering exactly where their favorite writer has gone, with one even wondering if the Queen has discovered her.
Interestingly, the debutantes talk about wanting to have been included in Lady Whistledown for her to report on Emma's betrothal, Miss Barrigan's dress. And I think it's a good reminder that not everyone in the ton feels vindictive towards Lady Whistledown writing about them. They like being included and they're missing the fact that they aren't. And this ties into what we saw in 301 when, again, all the ladies of the ton were like thrilled that she'd written about them.
And in fact, Miss Stowell, I think later at the Mondriche ball, screams like, she's back when the copycat Lady Whistledown is delivered. Yeah, they're delighted.
Yeah, it's a fun episode to really get into the mindset of the ton when it comes to Whistledown, because by the end, when Pen's announced, you're a bit like, are they not baying for her blood? Do they not want her served on a platter?
Yeah.
But I think this episode really reveals, like the absence of Whistledown really reveals what she means to the ton and how they see her.
Yeah.
And I think what you find is there's a lot more affection to the notion of the writer, and a lot of the vindictiveness goes towards Cressida, the fact they don't like Cressida. So we will keep tracking that. But Lecky, I've got a question. If Whistledown hasn't published, and if you remember, most of the ton weren't even there at the engagement party, it was a select invite only, how on earth is anyone going to find out about Cressida being Lady Whistledown?
They're probably more party crushers, Obs. No, this is actually answered in the script because actually your favorite character is on the case. We cut to Lord Hawley in the script gleefully telling Miss Barrigan and Miss Malhotra that Cressida is Whistledown, with Miss Barrigan reacting by exclaiming, "That blonde backbiter!"
Remember, Lord Hawley was one of the few guests of the party the night before, so he was there to hear Cressida announce she was Lady Whistledown. If you remember, he was absolutely loving it as well. He was soaking up that gossip.
Yeah.
And now he's apparently spending the morning running around town like the town crier, telling everyone in sight. Gossip travels fast, I suppose, even without Lady Whistledown holding the pen. Just another reminder that pen conveys the gossip that people are already spreading.
As he's delivering the news, you see him in the final edit, like excitedly nodding as they're reacting.
He's having the time of his life.
He's so thrilled. Yeah. But of course, Obs, I know you love Lord Hawley, so you'll be heartbroken to know that Lord Hawley was once again cruelly silenced here at the beginning of the episode. Last episode, we speculated that his speech was cut not just for pacing reasons, but also because of his slow speaking manner. And the script for 306 implies that is the case. It says Lord Hawley, from the engagement party with his usual slow delivery, approaches the mammas as he hears the commotion. And he says, "My dear ladies, have you not heard?" And they're like, "Heard what? What have we have not heard?" And he's like, "Whistledown has revealed herself. The scribbler is Cressida Cowper."
Dun, dun, dun.
And then the scene would have continued as we see on screen with the blonde backbiter line, but in a hilarious detail, Hawley would have had his own hero moment here, which I'm sure will absolutely devastate Obs and you other Lord Hawley fans out there.
Can't have anything.
Miss Barrigan originally fake swooned for the dramatics of it all, and Lord Hawley heroically caught her before she hit the ground.
Putting hero Colin to shame, I will say. Although I think maybe if he really was a slow speaker, then it would have taken the wind out of the sails of this scene, because they're all in a frenzy. It's all going really, really quick. Who is it?
Who is it? Who is it? And he's like, "It's Cressida Cowper."
So maybe on reflection, perhaps gossip will be travelling a little bit too slow. We'll leave it to Pen.
Yeah. But now the news is out, and as the script describes, it is popping around as the gossip spreads like the Great Fire of London. Miss Stowell wonders if it's really Cressida, while Miss Goring says it makes perfect sense. Others label her as an old maid and cruel, while our compassionate and currently unnamed judgy mama concedes that poor child has clearly been badly brought up.
Cressida is even causing a lover's tiff, as Cho calls her hellborn, while his betrothed, Emma Kenworthy, counters. I love it. She squares up to him. She's like, "I think she's a genius. What are you going to say about that?" Veg, you have an interesting story about the scene, do you not?
So I actually saw this being filmed. It was in a public area of a university. I was allowed to be there. And I could see down upon this scene from a staircase. I could see the gossipy conversation that Lords Cho's group had, and the ladies sitting at the table chatting. It was a very exciting day for sure, and I may or may not have missed a work meeting for it.
So as Veg mentioned, there were a group of debutantes seated at a table. At the time, we thought it was Fran, but it sadly wasn't. To Veg's credit, there appears to be a Bridgerton maid standing behind them, so it kind of made sense at the time. But she's not wearing all purple when you look in high def, but still a very cool scene for you to have seen, Veg.
Absolutely. And if you look very closely, you can spot Lecky's favourite extra, Crab Guy. He's finally there, Lecky. I know you're waiting for him.
Yeah.
Crab Guy is in the distance, possibly standing next to reduce, reuse, recycle baby blue Colin outfit. I'm always here for it. So it looks like Cressida's revelation has received mixed reviews all around, but something they're all agreed upon. They cannot wait for the next issue to drop. Speaking of, do you have any updates on that, Lek?
The Ton may be impatiently waiting to hear from Lady Whistledown, but we can assure you that Pen is hard at work on her next issue as we speak. We find her sitting on her bed, quill in hand, looking a little flustered as she puts her ink to the page.
I will not insult the devil by drawing parallels between him and Cressida Cowper, for one is a liar, a fraud, a succubus of the first water, and the other is not known to this author.
I think her first take on the Lady Whistledown issue is so hilarious that I wish she hadn't crumpled it up, because this is some genius writing from her here. Really biting.
It's like, no, Pen, you've got a nail down there.
Yeah.
It's just that years of resentment just like pouring out of her.
No rewrite needed. Yeah.
But crumple it up she does, where it joins a growing pile of discarded attempts. I like the way this is shot as well, because in the very first moment when we see her writing, we don't really focus on those crumpled up drafts, so we just think that she's writing as normal.
Yeah.
But as we pull into her, you can see how she's losing her cool. This is not how Pen usually writes. She's surrounded by scrunched up piles. She's in her bed, which she doesn't usually retreat to. She is rattled.
Yeah.
And our listener, Late, also found it interesting about how Pen is really struggling to write this column. Late says, she's surrounded by crumpled paper, having wadded up page after page of attempts. She's struggling, failing to find the right words. This is such a contrast to every other time we've seen her write. Her column has always flown out of her, seemingly without effort. I mean, even at the end of this episode, when she has to write it, that just comes straight out and it's perfect. It's biting. Yep. But back here, Late continued that this time she's thwarted. But by what? Her irritation with Cressida? Her conflict about not coming clean with Colin? What do you think? I think it's the former.
You think it's just she's so irate that she can't, like... I can see your point of view, because she makes her arguments to Eloise a bit later about how Whistledown is like her entire identity and how Cressida is stealing her voice. So maybe this is actually like a physical representation of how she can't even get her voice out onto the page.
Well, the thing is, this isn't writer's block. It's not that she's struggling to write. This is writer's rage. She's so overwhelmed with anger at Cressida's audacity. It's just like overflowing. It's not that she can't think of what words to put onto the paper, a bit like Colin's struggling with. She just has so much coming out of her that she doesn't quite have that like editorial control over her own emotions to be able to be like, okay, what do you actually need to write as Whistledown? Or are you just like, this is Penelope writing. You know what I mean? This isn't Whistledown writing.
That makes sense to me, but after thinking about it, I really like the idea that she claims that Cressida has stolen her voice, and she literally can't find her voice right now.
Yeah. This thing, she can't find Whistledown's voice.
Yeah.
She's writing as Penelope and all of Penelope's anger, but the sharp Whistledown that always comes to her
has been taken from her, yeah.
It's gone. Obviously, she's very stressed about Colin too. I mean, 12 hours ago, she was on the floor, mate.
Yeah.
She's having quite a time.
And the script describes Pen in this scene as furiously penning a Whistledown column from bed. She's feverish, pushing sweaty locks from her eyes as flecks of ink stain her hands. Pen underlines the words with vigor, but then her emotions get the better of her and she crumples the paper.
She's so pissed. She's managed to bring on a fever. Like, no wonder she collapsed the night before. You kind of see where she's coming from. And she is pregnant, lest we forget. But before she can get started on another new draft, there is a knock at the door. Portia steps in, somehow completely missing the fact that she's surrounded by crumpled up papers, to announce that Pen has a visitor.
She does that several times this episode. She's always surrounded by these glaring clues that she's Lady Whistledown, and Portia's just like so swept up in like, oh, you're engaged and we're connected to the Bridgertons, it's all going to be great. She doesn't notice these signs.
I think our listeners scribble messages about that, and they were like, why isn't Portia ever questioning the fact that Pen is writing or surrounded?
Yeah.
I honestly think Portia just doesn't care. She's like, whatever you're doing, it's worked.
Yeah.
Keep at it, babe.
Yeah. Go sit by the window if you want. Get some freckles. Yeah.
And it's just like, she's so one-track minded on the wedding and everything like that. She's just, do your own thing. She's warming to Pen a lot. She's like, you like writing? It's nice, isn't it? Carry on, babe.
Actually, that's a good point because later this episode we'll get into it, but there's a cutscene where she even says she doesn't mind Penelope reading anymore, but we'll come back there.
But yes, we have a visitor. I think I just spoilt it, but who could it be, Lecky?
Of course, it is Colin, who has come to check that his fiancée is still alive and breathing after she collapsed at their engagement party the night before. He's nervously awaiting Pen's arrival, sitting on the sofa, distractedly tapping his fingers on his knee.
Look, we're always here for some finger action, of course. Let's add it to the pile. And Pen quickly has to adjust her rage to act as if all is completely well. Luckily, our girl is good at hiding a personality or two. And she gathers herself, steps into the room and walks towards him. I love the shot of Colin stepping to greet her. He reaches for her hand as she meets him. And then the frame is pulled back.
The wide shot, yes.
Billy Woodruff is such an artist with moments like this.
I know.
We just have the two of them framed in the Featherington living room together.
In fact, this entire sequence, it's bookended by those two wide shots of them by the window with him leaning down and like holding her hand. And it's so sweet. I love it.
And Scribble Vinyl also picked up on this and said, I liked that Colin is waiting for Pen in the settee she usually sits on. Do you think this is intentional?
Yeah, I love it. Yes, he's literally sitting there inside her home where she usually gazes out at him. You know what I mean? Like, he's now inside of her world. She's not looking across the street at the world that...
She's not pressed up against the window.
Yeah, that's a good callback to the kiss scene, actually. She's no longer pressed up against the window of the house she doesn't belong in. He's literally living inside of her world now.
Because, you know, we talked a lot about the window imagery, especially in episode 4, where it really comes to this crescendo of realization for everyone that for 2 years, 3 years, however long it's been, we've had this recurring image of Pen by her window. But part 2 still picks up on that. Even as they're in the happy ending, it's like he's right there for you. You know that by the epilogue, that's exactly the shot that we leave them on, of the two of them together by that same window. So having him waiting for her in their house in this domestic setup that they're going to live in is really, really beautiful. And also sort of weighs heavily again on Pen, being like, this is the life that you're getting. This is your wildest fantasies, your dreams that were dismissed for years. Don't blow it.
Yep, exactly.
So this shot, Billy Woodruff, gorgeous. Just the two of them together, own little world.
Well, maybe not just the two of them, because as Penelope reassures Colin that she is well enough, maybe not that reassuring, I suppose. We cut to Portia, who's decided to fully commit herself to the role of chaperone for the first time in Polin's years-long relationship. She is hilarious throughout this entire scene. Polly Walker is such a genius, such a scene stealer. It's so hilarious that now she's paying attention when the baby is already in there.
Great job, Portia. That baby is well and truly in there, but it's the thought that counts.
It's properly being chaperoned, yeah.
And obviously everyone loves this moment. Erin, our listener, said Portia choosing now to care about chaperoning Pen is hilarious. She really has missed that boat. And Gabby said, chaperone when she's already pregnant always kills me.
So funny.
And just like Portia, we are also so happy to be listening in on Polin's conversations. Because let's be honest, she's not chaperoning them because she gives a shit about propriety. She is like, I want the gossip. I want to see this.
Yeah.
I will linger.
Yeah, this is where Pen got her Lady Whistledown side from. This is Portia wanting the tea. Yeah.
And we are doing much the same, so I'm right there with you, babe. But as Colin takes Penelope's hand, she quickly pulls away and says, perhaps you should not be here in case it is catching. Catching, Lecky.
Yes. Penelope realizes her fingers are covered in incriminating ink stains and so tries to hide them before Colin can see. There are also some amusing parallels to season 1 here. I don't know if I wrote amusing. I'm not sure it's all that amusing. But anyway.
It's like going back to like a really fraught time in series 1 and you're like, hilarious. A laugh a second.
Hilarious.
In an episode that's also a laugh a second. Whack it in.
Anyway, there are some parallels to season 1 here as Pen warns Colin that he should perhaps go in case her condition is catching. Back in season 1, Portia used similar language to deter Penelope from visiting a pregnant Marina, saying her condition was catching. Here, Penelope herself is pregnant and has no idea she's trying to dissuade her own fiancé from visiting a pregnant woman, guarding a very different secret. She then, of course, quickly snatches her hands away and tucks them behind her back, realizing they are covered in ink stains, but Colin assures her there is nowhere else he would rather be.
What a time to be clingy, Colin, eh? When she's she's up to her elbows in ink. It is a little bit heartbreaking here because obviously Pen does want to see Colin in general. Like, there's a part of her that is obviously thrilled that he's there in her house, but right now she really needs to get back to Whistledown and she's very much in that distracted mode.
And so she's pulling away from him. But of course he picks picks up on it because he's already insecure and now she's literally physically pulling away from him.
It's like she doesn't even want to see me. It is not intentional at all on Penelope's part, but it adds it to the list that we're building up to. And again, it's about Colin worrying that perhaps she doesn't feel as strongly as he does.
Interestingly, there was also some cut dialogue here where Colin says he feels to blame for Pen swooning the previous night. So not only is he insecure about how she feels, but now he's blaming himself for what happened the previous night, which feels very Colin of him in a very, very sad way.
Yeah.
But basically, in the script he said, "There's nowhere else I would rather be. I feel partially to blame for your swooning last night." And Penelope assured him, "You have done nothing wrong." And he says, "I was interrogating you," taking the blame for what happened.
I can literally hear that in his voice as well, like how distraught he must have been.
I know.
To think, God, I nearly killed her.
Yeah.
Now, not only does he know that she's keeping something from him because she never told him what she was going to, he now thinks he almost killed her off. So now he's drowning in guilt over that.
Yeah.
I think they needed to cut that out because it's a bit too mean.
Yeah.
You don't need to apologise for everything, babe. I love how this is shot, the way that we linger on those inky hands framed by sunlight. In fact, they're both looking beautiful in this scene. Veg, tell me more.
They do indeed look stunning. Colin is actually looking super, super sweet. He's just popping by, so he has a coat on complete with brass buttons, and he has a ruffled bluey silver cravat and high-necked shirt. The ruffles have definitely grown on me this season, and they do emulate romance. We know our boys are romantic, so it kind of works. I'm into it. I also love Pen's dress here so much because it kind of looks like her part one looks. You've got the seafoam green, the little mesh sleeves, but we have a wonderful addition here by way of lots of little lilac flowers. I think they might actually be lilacs, which is absolutely huge if true. We know well by now that lilacs mean first love both in flower language and in Bridgerton costume team language, so we can be confident in what they were shooting for here. Pen has her hair down to one side and light makeup for indoors. Now, I will say her bling is a little lacking. Is there anything we could maybe do about that?
I love Pen's hairstyle, the way those curls fall down her right side, and that being the way that it's framed. It's like one of those moments where her styling is really like in harmony with the blocking of the shot and the way this is shot.
You know what? That might be part of the romancing this episode because she looks beautiful this entire episode.
I'm romanced.
We're romanced, yeah. Valid. Title is now valid. Continue.
There we go. We will allow this. And I have a soft spot for this dress as well. I know it's just like an everyday dress, but it's so beautiful and dainty.
Yeah, with the petals. And the petals are lilac.
Yes.
Love. She's literally wearing petals of love all over her dress.
She's drowning in it.
They do like start to gather more at the bottom, so it is kind of like the love petals are weighing her down a little bit.
And of course, Colin looks like the perfect gentleman that we know he is.
Yeah.
I can just imagine him painstakingly getting himself perfectly neat and tidy, ready to call on her, like really nervous. And I mean, after all that effort, he is determined to call on her. He will be seeing Penelope today.
Yes.
And so he reassures her, as you say, that there's nowhere else he'd rather be. Which, great news, Pen. You're not shaking him off that easily, babe. And they sit together on the sofa as Colin tries to broach a delicate topic, but someone else is once again hovering nearby.
Portia is still playing the dutiful eavesdropping chaperone, causing Colin to lower his voice, draw Pen closer, and take her hand in his. He says, "I know there is something you wish to tell me, but I'm happy to be patient as you unfold whatever it is you are feeling." The script notes a longing here as he wishes Pen would reassure him that her feelings for him are as strong as his, but Pen, of course, is only thinking about Whistledown.
Oh, God. Obviously, Colin hasn't forgotten there's still something Pen has been trying to tell him from the mirror scene.
The get-go, yeah.
You know, she's had repeated attempts, and although she tries to brush this off here as being like, oh, it's the whole Cressida thing, he knows that there is something that she hasn't said.
Something more, yeah.
But interestingly, it's the wording he uses. He says, unfold whatever it is you are feeling. So he's convinced that it's a feeling that she's keeping from him, not a thing. It's not like an actual secret.
He thinks that she doesn't love him.
Yeah. And so again, he's convinced himself, like you say, that the secret is that Pen doesn't feel the same way that he feels for her. And so it really isn't on his radar at all that there's an actual physical secret that's been kept from him, which is why it's going to take him so by surprise. And also perhaps why he reacts to it so viscerally, because he's already mentally tied that secret into him not being enough, into her not feeling the same way. And I think it's really hard for him when he does find out what it is to untangle that from his perception.
That's a good point. I also really like Colin's choice of words here, where he says he's happy to wait for Pen to unfold. I think that's really clever because her secret is so tied up in the written word. The writers are almost treating Pen like one of her issues of Lady Whistledown here.
You'd literally unfold it.
Hinting that she'll soon be unraveled and exposed. Thanks to a lingering and extremely unsubtle Portia, Penelope, of course, says she can't speak of it right now, however.
How convenient.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like the thing where like when Colin said that, we'd be like, it's so clever. He's realising it without knowing it and he's going to put all the pieces together.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We'll get to that, but reader, it did not.
I do kind of wish he'd figured it. Well, he does figure it out, but I feel like he's so...
No, I don't think he does. I don't think he does. We'll talk about this at the end, but...
No, I mean, like, he figures out enough to go follow her, but he's so clever in season 2 that we were certain that he was going to pick up on more than he does, but he's so caught up in his emotions that he doesn't even realize there's something more to Pen's deception, I guess.
Yeah. On a lighter note, Lecky, how utterly hilarious is Polly Walker in this scene? Oh my God, it makes me so excited for season 4 because any of this dynamic will sign up for. She's just sneaking around so blatantly. And our listener Late really loved this moment too. They said, here the music switches to something light and bouncy as Portia casually strolls to the biscuit tray. Is she channeling Biscuit Boy Colin? Or just trying to be nonchalant in her eavesdropping? She takes a crunchy bite and comically tiptoes while Polin chat quietly about Cressida's disclosure. I die every time Portia walks between Polin and the camera.
Yes, I was taking screenshots last night for our collages and there's a wide shot of Penelope and Colin sitting on the sofa and Portia is just like leaning down like this on like the side of the frame. I know this isn't a visual podcast, but I will include like the collage of her just like leaning down into the frame like a giant because she's so much closer to the camera and it's so funny. It's so funny.
It is great. And I mean, let's be honest, is it a Polin scene if someone doesn't walk in the middle of the frame?
That's true, yeah. All the way back to What a Barb.
She's upholding a years-long tradition. Let's not lie. Just absolutely perfect. And Late says, she's like a spectre in the room. Do you think this is foreshadowing of things to come?
That she'll be always around in their face? Yeah, maybe.
I bloody hope so.
Also, in that little clip we got, Portia is interrupting that intimate moment of Colin and Penelope in their bedroom. So this does kind of seem like foreshadowing maybe for some of their season 4 dynamic.
As we see later in this episode, Portia is his biggest fan. She is sold on board, adoring her son-in-law.
Yeah, she is on board the good ship Colin.
Aren't we all, babe? But chaperone Portia conveniently offers Pen another way out of confessing to Colin, and so instead, Pen places the blame at Cressida's feet and blames Cressida's announcement for the reason that she was so overcome the night before. I guess that's at least partially true because Cressida's announcement was the final straw for Pen's blood oxygen levels, but it's definitely not the whole truth, is it, Pen?
When Penelope here tells Colin that her fainting certainly isn't because of anything Colin did, she's referring back to the cut moment I just mentioned where Colin overtly blamed himself. Taking Colin's lines out of this scene at least makes it seem as if Pen is offering him some kind of reassurance, although it's not perhaps the reassurance that Colin is really hoping for.
It's like, don't worry, babe, it wasn't your fault that I completely collapsed and nearly died. Don't you worry about it.
He's like, when did I mention that? In your cutscene. Your cut line.
Oh, God.
In fact, does that make him think that it was his fault that she brings it up without him introducing that?
Well, I suppose it's her almost, in a way, finishing the sentence that she couldn't say the night before, because when she was, like, hyperventilating, he was like, did we go too far in the carriage?
Oh, yeah.
Are you regretting everything? And she was trying to be like, no.
Oh, okay, good point. She's picking up that conversation.
Yeah, so maybe it's tying into that.
But the mention of Cressida distracts Colin, who seems less than impressed with Cressida's audacity the night before, especially after he says, all the unkindness she has written about you and me and our families. Just another way to rub it in that Colin hates Whistledown. Great.
But Colin doesn't seem massively convinced that Cressida really is Whistledown, does he, like?
No, because Colin always imagined Lady Whistledown might be more clever, perhaps.
Ooh.
Of course, we know that clever is a word he associates with his very good friend Penelope, if we think back to 301 and 305.
Oh, you're so nearly there, Colin. It's like, the pieces, babe.
Does he or she use the word clever in the purposing as well? I feel like this may be like a seasons long.
Brave and witty.
It's in the wheelhouse.
Well, I mean, it ties back to her barbs that she's had since Byron, right? 101.
Yeah.
It's always these moments that he's loved.
He's noticed her cleverness. Yeah.
I mean, it's literally Whistledownism is like the Byron quote because she talks about Byron in her first issue.
Yep, it's a great point, yeah.
So you can see that Pen is slightly preening when he's like, I thought Whistledown would be more clever. And she's like, really?
The script also rubbed it in a bit more for Pen here, saying that she brightens when Colin admits that he always viewed Lady Whistledown as clever, and then she deflated when he originally continued by saying that he supposes it makes sense as Miss Cowper is clever in her cruelty. I'm glad they took that out.
I think Colin, even inadvertently calling out Pen's cruelty, would be a little bit too much. I mean, who doesn't love a Marina parallel? That's just what we wanted, isn't it? We know that Colin didn't react the last time he called a woman cruel, so let's just take that off the table for the minute.
Yeah.
And also, wasn't he the cruel one in 301? We have a minimum usage per season.
Oh, Lord. Yes, taking that line out means that we end the Lady Whistledown discussion with Colin mentioning the writer's cleverness rather than her cruelty. And this is the first time this season Colin has spoken positively or even favorably about Lady Whistledown, and it helps Pen kind of soften toward him in that moment until, of course, he notices the ink stains on her fingers and she's forced to pull away from him again. Also, by associating Lady Whistledown with being clever, he has unknowingly tying a link between her and Penelope in his mind, which, as we know, will help him find his way back to her in 308.
But now for a more cheerful moment. Colin presents Penelope with Lecky. An engagement ring. He liked it. He put a ring on it. Is it Violet's ring? No, it's not. There was a lot of zooming in over the year, but we can conclusively say it's not the same ring.
But it's very cute.
The ring is a gold band with 6 pearls arranged like flower petals around a gem. It could be a diamond, but he is a third son, so I don't know. It's really similar to the ring that Anthony gives Edwina and I guess we can assume Kate in season 2. And it's also fairly similar to Daphne's ring, although hers only had 4 pearls. Before diamonds became more widespread around the world, pearls were a very popular choice. Napoleon III's wife, Empress Eugenie of the French, apparently that's her title, of the French, was said to have had a pearl ring. And more recently, less common, but Ariana Grande had it from her engagement to Dalton Gomez. So there you go.
I can no longer watch this scene without hearing the train toy, the Foley.
Oh, Colin is beautiful. He's so proud of himself as well. You know what? I think I would have moved this scene to episode 5 because I'd have been able to enjoy it more.
Oh, yeah.
Because episode 5, I was like fully swooning. I was like, oh, everything's great. Whereas here I'm like, oh my God, everything is dire and awful.
Yeah.
Which it isn't, because you have these beautiful moments, but it just sort of gets a little bit weighed down, I think. Mm-hmm. It is a cute moment because Pen is genuinely taken aback by the sight of her ring, as Colin remarks that it's only half as beautiful as she is. I swoon, Pen swoons, you swoon, we all swoon, babe.
Portia swooning.
Oh, she is. She's loving it.
She loves it. The script notes we get some hot hand action as Colin slides the ring onto Pen's finger before he notices the ink on her hands. Book fans, you will know that ink did play a part in romancing Mr. Bridgerton, but it was the ink on Eloise's hands that raised Colin's suspicions, thinking that his sister was actually the scribe. When we first saw the scene, I think we thought Colin noticing the ink would lead his suspicions in the same direction, that there were clues throughout this episode that Colin would start piecing together until that final moment of revelation, but oh well. In more cheerful news, for everyone who thought Pen was checking out Colin in the scene, here's some validation for you.
Spoiler, she was.
Because in the scene description for the very beginning of the scene, it reads, Colin protectively takes Pen's hands. As he does, a smile spreads across Pen's face, feeling the heat for this man who is now hers. As she looks down at their hands, she notices the ink stains on hers and quickly pulls them behind her back, her mind flicking back to her predicament.
She's hot for him, and you know what? She's hot for his hands because they've done things. They've been places. He took a grand tour.
He went to 18 cities. I don't know.
They did say they went a couple more rounds. They didn't put a number on it, did they?
Yeah.
We love a Colin hand. And it's like tonal change. I think what's so important to remember in this episode, as conflicting as it is that she really, truly does love this man, and she really does want this life with him more than anything. And so these moments when she is still concealing something from him, she still feels that is a truthful feeling. She's not deceiving him the way that Marina did, where everything was a lie.
Yeah.
It's just there's an added complication. And the truth is that she also loves Whistledown.
Yeah.
And she still wants to be able to dream. Like, this is a girl who has spent her entire life dreaming. It's her dreams that sustained her to this point, to be with him, and to ask someone to give up that part of her. And the thing is, Whistledown is her, because we talk about it in the same way that Colin does, where sometimes we talk about them very separately. It's not just Whistledown, it's like her soul and her voice, and you're asking someone to give up themselves almost.
To silence that, yeah.
That's what's important to remember, is that whenever she's in conflict, it's like a genuine conflict where she is being pulled between both realities. But the beautiful engagement ring moment cannot last for long, as the sparkling music suddenly turns as Colin once again notices all of that ink on her hand. She pulls back and lies about her writing. What is she writing on, apparently, Lecky?
Letters to share our happy news, she tells him.
Once again, proficient letter writer. Are we, Pen?
Yes. And he's like, oh, you're back to writing letters now, huh? But not to me.
I'm sure your hands were fucking clean over the summer, weren't they, mate? And who is she writing to?
One of her many redheaded relatives who show up at the wedding.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point, don't they? They all bloody turn up into town.
Yeah. The Irish contingent. I don't know.
Yeah. And there is a flicker on Colin's face as he hears that answer. Perhaps once again noting that part of Pen that keeps pulling back from him and that keeps deceiving him. I think he does catch on to the fact that she's continually concealing.
I think so too. And I think he just wants to believe the lie, so he accepts it.
Yeah, he does. And it's almost like what he says, jumping ahead to episode 7, when they have that confrontation, that it's like, I knew there was something wrong. I just turned it on myself. Because it's almost like he doesn't want to think badly of her, right? Because he idolizes her so much. So of course it's him.
It has to be him, yeah.
It has to be. Once again, putting people on pedestals. People are not statues.
Not a good idea.
But for now, he decides to leave her to it, but not without a sweet little kiss on the hand. Good day, Miss Featherington. For now, again, that loving music swells back in as Colin heads out, leaving a deeply enamoured Penelope framed again by the light of the window, which makes me think that room is really dark, isn't it? Is it just me?
It is, yeah.
And I think that's kind of the part of
this episode, the shadows.
She's still concealing.
And there's a sweet moment between Portia and Penelope here as Portia, who's been pretending to tend to the floral arrangements, excitedly smiles at Penelope.
What's that little, how do you describe that?
She's just like smiling and like doing a little head shake. I don't know. I'm literally doing like a little...
It's just like bubble heads at the minute. We're just like...
It's almost like mini cute aggression when you're so happy you just want to like hurt something. I'm like, oh, I love it.
Oh, this is so cute.
I love how she becomes swept up witnessing this romantic moment as we are acting almost like a stand-in for the viewer. Because that's all of us, like shaking our heads going, oh, I love it.
Polly Walker talked about this side of Portia when she spoke to the Bridgerton podcast. She said she's desperate for some security. I think she's been scared for some time. I think she's also really quite proud of Penelope. She sees it as a huge achievement, and I think she's living vicariously through her.
Yeah.
She goes, my God, you can have love. It's a revelation to her.
Yep, I think that's that moment for her here. Yeah, I think she's realizing that a love like this can be real and that her daughter has found it.
And that's why she's chaperoning, because she's like,
so cute.
I want to see this.
Yeah.
Polly continued, I think Penelope opens her eyes to what a relationship and what love and what being a woman can be. And I really think that's sweet, especially in an episode where I think Portia accidentally teaches Pen some things that aren't as helpful. You had this moment where she's learning from her daughter as well about what true love is and what it looks like. And it looks like a 6-foot-tall man coming into your room and giving you a little squeaky train engagement ring.
Oh, Colin is beautiful.
And isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, isn't that what love is in the end? Squeaky train wheel.
Secrets aside.
Anyway.
And our listener late said, Portia is now full on Team Polin, a contrast to her early anger that Penelope entangled herself with the neighbour boy. Portia is even sporting a sort of pro-Colin badge of sorts on her shoulder, a large bird that I translate as the parrot. Is that a nod to Pirate Colin? Lecky, what are your thoughts?
Wait a second. Remember we've been debating what the vest from 301 at the presentation meant? And one of the birds, I think, is a parrot on his vest. And she's wearing a parrot here on her dress. Maybe this was the clue that they're like connected. They're one parroty pirate family. We've reached out to several people in production who've never heard back about what this vest means. So I'm just going to go with the parody pirate connection.
We have tried in vain to find out what the bloody 301... Because if you just recall, because it's been a while since our 301 rewatch, the vest that he wears at the presentation and the Livingston Gardens, the designer said that it was filled with Easter eggs for part 2. I'd love to know it.
There's a part 2 parrot. I think there's a parrot on his... God, what would that be? His right shoulder? And there's another bird on his left shoulder. But I think there's the one on his right shoulder is a parrot. So I wonder if this is like some sort of weird visual representation. It's probably not that connection, but you know what? I'm just going with Portia is on board with the pirate now.
Lake continued, regardless, we now know her allegiance is solid and she is on Polin patrol, chaperoning her youngest daughter for the first time ever. I love this. And I think it really reinforces what Portia's hesitancy was in 305, because she was so harsh in her assessment of their relationship. She didn't think that true love was possible, and she thought that Colin was going to mess Pen around the same way he messed the Featheringtons around over Marina.
Be flighty.
Yeah, be flighty and run off. But now that she understands that it's real, she's all in. She's all in.
And Violet, in that cutscene, assured her that this was going to end in a marriage. She didn't have to worry. So here her fears are mostly relieved.
And Pen kind of fakes a smile at her mum. She's like, yeah, great. Maybe not fully believing in Portia's sentiments just yet. I mean, Portia's always had ulterior motives. But I love the idea that Portia is just like, this is bloody great.
This is amazing.
So overall, Lecky, are you a fan of this scene? Because I know it brings up mixed emotions, right? For example, our listener Nick says that when they've watched episode 5, they'll let it roll into episode 6 just to watch this scene. Do you know, like you do with the dream sequence? You go straight from 2 into 3. And Nick said, I love this scene. It's such a good lead into what's to come. Colin is down bad in love, but knowing that Pen is keeping something from him, while Pen is all angst and tension. It's a good opening, albeit to a stressful episode.
That's interesting. I feel like this scene, to me, if I had to weigh this against the band's sequence, which I think is so much more romantic in their dance there, I prefer that scene. But I feel like this scene works better. It makes me more comfortable because there's a little bit of light humor in it. Whereas later in the church where she's telling him that she loves him, but she's deceiving him at the same time, that's deeply, deeply uncomfortable, as beautiful as their dance following that moment is. Where this moment is, she's deceiving him, but it's again not the right time to tell him. They literally have a witness in the room. Do you know what I mean? So she gets another pass from me here. Also, I just love the comedy value that Portia brings to the scene.
Well, Moon Pie said that this is one of their favourite sequences, and the only improvement they would offer is perhaps a tiny little cheek or forehead kiss. Why no cheek kisses? Portia wouldn't mind.
Would she look the other way?
I agree, because although there is a lot of humour in this scene, I think they could have played it up a little bit more. And I think as a criticism of the whole episode, I would say the same. I think it sometimes leans so deeply into pure, earnest love scenes of these gorgeous scenes. It kind of suffocates you because you're like, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. Where if there was a little bit more humour and lightness, it'd sort of let you breathe a little bit more.
I think Luke has even given an interview where he describes Colin as a bit of a rule breaker.
Yep.
So we could have seen some rule breaking from Colin here, where he maybe snuck a kiss or did something just a little bit scandalous to remind us of that aspect of Polin's relationship, where they're also very sweet, but they also have this passion, and they're also really playful about their passion for each other.
I would have loved them to be trying to, it would totally change the tone of the scene and the setup or whatever, but I'd have loved this sequence to be them like all over each other, trying desperately to like hook up with each other.
We get like little hints of that because Nicola is literally like leaning into him at like a 90 degree as he's speaking. Her eyes are constantly flicking down to Colin's lips in this scene.
Hands, surely.
And hands. Both. But yeah, they could have leaned into that a little more.
However, some people find it is a little bit too overshadowed, as sweet as it is. For example, Purple Cat says, Pen lies to Colin by omission a lot in episode 5.
Yeah.
But episode 6 is where she directly lies to his face, and I hate it. I love Pen, and I totally understand how she got swept away in the craziness of episode 5. But saying she's writing letters feels so horrible. I hate her directly lying to Colin.
I do too, but I don't hate this one as much as the one in the church, because she gets an opportunity to tell them when they're alone, and instead she's like, I've loved you forever. And it also spoils the love confession for me. We'll get back to it.
Yeah, but it is an overt lie, isn't it? And the thing is, we don't see, and we have a question about this later, but a lot of weeks pass in this episode. Like a lot of time passes that we don't really see. And it's like, what have they been doing? Are they hooking up with each other? Are they being this sweet? Is Pen just continually running out of opportunities to tell him?
Also, they're in a church. Perfect opportunity to bare your soul. Anyway, sorry, we'll get there.
Well, if you remember back in the day when we were talking about what the scene could be in the church, I was like, I want the pastor to be making like at hellfire and brimstone, lying is an evil, deceiving will leave you to your doom.
We have to watch Cold Comfort Farm at some point because Ian McKellen plays a fire and brimstone preacher like that, like, Rah! And then all the people in the pews are like trembling and like shaking because he's telling them they're going to hell.
And Pen's like, oh my God, I'm going to hell.
Great movie. Highly recommend it.
We'll add it to the list. So, Purple Cat, I feel you. And you know what? In previous watches of the episode, I've really struggled with this scene. I think, again, trying to go into it a little bit more sympathetically, I do see Pen's perspective a bit. It's awful blatantly lying to him, isn't it? But, you know, I lie all the time. So we've all been there, Pen.
No, we have not all been there. No, sorry.
Lucky is like the most honest person you've ever met.
Earlier this episode, you were like, oh, I'm going to give Penelope more of a pass. She does not get a pass for this. Sorry. Continue.
Colin hotfoots it out. He's off. Oh, no, we've done that. He's already left, hasn't he? Colin's gone. Our listener Late concludes the scene by saying, what a wonderful scene it is until Pen returns to her bedroom and leans against the bedroom door. Here we get a wonderful juxtaposition of the engagement ring sitting on her ink-stained hand as she clutches her hand and looks to her right at the bed where she's been drafting Whistledown. She looks to her left at the window where Bridgerton house stands, past the mirror that is facing away from her, symbolising she isn't yet ready to face the reality of what she has to do, and then to the middle of the room, symbolising her inner conflict and the inability to deal with the quandary she's found herself in. And I agree, I think That moment of Pen gasping at the sight of the ring in her bedroom when she shuts the door behind her is heartbreakingly beautiful, because you do feel the impossible weight of the position that she's found herself in that moment.
Yeah, and like Late said, I also really love how she looks towards her bed where her unfinished draft of Lady Whistledown is, before again her gaze drifts to the window thinking of Colin. She's literally torn between those two worlds, and the script reinforces that by saying that Penelope's stomach churns over an impossible choice between Colin and Lady Whistledown.
Wasn't that a lovely scene, Lecky? And after a sight of that all-too-cheerful Bridgerton tree, we're off to pay a visit to the Cowper's house. How nice.
Where we find Cressida contemplating the impossible task of being Lady Whistledown and perhaps living with sheep.
Yep, it appears her father is less than thrilled over the Whistledown stunt the night before. I wonder who told them. Did she tell them when she went home? Or did he just find out in the street? More likely. But it turns out that Lord Greer isn't into gossip writers, and so has rescinded his offer of marriage. Cressida is thrilled at the news, but Daddy Cowps is not best pleased with her reaction. He's like, this is nothing to laugh at. But it kind of is, because, I mean, at the end of the day, she does get out of it, doesn't she? So tick that off the list.
I think we're supposed to be celebrating with her in this moment. So yeah, it makes sense.
Jess Madsen told the Bridgerton podcast about Cressida's mindset in this whole episode, really. She said she's living in survival mode. She's like, what can I grab onto? And I think she has that innocence and naivety that she can just have what she wants, even though she hasn't got what she's wanted before. She doesn't have that reality check. And so when considering the implications it has on her father and her family, Jess continued, she's got no idea. That's the naivety I do love about her and playing her as a character. So Jess really wanted to bring up the fact that she's a young woman at the end of the day who is doing her best in a difficult world, but she does have this innate naivety about things working out, and she's kind of got herself into a really sticky pickle now.
Cressida's journey is kind of similar to Penelope's in that way. They're both kind of caught in a lie they cannot seem to get out of. And you could even argue that Pen also thinks she can work her way out of it, even though it really doesn't seem clear exactly just how she can do that. Anywho, Lord Cowper declares to a distraught Cressida that she can write gossip about the sheep from her new home in Wales. Perhaps more proof of why Cressida and Eloise were actually such good friends in the first place, both not remotely interested in befriending sheep.
A shame, really. But it is funny to see how horrified Cressida is at the idea of going to Wales. I mean, Wales is lovely.
Yeah, it's probably very green. She just doesn't want to go there because there's probably not much of a social scene if her only company is sheep.
Get Eloise's perspective. She wants to see the world, and see it she will.
Right, yes.
But the good thing is, no matter what happens to Cressida for the rest of this season, she does manage to avoid her worst fate. So we can only but cheer for that.
And Lady Cowper reveals that she doesn't believe Cressida could be Lady Whistledown, citing the fact that she's not clever enough. She encourages Cressida to retract her statement, happily ready to blame Violet and Kate for plying her with too much wine the night before. I really feel for Cressida in the scene as her mother insults her intelligence, especially as we've mentioned throughout the season that we do see signs of her cleverness. And the Queen does this later as well. This might be what motivates her to try to commit to her fake identity as Lady Whistledown, as these people keep diminishing her intelligence, insulting her intelligence, when actually she's not that dumb. She's not necessarily a good writer, but she is good at noticing things, and she picks up on things that a lot of other people in the town do not.
And especially when Eloise basically insinuated the same thing the night before at the party.
Yeah, Eloise did the same thing the night before. I feel like this also is why like Cressida is such a great foil for Penelope, and that they're both overlooked, and they are smarter and cleverer and more interesting than everyone else believes them to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, just because you can't write doesn't mean you can't do other things. But there is no time to dwell, Lecky, because the royal footmen enter the room. It looks as though the Queen is summoning her supposed gossip writer. Good luck on that, Chris, I guess.
Over at the Kent estate, the Mondriches kids play a Trojan horse game, and I can't help but wonder if this darkly funny symbolism is tied to Pen, who has kind of smuggled the enemy herself into the Bridgerton household and will later be revealed.
Or maybe it's Cressida being the Trojan horse.
Oh, maybe. Or both. Both. I feel like there's so many parallels between the two women in part two.
If there's one thing I know about the Trojan horse, there was room for plenty of people in there. So come on in.
2 for 1. 2 for 1.
Jump on in.
Anyway, the Mondriches share their happy news with Lady Danbury, revealing they've decided to sell Will's club. Luckily, Lady Danbury mentions that Queen Charlotte's ire is currently directed elsewhere. Wonder what that is all about. Before suggesting they draw positive attention to themselves by throwing a ball. Lady Danbury says that if you want to win the game, you must lead it. Otherwise, you will always be on the defensive. And we see echoes of this in Pen's storyline over the next few episodes, where she's left on the defensive, reacting to events unfolding around her until she decides to take charge of her own story.
And I suppose this scene sets up the parallel with Will and Pen, doesn't it? With both of them preparing themselves to give up on things that they not only love, that makes them feel most themselves. Was it that cut moment from last episode where Will was like, well, actually, I don't like being on display in a ton, and I didn't like that about being a boxer.
Yeah.
And working in the bar is the one thing that makes me feel like myself. And it's like, stop. Forget that.
I still don't understand this because he's happy to give up the bar, even in that cutscene. And in this scene, you see him smiling when Lady Danbury praises him for giving up the bar. I don't understand this storyline. I don't necessarily like it all that much, but we move on. There was also a cut line here after Will admits that they do have a way with entertaining. Lady Danbury originally said that she had a few friends she wanted to invite to the ball, and the scene description said she was up to something. I think this was a reference to the running gag that we see later this episode about her throwing various widows in Marcus's path to discourage him from pursuing Violet.
Well, Lady Danbury, you might think you've got a Vicus diversion tactic on your sleeve, but Lady Danbury says if you want to win the game, you must lead it. And you know what? She's falling far, far behind when it actually comes to Vicus, because Lord Vicus already in Violet's place, isn't he?
Lord Vicus. I love that.
Is that what I called him?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's fun.
And what's hilarious is when I was looking at our initial reactions to when we first watched the episode, I was like, this is boring. I'm sick of this now. Why is this taking up so much time? And now I'm like here defending them, being like, you say a bad word about Vicus and I'll come for you, your bloodline. Let's go to Bridgerton House then and see what's happening. I think that shot of her, such a side thingy, but that shot of her,
She's so beautiful.
she like floats through the hallway. Do you know what I mean?
I love her dress and I love her expressions in this scene. It's just like that sweet moment when you're first seeing like your crush, and it's just so cute. It's cute.
I think that's what Billy Woodruff does really well. It's these sort of like floaty moments. Do you know what I mean? That he just sort of captures and like plays with light. It's so lovely. Because she's going to greet a caller who happens to be one Marcus Anderson. Lord Vicus apparently is now called. Did you notice that he was actually fiddling with some of her stuff on the side?
He's like turned around. I didn't realize he was fiddling with something. I did wonder what he was doing. Is he snooping?
He's snooping. Well, no, I'd say he is. He's doing what Colin did in season 2, where he's just visiting his future home. He's just a little bit early, you know?
Here's a headcanon. That's where they keep all their calling cards, and he's like rifling through it to make sure like no one else has been there to see Violet.
Who the fuck's been here?
He's invested.
Well, do you know what he actually is fiddling with?
What?
Seashells.
Are you serious?
Colin's seashells. I think so. We'll have to watch this.
But Violet has her own seashells, so like he must be really into the decor.
Where do you think she got seashells from?
Well, she had them before he came back from his travels. She's always had seashells around the house.
Where is she getting seashells from?
I think that she's always been a collector of seashells and that Colin picks that up.
Do you think that's why Colin got inspired to travel?
Yes, he is a mama's boy. Because I think they've had seashells all along. I will go back to season 1 and check, but I think there's some seashells.
He's like, my mum likes seashells. I'm going to go travel and get her seashells from across the world.
Yeah, I'll bring back a trunk full for my mom. Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Editor's note, seashells were seen in season 1.
But it turns out that Marcus conveniently left his house at Violet's place the night before. House?
His hat.
Hat. What did I say?
House.
His house.
He does want to move in. You're right.
But it turns out Marcus conveniently left his hut over at Violet's place the night before. How scandalous, Lecky. The two have a little flirt, as Marcus admits he could have just sent a footman, but that he really just wanted an excuse to come and see Violet. After all, it was quite a night, was it not?
I really like this because it's almost like another little Cinderella callback and another little Benefi foreshadowing. Because if you remember from episode 3 when she drops her glove and he picks it up, this is like another little like Cinderella moment where he's like, oh, I left behind my hat to keep me on your mind.
So sweet.
But it was quite a night, and Violet, in fact, took note of the chilly atmosphere between Lady Danbury and Marcus the night before, and we learned that the root of their fractured relationship was childhood grievances that have a way of lingering. Marcus decides to leave Violet to nurse her hangover from the night before. She's not the only one who will have a hangover this episode, but Marcus looks forward to seeing her soon. Cute. Meanwhile, we get about 10 seconds of an instrumental cover while Ben, Hai, and Greg are fighting over the Latteray macarons, with Gregory commandeering 3 banana and, most contentiously of all, the coveted final chocolate macaron.
You know how I feel about banana flavoured. I would want nothing to do with that.
I love banana.
You can have them. Have 3. Knock yourself out, babe.
You would be fighting over the chocolate.
I'd be fighting over anything that isn't the banana. Yeah, that thunder instrumental, I mean, it kind of comes back at the end of the scene, doesn't it?
I tried to count it. It's literally like somewhere between 15 to 20 seconds. I really don't get it. I feel like one of the things that Bridgerton does really well is they create these moments for these instrumental covers where it really just fills in the world and creates a really atmospheric Regency fantasy world. And when it's used sometimes in season 3, like in moments like this, I don't really understand the purpose of it. It almost feels like, oh, we needed some music here. I think I would have preferred if they just gave us some beautiful Chris Bowers background family theme music instead of putting in a cover that I just don't feel like this is a big enough moment for a cover. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Chris Bowers could have captured that Violet Marcus moment a little, you know, with his existing score, which is so beautiful.
This is almost more frustrating to me than when they used Dynamite for just a couple seconds back in episode 2, because that at least is a ball, and I just wish we'd seen more of the ball during the instrumental cover, because those are great moments for those sweeping musical scores. Whereas this family moment is like so contained and small, I just don't feel like this was maybe the right place for a cover. Anyway.
What is going on with that chocolate macaron?
A lot of this dialogue, interestingly, between the siblings, I think was ad-libbed, which just goes to show how well these actors really know their characters and how great they are at really selling that family dynamic, making it seem believable to us as viewers. And we've always loved the family scenes in the show, and this certainly is no exception.
And our listener, Late, also commented on Ben acting really kind of childish.
He does.
He's not only like babysitting the younger kids, which sometimes they do, they like hang out and play with them, but he is on their level. Whereas you have Colin, who is being a little bit more mature, and then Fran's getting engaged on the side. And it's that reminder again that he definitely wasn't ready for this to be his season.
In fact, I mentioned this to Obs earlier this morning, but when they go to congratulate Frohn, Benedict takes the box of the macarons with him. He refuses to put it down in case one of the other siblings snatches it up.
Lecky, where is Colin?
Colin enters the room and makes a beeline for the biscuits. Sorry, Edmund.
Rest in peace.
And he also cutely hesitates before leaving the biscuits, clearly contemplating whether to grab more food.
He's like distraught. He's got like a little tart or something in his hands, and he's gazing over them longingly like, I'll come back to you, my love.
Yeah. So much growth from the episode 4 scene where he had the sandwich on his desk but wasn't touching it.
Thank God.
Now he's like debating whether or not he can actually leave the food.
Yeah, and his little dream where he was like, I cannot eat. Well, he's fine. He's got an appetite back.
He's good.
Vigorous activities are happening on the side. So a man needs his strength. And I have to say, I think he looks lovely in this scene. His swoopy hair. He's like so neat and gentlemanly.
He's very gentlemanly this entire episode as well.
As Frohn observed the chaos of the family, full-on warfare breaks out between the siblings and Violet as they all get sucked into the battle of the chocolate macaron. Even Eloise, who's caught up with Colin, she even gets involved.
She's very concerned about Colin ever since he walks into the room, but she still can't resist laughing at her siblings' antics because it's just ridiculous. Anyway.
And I like the way it's shot because we see them from afar, from John and Fran's perspective, which is a complete contrast to that peaceful, quiet Frohn are holding in that separate part of the room. And Fran is eager for them to announce their own news, but John is convinced that they're so engrossed in their squabble that no one's going to hear what he says. Yeah. And it's that reminder as well that Fran exists outside of her family, but she does understand them. But maybe their relationship doesn't fold as naturally into the existing family dynamics as Violet perhaps would hope.
But there's also more tragic John foreshadowing in this scene as John shows Fran how impossible it will be for the Bridgertons to take notice of him, even if he does interrupt. He turns and shouts, as much as John can shout, "Excuse me, I've been taken ill of the plague and you are all doomed by association."
As predicted, the Bridgertons don't even look in his direction. Let's hope they take a little bit more notice when John is one day taken ill on a pretty permanent basis, I would say.
Aw, bleak. Interestingly, amongst all the chaos, the scene description notes that Elle is planning to confront Colin in the scene as we touched on earlier. She straightens as Colin enters the room and grabs a pastry. We all know he's a hungry boy. And Elle considers how to approach him. Just before Frohn announced their engagement, Elle is just about to go over to Colin as well, but she is then cut off by Fran. And if you aren't tired of announcements by now, Fran then takes this opportunity to announce that John is going to announce their engagement. It's an announcement of an announcement. Haven't we had enough of those? Anyway, although she often feels an outsider from her family, she does know exactly how to handle them and get them to be quiet for at least 2 seconds here.
Family, thank you. John has a small announcement to make on our behalf.
And then he says, very small indeed. We are to marry.
Maybe not quite as dramatic as Colin's, we are engaged. But it gets the sentiment across nonetheless.
In an editing error, Claudia reacts to the engagement news twice as well, both before and after Fran breaks the news.
Maybe she's just so shocked at the announcement of an announcement.
She's glitched.
The announcement that John is going to speak. And I would like it officially on the record that Colin is the first to jump up to congratulate them.
He is. Oh, he loves love. We love Colin.
There is absolutely no resentment at all on the fact that they've kind of jumped in a little bit on the engagement celebrations.
Oh, he just loves love. He doesn't care.
Yeah, it's just genuine genuine happiness for them both. As you say, Lek, he loves love, and that boy has never met a wedding he doesn't love.
It's true.
Except perhaps maybe the end of his own.
That's right.
Slightly unfortunate. What can you do? Although, Lucky, can I ask you?
Yeah.
Why on earth does Ben look so shocked at the news of the Frohn engagement? If you watch him, he's like looking around at everyone else like, what? Did you see this coming? Did you see this coming?
Yeah, I feel like this is very book Ben of him, of not being able to see what's right in front of him.
I understand being surprised about Pen and Colin, right? I can understand maybe you didn't see that coming after, God knows how many years of friendship.
Yeah.
But like, Frohn have been openly courting for what feels like forever. She's literally hanging out with him on the other side of the room all the time.
The entire party the night before. Yeah.
What are we doing here, Ben? What are we doing?
Yeah.
We cannot be that shocked. Every day I question this man's observational skills more and more. And to that I can only say, good luck, Sophie. Let's hope that 8 episodes are enough, yeah?
For him to realize we're going to need a 2-parter season for this one.
Go for it.
Eloise also pulls her sister close and asks if she can come visit.
Aww.
If you remember from her conversation with Kate last episode, Elle has been feeling more and more left behind by those in her life. Now she's also losing her sister to marriage, and I think you can see Claudia portray this moment in a really beautiful way, both happy and a little sad.
Oh, just another one bites the dust. And Benedict, like you say, Lecky, he's not letting that macaron box go. Also decides that John can be the one to have that final macaron, which I think is sweet because it like shows that he immediately sees him as a sibling as much as Greg and Hyacinth. They're just like, we're family now. Absolutely we are.
Yeah. And you feel like that later in the scene at Will's bar, that he's really been accepted by them as like a brother.
They are good at that as siblings. Just like, sure, absolutely, why not? Let's have more and more of them.
And of course, we also have to mention the way Colin smiles when Hy says that Fran will be just as beautiful a bride as the other Bridgerton ladies, including his bride-to-be, Penelope. So sweet.
Yeah, but you can see him prep himself to defend Pen's honour.
Yeah. Like his eyebrows kind of raise, he straightens a little bit.
He's like, I've heard Daphne, I've heard Kate. The next word out your mouth.
He kind of like relaxes into a smile. So I see what you're talking about. Yeah, for sure.
It's so cute. And again, that shows how quickly the siblings are to fully embrace. Like, Pen isn't even married into the family. And Hyacinth is like, that's my sister.
Yeah.
And Vi announces that she is so pleased as they make a beautiful pair. Whatever you say, Violet.
She kind of waffles on this, but the sentiment is appreciated in this moment for sure.
I suppose the family's reaction is similar enough to how they acted with the Polin announcement, that Fran hasn't quite realised that her mother definitely does have a couple of reservations about it. Like, because of the family chaos, it's kind of similar to the Polin thing. So she doesn't feel treated as differently.
Violet runs over there and sweeps her up in an embrace, and it's very warm, like you said. Yeah.
Gregory doesn't storm out this time. It's great.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's okay with this one. And the script then notes that we see Eloise eyeing Colin as he takes in the genuine affection between Frohn. She sees that he's truly happy at the moment, and it complicates her approach to speaking with him. She was ready to tell him the truth last night, but perhaps it isn't as easy to do so anymore. A little later in the day, we find Colin editing his writing in his study.
And how is he looking, Veg?
When we next see Colin, he's had an outfit change, or rather an outfit ruffling. He is dejacketed and has unbuttoned and loosened his cravat, revealing a waistcoat we've seen a few times before, including in this very room. It's a favour of his. His hair is also a little more ruffled, suggesting he may have been running his hands through it.
The script goes on to say that Colin is struggling with a case of writer's block as he sits trying to work on his manuscript. He doesn't gain the certainty he needs to resume writing until Pen admits her love for him later this episode, but that's something we will return to later. It might look like he's busy editing now in the scene, but if you look closely, it's actually the same section of writing that he seems to be writing and rewriting over and over again, so he's not making much progress.
Like, can we pull a little Penelope and snoop at what he's writing?
Yeah, well, he seems to be taking in the sights with another woman, possibly the Contessa, or at least watching another woman take in their surroundings. He says the woman's open curiosity reminds him of someone. Penelope, perhaps? In fact, this little detail kind of reminded me of Penelope back at her presentation in season 1, the way she looked around the room in wonder. He also writes about qualities that his siblings possess, and interestingly, he also writes about longing for the familiar in the company of his family, a sad reminder of how lonely he felt on his recent travels, especially without Penelope's letters.
And Scribble Vinyl pointed out, I hate that I see the inconsistencies, but the close-up shot of the hand that's writing is right-handed, and the other shots often show Colin holding the quill in his left hand.
Oh.
I will just say, that boy is ambidextrous. I think we've seen ample evidence of this. I think we know from the carriage scene he knows how to use his right hand. So I personally don't have any concerns. I like the headcanon that Colin is left-handed, but it wasn't as accepted back then. And so he's like learned how to be right-handed as well.
Yeah. Eloise then enters the room, joking about the chocolate macaron, which Colin sadly did not get to eat. But Colin cuts through with a direct question, did you know she was Lady Whistledown? Without saying exactly who she is, Eloise is caught off guard, wondering if Penelope really did confess. Of course, the scene is once again written so that Pen and Cressida are interchangeable, giving just enough space for Eloise to avoid actually lying to Colin, but certainly she's not telling him the truth either.
Very convenient. I do think that Claudia Jessie plays this moment really beautifully. I think you really do feel that she is caught between a genuine love and protection for Penelope, even after all the hurt, and then also a love and protection of her brother. In episode 5, I think she was so caught up thinking that Colin like had to know the truth like immediately. Do you know that typical Eloise thing where she just doesn't really think things through? So she's like, you have to tell him now because you have to. Whereas now I think she's had that time to pause and almost kill Pen and think, and now that she's actually living with it, she's seeing how happy her brother is. Like that moment with Frohn where he's so caught up in that happiness and she doesn't want to be the one to take that away from him.
Yeah.
And so realizing that the answer isn't as simple as just tell him because he has to know. She sees how much hurt this is going to cause him and she wants to protect him from that. And so I feel like it's in this moment that perhaps she begins to understand Penelope's perspective a little bit more. The thing that sometimes you can make really difficult decisions out of love and not just self-preservation. And sometimes choosing something really hard to do is because you're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I feel like we see a lot of growth from Eloise over these 2 episodes.
I think there's some slight regression later in the episode, I have to say.
Well, I mean, like, I just feel like she's been pressuring Penelope to confess. Now she realizes that could harm Colin. She makes the wrong decision by telling Penelope to then withhold her secret. But we see some growth from her in that she realizes that inserting herself into the equation just to relieve her own guilt isn't necessarily the best thing for everyone involved. And she does kind of make the situation worse.
I think her arc with Pen is really good in this episode.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
She finally gets the perspective, you know, it's taken her a year to do so, of what it is like and where Pen's come from. I think where she loses me, which we will get to, is anything with Cressida.
No, I agree. She's cruel, to bring back the word cruel. She is cruel with Cressida in a way that I feel like isn't motivated enough.
The moment outside the church where she kind of forgets that Cressida isn't Whistledown. She's like, what about what you wrote about me last season? I'm like, it wasn't her.
Yeah, we'll get to it, but there's literally a moment in this scene description where she's like, yeah, I'm just going to use this as an excuse, but she's so over the friendship. But I don't realize why she's so over the friendship, because Cressida really hasn't done anything but just tried to find a way out of her marriage with Lord Greer. She really hasn't done anything wrong yet. Anyway, Eloise confirms that the writing is on the wall for her friendship with Cressida, which Colin is pleased to hear, especially after all Cressida has written about the family. So he thinks. Another dagger for you there, Fedge. Eloise also knows that Colin has been angry with Lady Whistledown and tries to gauge what his reaction is going to be. Although Colin should like to march to her house with a pitchfork, he confesses he has been softened by his love for Penelope and how quickly one person can become all that matters. His only concern now is her well-being.
Oh, and how does that hit Elle?
The scene description for this moment reads, Eloise thinks a moment, taking in Colin's sincere emotion.
So it genuinely does hit her.
She realizes the love is real here.
Yeah, it's that maturity that she's had now. She's out that initial shock of, oh my God, my best friend and my brother. These two people really love each other, and this is gonna really hurt him. And maybe the way out isn't as simple as we'll just tell him the truth, because like she is really reflective on how much it hurt her, but then how long it's taken her to get back to Pen as well. And she doesn't want to inflict that on Colin. Our listener late reflects on this, saying what convinces Elle not to tell him, because again, she has the opportunity to tell him. Last night she was ready to do it straight away.
And now they're alone, yeah.
But it's the realization of how angry Colin would be that she kept the secret from him for a long time. Is her response selfish or simply enlightened? Does she end up manipulating Pen into letting Cressida take the credit, or has she had an epiphany? Here in this moment, I think it is a genuine moment from Elle. I think she is genuinely trying to find the right thing to do.
Yeah, I don't think this is a selfish moment.
I think she maybe has selfish moments elsewhere where it's convenient for her certain things to happen. But her perspective is, if Colin's happiness is entwined with Penelope's well-being and their shared future, then perhaps keeping the secret is the kindest thing for both of the people that she loves.
Yeah, I agree.
And she thinks, maybe I can make Lady Whistledown go away, and maybe that'll solve everything. Maybe you can just make it go. Once again, she has to twist her words to avoid directly lying to Colin. She says she's going going to speak with the scribe herself. I suppose no need to get too specific on who that is. That's quite handy. And Colin's little happy smile is heartbreaking as Elle tries to return it. You can see she's weighed down by it, right? Mm-hmm. And you can see that in this moment, she's acting out of love for both of them. But she's got places to be, so let's get going across the square, shall we? Okay, look at that. We have a veg and a beans back in action. Hello, both of you again.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hi.
To get you up to speed, episode has started. Lecky and I spent a long time talking about God knows what.
Perfect. The first couple minutes.
It was like 2 hours long.
It's fine. It's whatever.
We literally covered the tree speaking to Colin about the ring.
Right. Cute.
And Colin writing in his study.
Yeah.
But now, back at Pen's house, we've got a visitor. Who is it this time, Lecky?
Well, the scene description for this scene reads, crumpled papers surround a now exhausted Pen, who's still trying to formulate her response to Cressida. Only a few words visible, which are
Liar, fraud, charlatan.
A knock then jolts her, and she stuffs her column away before Eloise walks in, and after an awkward beat, Pen blurts out,
I was going to tell him. Sure, Pen.
Yeah.
Whatever you say, babe.
This draft of Lady Whistledown can actually be read in more detail in a still that was released, and reads as follows.
In case this author has not said it plainly enough, read this clearly now. Cressida Cowper is a liar, a fraud, a charlatan. Perhaps this is too plain, but how else does one describe a person who will take every opportunity there is to get one over on someone else? For, when it comes to Miss Cowper, if there is a lie to tell, she will tell it. If there is a scheme to unfold, she will unfold it. If there is a web of deceit to weave, she will weave it. Perhaps the best piece of information this author has ever shared with the Ton is the truth about Miss Cowper. She deserves to be exposed, and every member of the Ton should be spared from this entrapment of her web. Interesting wording there, Pen. If you are reading this, Miss Cowper, know that involving this author in your schemes is the bridge too far. That shall lead you right over, and then it's abruptly cut off.
As Eloise enters the room, notice how Penelope is perfectly reflected in the mirror, caught very much in the Whistledown act. Pen panics, thinking Elle is about to have another go at her for not telling Colin. I was going to tell him, she begins, as Elle walks in with an unreadable expression. She sort of like plays the long game for a second there and goes, but you did not, with a touch of coldness that again lets Pen think she's due for another confrontation. Then Elle melts onto the bed and confesses, and when the time came, neither did I, because I see now that the truth would destroy Colin. Yikes. Another jab for you there, Veg. We've been keeping count for you.
Yeah, love.
Bodes well for the end of the episode. But a frantic Pen assures Elle that she does still plan to tell Colin, but Eloise stops her.
And to that, I have to say, bloody hell, make your mind up, Elle.
Yeah.
Literally the night before, she was like, TikTok bitch. And now she's like, can we just
take it to the grave? You almost did last night, actually, so fair enough.
Oh, but Elle has decided that Colin does truly love Pen, after all, even without knowing the truth. And finding out everything, including the fact, conveniently, that Elle has kept it from him too, is going to cause too much pain and too much damage. And for Elle, she's found that there is a way out of this. It turns out there's no need to tell him all if Pen just stops writing. We have the shot looking at Penelope where she's surrounded by her writing in her room, a reminder that this is the one thing in her life that makes her feel like she's had a voice. It's given her a sense of self. And here, when Eloise is telling her to stop, it just reminds us of how impossible it is for Penelope to stop. She's literally been there frantically writing all day. It's not just a hobby or a trick, it's her world and her life. And Pen says that. She says, I cannot stop. And she literally means it because, as we say, she's frantic with words pouring out of her, scattered all around.
Elle insists that she can give it up because she now has the perfect escape. Interestingly, this is very similar to the conversation that Colin and Penelope have in the book Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, when Colin was similarly trying to convince Penelope that she had a good excuse to stop writing. Just like book Penelope, our show Pen is horrified at the idea of letting Cressida Cowper, of all people, take credit for Lady Whistledown. In fact, Penelope then says, it would break my heart, a line that stems directly from the book and ultimately ends up being book Penelope's undoing. But as Eloise here counters, what about Colin's heart?
Good. And this is the thing, it's not that Pen doesn't care about Colin's feelings, far from it, but it's like we were talking about earlier, Lecky. Cressida taking credit has cut so close to the bone for Penelope that she not only cannot let it stand, but it's kind of all she's got her focus on as well. It's completely consumed her.
Yeah.
And as she says, Lady Whistledown is my name, not hers. But Eloise counters that her name is about to be Bridgerton, and she cannot be both. Penelope admits that all she wanted was to be part of Eloise's family, which is a truth that we've always seen with Penelope.
And Eloise tells her, it is just gossip. Let it go.
No problem. Done. Sorted. Sorry about that. I hadn't realised that, Elle.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eloise tells her, it is just gossip, let it go. And this kind of moves us towards Pen's realization at the end of the episode that Whistledown is power. There's also some cut dialogue from Elle at the end of this scene, where after she says, and there was a time I would have given anything to know Lady Whistledown, she originally said, the irony of it all is truly Shakespearean. And then before she said, you had a good run for a while, she said, although I do believe you lost your way.
I don't think she's... Do you think she's lost her way?
No, I don't think she has, and I think that's why they cut that.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But as Eloise leaves, Pen is left looking at her quill between her ink-covered fingers. As the script says, she's taking in Elle's words, just gossip.
Well, guys, our listeners definitely had a lot of questions about this scene. So Tote said, I'd be interested to know what you make of Eloise's motivation to tell Penelope to just let Cressida take the credit for the column. We all know that real life is where idealism goes to die, but this does show a complete departure from Eloise's opinions expressed about women and their capabilities, in spite of the difficulties departing from their patriarchal society's expectations. So does her sisterly love of Colin trump Eloise's feminism, or is it perhaps a little jealousy, or some combination of both? If jealousy is a part of the equation, is it similar to the jealousy, envy that Colin feels about Lady Whistledown and Penelope? That is she jealous that Lady Whistledown has taken Penelope from her, and or that Penelope has achieved a level of success with Lady Whistledown beyond what Eloise can expect for herself?
I don't think...
What a question.
I don't think that she's jealous of Penelope anymore.
At this point, yeah.
And I think we cover that during her scene
Because
with...
they kept that one all for Colin.
with Cressida.
Yeah.
She acknowledges later on in this episode that she was jealous, but I don't think that's motivating her decision to tell Penelope to keep quiet now.
Yeah.
That's how I feel too.
I think with Elle, it might be one of those situations where we know that Eloise has all these ideals about feminism and what would be feminism and women doing independent things and having sort of independent means of thought, but we've never seen her really be able to translate that fully into practice. And so when she's confronted with someone who has put it actually into practice, she can't quite grasp it in the same way that the idealism can. And I think that's what's going to be part of her own storyline in future seasons, in her coming into herself, is her recognizing that, you know, it's like what Pen said last year, all you do is talk. I've actually done something. So I think Eloise really struggles with seeing the reality of it, because reality is messy and difficult and isn't overwhelmingly empowering.
And that women being empowered can look very differently to each person.
Yeah.
Right.
And Eloise is panicking. I think this is one of the reasons that Pen has not really got her involved before, because she can make impulsive decisions that don't always pan out. And right now she is in the panic set of, oh my God, this is an easy way out. It solves all the problems, not thinking about the long-term impact of that.
Right.
Which we kind of see reversed at the end of the episode, where Eloise does the opposite, where she's like, oh my God, you have to write and you have to do it right this very second.
Yeah.
It's the only solution out of this. So I think she just sees a very messy situation and she thinks that there's a very straightforward solution. And she's not really listening to the fact that although it's a get out of jail quick card, it's Pen's entire life that you're dismantling.
Right.
I don't think she's doing it intentionally.
I also think she takes in the information that she has and makes very snap decisions because of it. Because in the scene just before this, Colin says that Penelope's happiness is the only thing he cares about. And then here she's like, okay, well, just give it up. We want to keep Colin happy and he wants you to be happy. So maybe this is the best decision for everybody, for you to remain quiet.
Right. And I think Eloise also really struggles with, as we mentioned, like sweeping things under the rug. You know, she's very much like, I want my empowerment, but I don't necessarily want the actions that transpire from that. Like, I don't want the consequences of those said actions to then happen. Like, I just want it to be okay that I've made this decision. And that's basically how Eloise has lived her life. When she's gotten in trouble before, it's been swept under the rug because of her status and who she is within society.
And Pen.
And she has shown signs of being open to actually doing more things. Like she did do a lot of the reading and the stuff that Theo introduced her to last season. So I think they'll probably build on that.
Yeah, she's just young and...
She is.
And this thing, there is no right answer. There is no easy option.
Yeah. And she's had things fixed for her. And this is kind of like she's trying to figure out how to fix it all at once and is like getting just overwhelmed. I don't really think it comes from a place of jealousy at all.
And this helps her gain so much empathy for Penelope, especially in this episode, because she has first-hand experience now of what it actually is to be in that position and to have to make difficult decisions. And that's kind of the resolution they reach together at the end, where they're like, we have to write this, we have to put it out.
Yeah.
Scribble Vinyl said, I hate that Eloise suggests that Pen leave her Lady Whistledown persona to become a Bridgerton. I know she's hurt, but it's cruel for her to suggest that Penelope let Cressida take credit for the work she did, especially because Elle knows that Cressida bullies Pen. And Illustration said, do you think the only reason Pen stopped trying to tell Colin about Whistledown was Eloise, or would she not tell him anyway, even if Eloise hadn't said anything?
So to answer the second one, I think Pen was getting scareder and scareder
Yeah.
the more intense things got. So I think it became
Yes.
harder as time went on, and she missed all those opportunities that we highlighted. So
Yeah.
I think, I'm sure, she just sort of took what Eloise said as,
Yeah, it's like a reason not to tell him, okay, yeah, I'm on board.
yeah.
Rather than it being sort of plotted out.
Yeah.
As for the other bits, I think, we've touched on Eloise and sort of why she said that. But that Cressida bullying Pen thing, I wish we'd looked at that more in the season.
Get it under the microscope.
Yeah.
So one of our listeners, Kate, asked a similar question, which I think we will revisit later, but Kate touched on how Eloise and Portia's comments this episode kind of influence Pen's behavior.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons she decides to keep quiet ultimately, is that she sees what her mom has risked and sacrificed to keep their entire family safe, and then Eloise is telling her that she can be a Bridgerton and that Colin will be happier if she remains quiet. So I think she just takes the easy route and accepts that what they're telling is the truth and stifles her voice as a result.
Yeah. I think at this point she's still very much conflicted, but those voices echo throughout the episode as she's shaping her decisions.
Exactly.
And she does want him to be happy, and she does know that it will cause pain.
Yeah.
I don't know that Eloise is deliberately being cruel when she's asking Pen to stop.
No.
I think, like we said, that she's just panicked. And she knows that she's been complicit in the situation as well.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to sort of get out of it as a whole as quickly as she can without it being the best way possible. But we'll leave you to ponder on that one, Pen. How's the Queen doing, Lek?
Over at the palace, Brimsley announces that Her Majesty is ready to see Cressida and Lady Cowper. Cut dialogue here also reveals that the Queen made Cressida wait for quite some time, which Lady Cowper speculates is to punish Cressida for provoking her.
You know what, guys? All that time that fans of the show spent wondering, they were like, is the Queen going to chop Pen's head off for being Lady Whistledown? Is she going to exile her forever?
She just made her wait.
And in the end, the most serious punishment she doled out across the whole season was making Lady Whistledown wait in the corridor of a palace for a little bit longer than normal. A harsh sentence.
She made her queue.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cressida is received at Wilton House, where they usually shoot the presentation to the Queen. And I think it's interesting how Cressida is looking around fearfully as she makes her way toward Queen Charlotte, a slight visual parallel to the Penelope we see back in season 1 during her own presentation.
Oh, cute comparison.
Yeah, she's like ghosting in that place, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's literally masquerading in her footsteps.
Yeah.
And Jessica Madsen told the Bridgerton podcast she hasn't thought about any of it. And you see that play out with the scene with Golda, where she thinks she's got this, and then she's like, oh God, I don't got this.
Yeah.
And again, that links to what Jessica said before about Cressida really being in survival mode. She's a little bit like Eloise in that respect, where they don't really think it entirely through.
Yeah.
And now they're just kind of stuck in the situation that they're both in.
And once called before the Queen, and Queen Charlotte reveals that she sees right through Cressida's ruse, declaring, I know Lady Whistledown as well as I know myself. Her greatest strength is that she is an observer. What have you observed in your life other than yourself? Again, I think this is kind of unfair to Cressida, and it draws some interesting parallels between Cressida and Penelope. They're both overlooked in their own ways.
Yeah, and the thing is, Cressida has actually shown time and time again that she's very observant. She showed that in season 1 with Daphne, and literally in 304, she was the one who spoke to Debling about Pen and Colin. She picked it out, was like, look at what's going on. She was watching everyone fall into place. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. She might not be the best writer, but that's not the only form of intelligence she can have. And she clearly is a good observer, so she's just taking strays here.
Yeah. Also, the Queen kind of pokes fun at the Frohn relationship here because she says, without a worthy opponent, I no longer care what mediocre match Miss Francesca chooses to make. Unless you can print a convincing issue, I do not wish to see you in my court again.
Mediocre match. Now, Veg, having paid pilgrimage-ish to the Sterlings,
Yeah.
mediocre match.
Is it nice?
Oh, the castle.
How are the digs?
I would say the gift shop could have been.
Been improved?
Yeah.
You know what? That is actually a breaking point. Oh
Oh my God.
The Queen was right. Sorry, John.
my God, this episode clearly not sponsored by Visit Scotland or by the Kilmartin, the Stirling Castle gift shop.
Anyway, in the hallway afterward, there was also some cut dialogue where Cressida remarked that printing a Lady Whistledown issue would not only win the Queen's favor, but also that the reward money wouldn't hurt if she was cast out of society. Lady Cowper went on to say that £5,000 wouldn't be enough to support Cressida and the lifestyle she's accustomed to. I think this was all cut because it's kind of irrelevant, though Lady Cowper's dialogue slightly foreshadows Cressida's blackmail as she decides to ask for a much greater sum than £5,000 at the end of the season.
Oh my god, how much is it worth?
Today?
Hang on, I'm just getting my cow converter, 1 second.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, how many cows is it?
How many cows? Long-time listeners, you'll know we measure everything in cows.
How many bags of corn?
Are we going 1810 or 1820?
Well, this is 1815.
Oh, so we could go either way.
Right, we'll go 1810. Okay. So in 2017, this is not helpful, but 1810 to 2017,
That works.
£5,000 was worth 232,626 English pounds.
I thought you were going to say cows. I was like, that's quite a lot of cows.
Oh my God. How many cows do you think it was?
Today or back then?
Back then, how many cows could Cressida have bought with her reward money from the Queen?
50.
More cows.
250 cows.
More cows.
I'm going to go for 437.
More cows.
837.
More cows.
1,026.
1,000 cows.
Whoa.
1,000 cows. Huh.
She could have bought 476 horses.
And she decides she needs double that to keep the life she's accustomed to. So
She could have bought 5,555 stones of wool and 878 quarters of wheat.
Wow.
Unless she's celiac.
well, she doesn't need to buy the wool because she's going to be with the sheep. Make her own.
Or she could have paid for the wages of 33,333 days of skilled tradesmen.
Oh, and then she could marry the tradesman.
Well, looks like you've got some writing to do, Cressida, and maybe some sheep to buy, some cows to buy. Off you pop, babe. Over at Bridgerton House, Vi has the mediocre match of the season over for tea, apparently, as Fran and John are there for a spot of wedding planning. Violet wants to host the reception at Bridgerton House, although she concedes that, as an only child, John's mum might prefer the honour. And our listener Sasha said, speaking of, I know it's well established that the Kilmartins are quiet, reserved people who don't enjoy the spectacle of society, but the fact that John's parents sent him to town to find a wife alone is odd, right? I think John's dad is probably dead, is he not?
I thought they were both dead.
He has a mum. Mum confirmed.
Oh, okay.
And Mom hinted to show up in season 4, I think.
Yeah, I think she's been casted.
Can't wait to meet her at the funeral.
I know, it's going to be great. Don't bother coming to the wedding, babe.
Yeah. She only shows up for the important events. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, so it's Janet Sterling, so we'll see you next year.
To answer the question, men had more freedoms back then, so her mom was probably just like, yeah, go off.
Go get a wife.
Yeah.
Do you think John wanted to find a wife? Do you think the impetus came from John or his mum? Do you think he was ready to take a wife? He knew what he wanted when he saw her.
He showed up to a ball, and he
Yeah.
says he doesn't normally go to society events.
Yeah.
So maybe he was looking for a companion.
Maybe his mom, like, quietly suggested, like, oh, it'd be nice to have, like, another female vibe at the house. I don't know why I said it that way.
Female vibe.
Another woman at the house, you know?
Womanly influence.
I mean, Francesca.
Yeah.
Hold the fort down. They're on their way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe some slight pushing. And also, I just feel like, I don't know why, but the Kilmartins just seem all very aloof. They just all seem like, yeah, we're here, we're doing it, we're chill, you know? So.
I kind of like the idea that he came to town looking for a wife and then was pleasantly surprised by Fran.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Like, he went to the Innovations Ball, maybe hoping he would meet someone, and then was immediately overwhelmed and stepped outside. And then all of a sudden, the perfect woman shows up.
He found her in the choir.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Frohn break the news they'd like to get married sooner rather than later, and they'd like Violet to clear the air with the Queen. No big deal, of course.
I feel so bad for John here because he clearly recognises that he wasn't the Queen's first choice.
Oh.
And throughout the entire episode, he clearly picks up, I mean, Violet's not been fucking subtle about it, is she?
No.
But he clearly picks up that he's, like, not Violet's preferred choice and that she doesn't believe in their relationship.
I know, and then he just quietly excuses himself later, yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, he handles it with just so much dignity. Like, he either gives spaces for Fran and Violet to talk without intruding, or he just takes it all on the chin. I mean, he's not around for a long time or a good time, bless him, but
A good time for a bit of time.
yeah, enjoy it while it lasts. You know what I was saying to Lecky? I was like, Violet is going to feel so bad when he dies.
Yeah.
Or is she going to sidle up and be like, now's your opportunity to find real love? But for now, Vi is making up more excuses, which winds Francesca up and sets up the moment she lashes out at her mum at the floral ball. But now, Frohn are eager to hot-foot it back to Scotland, just like you, Veg. So you best get cracking on that visit to the Queen, Vi.
As an aside, Fran looks so beautiful in this scene. She has some great dresses this episode as well, but I love her, like, peachy, diaphanous sleeves in this scene.
Yeah.
Kind of like the one we see on Pen's first dress when she's writing the Lady Whistledown issue.
Yeah.
I really love them. It's so beautiful.
We've talked about it before, but it's so clever how they made all her clothes almost like semi-transparent. Like you can't quite get a read on her. And she's really good at this episode and sort of quietly taking everything in. And then her anger like really quietly builds and builds.
Ratchets up, yeah.
And the Frohn nuptials are far from the only wedding planning we have on our plates. So let's pop across the square to see how Portia is getting on. As Prudence and Philippa stitch and bitch with their husbands devotedly standing behind them, Portia and Varley are busy getting into the details. Yellow flowers on the banisters, please, Varley.
Portia reveals she's thinking of covering Polin's wedding carriage with gilt flowers, which is actually, well, I mean, if it had been left in, it would have been a cute callback to a cut exchange between Penelope and Portia back in season 2. Because while planning the Featherington ball, Portia had asked Pen which flowers they should use for the ball, debating between 2 colors, but she revealed that both would have been dipped in gold leaf in the end. And Pen wisely answered by saying both, which was an idea that Portia thought was genius.
That's so cute. I suppose season 2 Portia wasn't ready to see Pen as a genius at that point.
I also love that Varley thinks the gilt flowers sound very tasteful, my lady. What a wing woman.
I will not survive the Varley Portia season 4 breakup that looks like it's on the cards. Beans, have you heard this? I think you have, haven't you? That it sounds like they're gonna
Have a falling out.
love us tiff.
Yeah, maybe they'll get back together and make out. I don't know.
That will be the resolution.
Exactly. I don't know why they would even... Okay, we don't have to think about it right now, but why would they even argue?
Why would they argue?
Yeah.
Maybe Varley's just tired of being taken for granted, you know?
Yeah. It'll be all part of the whole, like, appreciating the help subplot.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. She's like, I have an inner world too. Or maybe she's jealous that Portia's all over Colin.
Yeah.
And she's like, I was your right-hand man once upon a
Right.
time.
Number 1.
And now look whose cheeks you're squishing.
That's hilarious.
But Prudence, meanwhile, is busy scowling at the thought of Penelope getting all the attention. You should have married Bridgerton, Prue. But as ever, Finch swoops in to make us all swoon, declaring that he will carry Philippa to the wedding himself. She'd rather have the gilt carriage.
Yeah.
But Prue continues to complain that weddings aren't important as pregnancies. Well, the thing is, Prue, Pen's got a man who's given her both. So what are you going to do about it, babe? But at the mention of her thirdborn, Portia wanders off to find out where she is. Well, let's walk up the stairs, up to Pen's room. Veg, I've got to come to you first of all, because how is the girl looking? An old favourite, perhaps?
Pen is wearing my favourite dress of the season. We saw this in part 1, episode 4 in the library, where Colin and Pen were taking it in turns to give each other sulky looks. It is very, very welcome as a reduce, reuse, recycle moment. This dress is the most gorgeous shade of blue, and Pen has paired it with a lovely little blue mesh hair tie. Bloody lovely.
I find it so funny that Portia walks in and finds Pen surrounded by issues of Lady Whistledown, and she isn't remotely suspicious.
No, not a single thought.
Yeah, just doesn't set off any alarm bells. Like, why is she surrounded by issues of Lady Whistledown? She must really miss the gossip writer.
And we thought that that would be a moment of her realising.
No.
I know.
When the still was released.
Yeah.
She's too distracted by wedding planning.
Portia chastises Pen for hiding away in her room, but when Pen says she doesn't feel well, Portia reminds her that she's captured the affections of a man of great name and means, and she'll have the rest of her life to lie around and do nothing. The scene description of this moment does a great job conveying Pen's feelings about this statement, saying, "Doesn't that sound great?" on Pen, who doesn't think so.
We finally arrived at the ladies do not have dreams conversation, and it turns out that ladies also do not have sex talks.
Dun, dun, dun.
Because after saying that it's Pen's duty to make Colin feel as though he's the most important person in the world, Portia originally attempted to teach Pen the birds and the bees. Sorry, Edmund.
Rest in peace.
Asking if she understood her wifely duties. Pen lies and says that she read about the marital act in her books, prompting Portia to say that for once she's grateful for all of Pen's reading.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Portia. Shit, truly sailed. Gone, baby's in there, done, tick it off the list.
Yeah.
All good. How sad, though, that we didn't get a Portia sex talk.
What the hell would she even say?
Well, she said something about the pearl in 302
Yeah.
in a cutscene when she was trying to teach the other sisters to pleasure themselves. So maybe something about pearls.
Well, this was all about Colin's pleasure, so
Oh, right. Yeah.
taking the stick out, I guess. But yeah, don't need to worry about that. Colin really had it covered. It is funny, though, because Portia thinks that the way to make Colin feel special is for Pen to sleep with him. Like, actually, the answer to make him feel special is to just stare in his eyes and confess he love.
Aww.
That's very sweet.
Continuing, Portia Portia says it's Pen's duty to also support Colin's every dream.
Oh my god, and Nicola's delivery of "what about my dreams" really breaks my heart, and it makes me have a lot of sympathy for Pen in this scene, especially since I can be pretty harsh on her at times in part 2, because it just comes as such a shock that she's not allowed to even have dreams anymore, because she's always been this character of hope, and she's held on to her dreams to make it through all of the darkness that she's faced in her life. She's held on to this dream of being with Colin, even when it seemed impossible and like it was dead in the dirt, and she dreamt of being a Bridgerton, of being seen and loved for who she truly is. She dreamt of having a family and a voice, and she's at this point where she thinks she's just about got it all. She is going to be a Bridgerton and she has Colin, but it's at the sacrifice of the one thing that's made her feel seen. And it's like you were saying earlier, Lecky, she's going into this scene with what Eloise said to her, like, you're going to be married, you're going to be Bridgerton, you can't have this part of your life that is your writing. And then she's gone straight into a discussion with her mother where her mum is saying, you don't even need to give up your dreams, you just don't have them.
Yeah.
And so she can't have it all. And also I think it's such a sad twisting of, you know how much we've talked about dream references, dream imagery that's run through Pen and Colin's entire love story. And then it's this awful twist here where Colin's dream has come true, but at the expense of
And hers.
which is what we see later in the episode as well, him flourishing in his dreamscape and hers dying because of it. Or she thinks it is.
I think this is the first moment where Pen in turn considers how difficult Portia has had it, how she's been trapped within her own role in society and within her marriage, and how much love she truly has for her daughters. Because when Pen asks about her dreams, Portia is taken aback by the concept. What dreams? Dreams have never even been a possibility for Portia. She's never been able to find comfort in the fanciful or the hope for a better future that Penelope has always held on to. Portia continues saying, ladies do not have dreams, they have husbands. And if you are lucky and you fulfill your role, sometimes what you wish for may come true through him.
Yikes.
But amazing delivery from Polly Walker here.
Yeah.
And this dialogue is very revealing for Portia, who goes on to confess how unhappy and unfulfilling her own marriage was. She says Archie was a weak man and occasionally cruel, and she chose a match for security, and he could not even provide that. But he did give her girls, and her wish has always been for the three of them to do better than she did.
What a bummer, guys.
I know.
Yeah, I love the way she says, what dreams? Like, it's never even occurred to her
Yeah.
that it's even a possibility to have a dream. And it's like, what would a dream look like for Portia beyond her daughters getting married?
Yeah.
And Polly Walker talked about this, the Bridgerton podcast. She says, when Portia got married, I think she was a catch. I think she thought she was marrying her Prince Charming, and it's been miserable ever since. She's gained significance in her life through her daughters. That's where she's poured all her love. You have to be exposed to good love, and she wasn't. She's doing the best she can. She's a good person, and she has a very, very good heart. She would fight to the death for her daughters, but she's limited.
I would really be so interested to see a Portia.
Give the spin off.
Give it to me.
Because I just feel like Archie wasn't her Prince Charming.
Yeah.
I am of the belief that, like, she maybe had somebody else she was betrothed to, but because of family situation, she couldn't be with him. And so then she was with Archie because it was the most
secure.
secure.
Yeah.
And that would be I know Bridgerton's all about happy endings, whatever, but that would be an interesting story because I feel like Portia would be, especially Polly Walker, would be so good. Then we give her someone who she can actually, get to Bangtown.
Yeah.
Polly Walker says she's not going to get a boyfriend for Portia in season 4, and it's like, why can everyone else get with someone?
Yeah.
The only reason she doesn't get a boyfriend in the present is A, if she ends up with Varley, or B, they do a spin-off where you reveal that she had a love of her life and they were parted for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Either she was betrayed or something happened that pulled them apart.
I would love a persuasion story for Polly.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this thing, she's always sounded like someone who, when she's seen Penelope get engrossed in her stories, it's almost like she's seeing, like, don't waste your time on that.
Yes.
I did that. It was a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's like, it was a dream. It was fanciful. It was make-believe. The hard reality of life.
Yeah, and I feel like Portia's a very good character. She's, obviously a little bit more Spitfire than the leads in Persuasion, but, like, I would just love that for Portia because it would almost be saying, like, we have to fit society, blah, 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 which is all Persuasion. It's all Portia. That's what Portia wants in her life, and then to, like, fall back and, like, be reunited with this guy, and maybe he did get married, and his wife died, and all this other shit. Like, that would be so good. Give us the spin-off.
Yeah, I know.
And the thing is, you were saying like her story might not have had a happy ending in that iteration.
Right.
And it's like, well, I think Portia thinks like, what dreams do you have? But she's had dreams for her daughters. Like she might not call them dreams, but her hope and dream has been that they find, security.
Right.
And so her dream has come true and exceeded that, because not only have they found security, but like they found true love.
Yeah.
So her happy ending is through her daughters and that she's raised and devoted her life to.
Right.
So you already have like a built-in resolution for her.
Yeah.
Even if her love life has this sort of tragic tone to it.
Exactly.
I was just thinking that a Portia spinoff would be so great because you could end in the final episode with a really tragic wedding where it's like a wedding, but it's not the wedding you want to see.
Yeah, she marries the wrong person because that's the reality of the situation.
Right.
Yeah. I usually don't like drama, but I really want to see Portia's story.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
Give me the prequel. Anyway.
Portia isn't just about romantic love. She's about like familial platonic love as well, and showing all forms of that. So like she still gets that happy ending, as she said. And I think like Portia is like a true testament to like, she has really hunkered down in moments where she's been let down by people in her life, specifically her husband.
She's a survivor, yeah.
Yeah, she's a survivor. She doesn't always show her love in the best ways. And it'd just be so interesting to see, like, why is she like this? Like, why is she doing these things? Because it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from something that's happened.
Exactly, yeah.
And the beauty of her story is that we see this in this season, in these episodes, that Portia really learns from Penelope. So here you have a scene where Penelope is learning lessons from her mum that sort of lead her down this tragic path temporarily.
Yeah.
But Portia will learn so much from her daughter.
Yeah.
And Polly Walker said that Portia's a realist, but that's where I think she gets enlightened eventually, because Penelope does manage to have a relationship where her and Colin are great friends. They have great respect for one another. But that's not something I thought was even an option. It's like another language. It's like she's teaching me another language.
Oh.
Beautiful. But for now, Portia is still thinking that her way is the only way, and she's just teaching what she thinks is true, what she's known to be true. And it clearly strikes a nerve for Pen.
Portia's talk of her sacrifice deeply impacts Pen, who resolves to choose Colin from this point onward, according to the script. The scene description reads, Pen nods, taking that in, realizing the sacrifices her mother has made for her to be here. Off Pen, looking down at her glittering ring, gathering her resolve to choose Colin.
Oh, and it's like a sweet moment in their bond as well, isn't it? Because there is a time when you're older when you look back and you have such complicated emotions about how you were brought up.
But you see why they made those decisions.
Yeah, she's like, okay, I see the perspective, even if it wasn't the best or even if it was harmful.
Yeah.
I see the sacrifices you've made in your way. And as Portia leaves the room, we're left on this shot of Penelope's hand on her issues of Whistledown, and you've really focused on the clash between her engagement ring and her writing, really hammering it home once again that that's the choice that she's making. And Pen has to wipe away a little tear, lost in thought. And our listener late said, what we see here, despite how poorly Portia has treated Pen her entire life, is that Pen really does want and even crave her mother's validation.
Yeah.
We know Portia's obsession with status and money. Has she truly reformed her ways and now sees her daughter as a daughter? Or is she still couched in her selfish little world of moving it up in the ton? I think she's learned and she's learning.
I think so too.
And she sees that with her relationship with her daughter and the way she stood up for herself and with Colin.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, there is another way to be.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, Nicholas talked about it in the past, too. Portia and Pen are very much alike, more than they let on. And I think Portia has always recognized that she's her daughter, but she sees maybe the same type of spirit that Portia had when she was younger.
Yeah.
And rather than being impressed by it, she's intimidated by it and almost scared, because it's like Portia never got to have those experiences or be as independent. She had to follow society's rules, and so she like doesn't want to take that away from Pen, but she wants to stifle it a little bit because she's almost scared for Pen, I think, in a way. Like she's like, that's not how we live.
Yeah.
You know?
Our listener Scribble Vinyl said, the conversation between Pen and Portia is heartbreaking. Portia is only telling from her own experience and what she's seen around her.
Right.
And I think that's what really sort of bums me out about this episode the most, is that Pen is really left in a position where she thinks that Colin won't support her dreams and that she really does have to choose one over the other. It's sad because we know as viewers that Colin is the kind of man who would encourage her to have dreams and pursue them. I mean, like, look at the Purpose scene in 206 when he was so drawn in by the notion of her having dreams. He was so inspired by her. And we know that ultimately that is the relationship that they're going to have, where they are going to both encourage one another, and he's going to be so proud of her and encourage her writing. But it's so messily tangled up with Whistledown and Pen's actions upsetting Colin in 301, this trajectory that they've both found themselves on, that you really see that Pen thinks she might have a life where in this aspect, she won't have Colin's support, which is so sad for both of them. But as we see from Cressida and her parents, it's really hard to break out of those generational cycles. And as much as Pen has seen the Bridgertons living a different life, and as close as she is to being a Bridgerton by marriage, it's like you say, Beans, you know, she's still a Featherington at heart. She's still so like Portia.
Yeah.
And there's a part of her that always will be pressed up against the window, she thinks, because she can't fully be herself.
Yeah.
There's a sacrifice that has to happen, just like her mum's had to sacrifice everything. And our listener Nick said, I love Polly Walker's scenes in this episode. She's great in the show generally, but there are some standout moments from her throughout this episode. I'm so glad she'll be in season 4. Can't wait to see more Portia moments.
Her acting in this scene is so good.
And we know that Portia's going to end out on top. So Portia victory on the horizon, Portia domination. Let's see it. And that was a bit bloody depressing. Let's go cheer ourselves up by paying a visit to our favourite people, Ben and Tilly, who are having a whale of a time frolicking on the floor with the picnic.
As Tilly and Ben eat what looks like a McMuffin,
Apparently they're scones. I'm not convinced.
Tilly invites Ben to dinner with her dear friend Paul. Wonder how that will go.
I will say I do not appreciate Ben scooping up the jam with his fingers.
Ew.
Oh, it's so... You know how I feel about, like, food play?
Yeah.
He scoops up the jam and he, like,
Sucks on it.
puts his fingers in his mouth and, like, sucks on them.
You don't like getting freaky with the food? Food in the loo?
Absolutely not, thank you.
It was a Flight of the Conchords reference.
I think Colin handled his messy fingers in a much tidier and more dignified manner, thank you.
Yeah.
And speaking of Colin, we've got places to be, we've got clubs to close, dreams to die. Veg, we're hopping straight over to Will's. How is he looking? Colin, not Will. Although Will looks great, he always looks great.
Yeah. Oh, this looks great.
Colin is wearing a favourite waistcoat of ours, seen in its full glory for the first time, but actually worn before, I believe, not only at the Osterley Full Moon Ball, but also the Queen's Ball and carriage scene. Huge! And it's lovely to see a nice full view of the gold pattern on the grey-blue fabric, which is very nice. Very nice from Colin. Good choice.
So we find Ben, Colin, and John giving Will's bar a send-off. And I love how Benedict playfully reaches over and fiddles with Colin's hair. Another sweet little brotherly moment, kind of like the cheek squish back in season 2.
And you know I love a cheek squish, like.
Yes. Colin admits that love has made him so simple that he cannot even write a sentence, saying it feels like torture, which kind of reminds me of his love declaration back in the carriage.
Yeah.
Torture he cannot, will not, does not want to give up.
And we actually know that it's Penelope's lack of love declaration that's giving him writer's block. So he is a little bit tortured in some ways, isn't he? But best not to admit that to this room, Colin. And he continues revealing that he's actually working on a manuscript, editing the story of his travels. Be still, our writer Colin Hearts. Because believe me, there was a time when we genuinely feared that writer Colin would not make it into the show. So this is music to my ears.
And rom-com fans, you may recognise the inspiration for the scene where the men take it in turns to win the last drink. So it's a nod to the last brownie scene in Notting Hill, where the brownie is awarded as a prize to the saddest act. And then the characters take it in turns to share their reasons why they're the saddest act, thus winning the prize. We should play that.
I think we do that at the beginning of every episode.
We do that. I think Beans wins this week.
Oh, you had pretty rough this week, Obs.
Yeah, I did actually, I think.
You could split the brownie.
I win a lot of prizes this week, don't worry.
We're always going through the wars, aren't we? And although we did have a last chocolate macaron earlier in the episode, we are now competing over the last drink. Benedict confiscates it from Colin, saying, "You at least have a direction in your life, while I'm floating purposeless with no discernible path forward."
That's a perfect reenactment, babe.
Shut up. Fucking men needing purpose. Sorry. You're telling us, Benedict, we're the ones who've had to watch you for 3 years, yeah?
Right?
Colin points out that Ben is the happiest he's been, which just shows that, like,
Really?
literally nothing about his arc is sticking with Ben at all.
No.
It's so frustrating because in season 2, like, yeah, Colin had the same thing. He was purposeless, no discernible path forward, floating, etc.
Yeah.
But, like, at least it resonated with him.
He's enjoying jam.
Yeah.
What did Colin enjoy in season 2?
I'm having a great fucking time about it.
Yeah.
And we'll give it another go next season, eh? See if it sticks with you then.
As As an aside, the script says that John starts to loosen up because of Ben and Colin's bickering, which is very cute. And this gives him the courage to join in on the fun, declaring he thinks the last drink should go to him as he spotted another bottle. The script then cutely reveals that John at least feels like one of the boys as Will takes in his club one last time.
Stop, that's so cute. And this is one thing that I always love about the Bridgerton siblings each season, is how happily and quickly and completely they always embrace a new member of their family.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, another sibling, like just whack him in.
Right.
And they really earnestly do whatever they can to make the new sibling-in-laws feel like one of them. Like even when it was maybe going to be Edwina, and then when it was Kate, Daphne, they're just immediately embracing them. Yeah, Violet could maybe pick up a few tricks from this. Yeah. She's doing like everything to like freeze him out.
Yeah.
And forget ABC, it's BCJ now. I mean, I would have loved to have had little Anthony here, but filming schedules, wicked needed filming, guys. We all know that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the scene, you even can hear Colin tell John that he has to have another drink because you are in the family. Not for much longer, but keep while it lasts.
And at this point, we see Will taking in his bar one last time. He seems happy about it. He's smiling, but I can't help but be bummed about all this still.
Yeah.
Not just because I would have liked to have seen more parallels between his and Pen's arcs, with them both finding a way to have it all, basically. Why does only Polin get a true happy ever after? But also because the production teased the idea that Will's bar had secret passageways in a rewatch event. We will try to share a screenshot. I thought for sure that was going to come into play, if not in season 3, then in season 4, with the bar acting as a hub where people from even different classes could all kind of interact together.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was all for naught.
Well, the thing is, like, it's not even just that there's a parallel between Pen and Will, with them having to give up dreams and the things that make them feel seen.
Glaring parallel.
But I think there's also a parallel there with Colin and Will, because Colin literally spends time in this scene talking about editing his writing, most likely with the intent to publish. So he's allowed a profession. I thought that's the whole issue, isn't it? Like,
oh, yeah.
you can't have a profession because it's going to get looked down upon. You're raising a baron now, so you need to take it seriously and get out of the working game.
I guess if it's part of the arts, it's okay.
So Colin's allowed to write. He's going to raise a baron, like Will will. So he's also going to have to run an estate, but it's fine for him. So it's just like this double whammy for Will's dreams that's so sad. And I remember watching this and we were like, it's fine. They'll circle back to it. There'll be this beautiful happy ending in episode 8 where it's like, you can keep your bar after all, Will.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
Ladies do not have dreams, and neither does Will.
Will does not have bars.
But that crushing reality aside, it's a super cute scene, and it's miles away from that awful concur with you there scene that Colin had with the Lord Squad in episode 4. It's like this night and day situation where he felt so out of place and so unseen, and now he's just completely at home. And it's like, these are your people, Colin.
And he's even vulnerable enough to share his writing with them.
Yeah, he'd been laughed out of town if he'd have done that with the other guys.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, it's time for church. Hilariously, the script declares it's Sunday Fun Day, meaning mandatory church for everyone in the town who are only pretending to listen to Minster Hughes as he speaks. In truth, they're just there to see and be seen. But before we get really into what's happening inside the church, I just want to point out that the scene description right before the sequence reads, "Good Day Sunshine," which is a cute reference to the Beatles song of the same name, I think.
Beans, do you know it?
Nope.
No. Do you want to do an impression of what Good Day Sunshine by the Beatles would be?
Good day, sunshine. Ooh.
Pretty close.
Thank you. Well, we will get to the outside of the church in a little bit. The exterior church walls, you might say, like. But for now, we are inside the church, which is... Where exactly, Beans?
It is the Chapel of St. Peter and St. Paul at the Old Royal Naval College in Greenwich. Yeah?
Nice.
Yes, absolutely. 10 out of 10.
Amazing.
I believe you.
Of course, this is where Pen and Colin will be married next episode, but for now, they're here for the reading of the bonds. There were filming leaks from when the scene was originally being filmed, which showed the cast and extras leaving the church. At the time, we thought maybe it was being used for a Frohn wedding, but it was confusing because the cast didn't seem to be wearing wedding outfits at the time. So it never occurred to us that they were all just going to the church for the day.
Which I think means we're kind of dumb, to be honest, in retrospect.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Some of the fans thought the ministers were judges and that they were overseeing Penelope being put on trial for treason after being found out that she was like Lady Whistledown. So sorry to disappoint y'all, but Pen was not getting her head chopped off by the judges. She wasn't being extradited to fucking
Australia.
She was just going to church for the day. Oh my god, I remember this. It was a big deal.
It was.
People were like, no, she has to be tried for the crimes that she's committed. good.
Yeah, if you haven't been in this fandom for a long time, people legit thought that Penelope was on trial and was potentially going to get, like, executed.
Vehemently.
At one point, they said the only way for her to be, like, redeemed was to be exiled.
Yeah.
Her and Colin just exiled out of England
Yeah.
for gossip.
We had to make comparisons because they were like, they're judges, and we had to like compare them to the ministers from Antony's wedding.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're like, these are people of God.
Yeah.
They're literally the same actors.
She might be on a spiritual trial, but she's getting through it. Happy days. We didn't think it would be the bands.
No.
We had no idea. But, you know, they can go to church, I guess. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, take us to church.
We went to church. Maybe not in the ways we wanted, but we went to church. But in the congregation veg, I spy with my little eye, a little Pen and a little Colin. And how are they looking?
Hot as hell.
Pen is wearing a lovely and very Bridgerton blue dress, if we are honest. Her hair is clipped back with this lovely hairpiece that's got butterflies and blue roses on it. I believe they're roses, and it's so sweet and lovely and ornamental. She's wearing silver jewellery, and she does seem to be more of a silver girly if we think about it. So if I was going to critique the choice of gold for the ring, I would not have to work too hard to form an argument. I'm just saying. But anyway, my apologies. Bridgerton blue makes our girl's eyes pop, and Colin's eyes too. Colin's collar is perfect for tugging, and he has got on a simple white shirt for church and his most worn waistcoat of the season and a jacket. They both look appropriate but gorgeous.
And as Minster Hughes reads the banns, the script says that we spot Colin straightening in the audience amongst his family nursing a serious hangover.
Well, like, you know how much I love hungover Colin. I hold him dearly to my heart. But I think they cut this from the final edit, didn't they? That he was hungover.
They did, yeah.
Which is a terrible shame. Why are we cutting out a hungover man?
Maybe because they didn't want him to be hungover during the love confession.
During church service.
Yeah, and I just don't like, I think the whole Colin could low-key be an alcoholic.
I know, he does have a drinking issue.
I think it's fine if we sort of move on from that. I'm happy with that decision.
That's a good point, because I feel like in season 2 he was using alcohol as a bit of a crutch.
Yeah, like a coping mechanism.
Because he felt so lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't want to see that from him now that he's actually found the love of his life.
Right.
And also, like, he was drunk the last time we saw him in church. And it's like, we need a clear head eventually, darling.
Yeah.
So well done to Colin.
The script continues saying, across the aisle he spots Penelope with her family and smiles wide. Pen smiles back.
Oh, the little proud smile on his face. It's so sweet. He's so proud and so happy to be marrying her. No one else in the town gives a shit. But he cares. And Pen also has this little moment where she sort of flutters and smiles to herself, like she can't quite believe it.
Yeah. And as Hughes asks if anyone knows any reason the two shouldn't be joined in holy matrimony, the script says we're on Pen as the minister's words land on her. She does know just cause, but no one else speaks, and she swallows it. She looks over at Colin, who playfully tugs at his collar, faux nervous. His humor makes her forget her worries.
This is one of those like iconic fan moments.
Yes.
Just the perfect exchange between the two. It's like the geeky humour that the two of them share. In the books, he's really like cool and like admired, and the show he's a bit nerdy.
He's kind of a nerd, yeah.
Also, I have to say that, can you imagine if this trip had happened in last episode? Because like Eloise was dying for an opportunity to be like, oh
yeah,
I've got a reason. She 1,000% would have been like, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
I would have liked this kind of humour to have been pepped up a little bit more in the episode, because I think it helps lighten it and it really shows their playful bond alongside those really deep, earnest, romantic, intense moments. And then also it's a reminder of how much he can just immediately set her in ease. And I think it's so important that we have these moments, because these are the moments that keep whispering to Penelope, like, maybe this is worth it. Maybe you can give this up, because look at the life you're going to have.
Yeah.
This is what you'll be sacrificing, this man who makes you feel seen and loved. And so when you've got Portia's voice and Eloise's voice, and then you've got Colin looking at you, you can understand the position that she's tangled herself into. Our lovely listener Moon Pie said, Colin's blushing little head bobble.
Yeah, he ducks his head down, so happy.
His peak season 3, our boy was on top of the world. Just the sweetest. And of course, we have to mention, fans have noticed how Colin and Hyacinth both tip their heads at the exact moment, and they look identical to one another. So well done, casting department, as always.
As Minster Hughes declares they should be married in 3 weeks' time, Portia offers a little wave to Violet, who politely waves back.
Violet looks about as thrilled as you can imagine. Also, I have to laugh at, I think Colin is giving Portia the side eye here. He's either trying to look at Pen with a really strange expression, or he's just glaring at Portia a little bit. Whereas then you have Eloise, who's like gazing long longingly over at Penelope.
And there's also a little cute moment in the scene description here where it says, spot Miss Kenworthy and Lord Cho seated next to each other in the crowd. Miss Kenworthy is sitting tall as Lord Cho beams at her, absolutely smitten, as the minister continues to drone on. And then we cut to Fran and John seated next to each other, excited for the day that their banns will be read.
Our listeners, Erin and Sasha, both wondered why Polin are the only couple not sitting next to each other during the scene. I mean, Frohn is sat next to each other and they're not even officially engaged yet. So why is this? I feel like this is a classic case of main characteritis.
Yeah.
Where they needed some longing gazes. They needed to be separate. But I also think it's like, I think Portia is so concerned about getting this thing over the line.
Yeah.
That she's like, in public, we're going to do this to a T. Oh, we're not going to risk this at all. But yeah, I don't understand how Frohn get away with it throughout all of these episodes because they're always accompanying each other and no one gives a shit.
Mediocre match. Nobody cares.
Mediocre match. That's what happens, isn't it? But thankfully, church is dismissed and we are all able to go forth in peace. Stand up, everyone. Off we go.
As the church clears, the scene description says that Colin lingers inside, hoping for a word with Pen, and Penelope takes a moment, of course, to talk with Colin. He says it's good to see her looking well, and she shares that she is feeling much better. If you remember, Colin was supposed to have a hangover in the scene, so he would have originally flinched here, prompting Pen to ask if he was now the unwell one. And then he said that he felt better now that they've been reunited, basically. He continues saying, and soon we shall officially be married. In the script, officially was actually emphasized, kind of suggesting that in his eyes, Colin already saw them as married, and the ceremony was just a formality. Luke doesn't seem to put the same emphasis on officially, which I think works because Colin immediately says, if you will still have me. So although the idea of Colin already seeing them as married is very sweet, it works better that he does still have this lingering insecurity that Pen might not want him. And Penelope immediately replies, Colin, in what world would I not?
The world inside Colin's head playing out 24/7, Pen. Thanks for asking, though. And the thing is, you can see him not believe it, even as she says, in what world would I not? Colin tells Pen that he knows there is something she has been meaning to tell him. And the script says that he's trying to keep it playful, but Pen finally realises he's actually feeling insecure about their relationship.
Well done, Pen.
Well done, Pen. Got there eventually.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, to be fair, it took the boy 2.5 years to realise that he had feelings for her, but it's just like, she's like, oh shit, I've been so consumed by the fact that I've loved you forever that I've forgotten that I've never actually mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
So she takes this moment to admit that she has been keeping a secret. Thank the fucking Lord, Pen. Eyes have got upon you, ready to confess. The room is completely cleared. You've got no interruptions to tell him that you are Lady Whistledown. We're all ears, girl.
But she says, in fact, there is something I've been meaning to tell you for a very long time. And the scene description for this moment reads, Colin pales as we wonder, oh shit, is she about to spill the Lady Whistledown tea?
Spoiler no.
But Pen instead confesses that she has loved Colin since the moment they met. Great. She says, that I have loved you since the moment we met, an embarrassingly long time, really. Even the years I pretended to be your friend, I was, but I loved you in secret. I have always loved you, Colin.
Aww. It's conflicting because it's like, oh, at long, long last, we have a Penelope love declaration.
Yeah.
She's never actually been able to say it. She's always denied it. And if you think back to season 1 Penelope, she was always so resigned to being his friend and to watching him marry someone else. And she only intervened when she realised he was being deceived, which makes this even more tragic because, like, there's something now she's not telling him.
Yeah.
And it's also lovely because we've seen as viewers that Colin has really needed this confession from her so much. He's been panicking without it. He's been spiralling, thinking he was the only one who's waded this far into the water. But it's like, Pen's like, oh, I've been here the whole time, by the way.
I've got my floaties on.
Yeah,
Right.
she's got her floaties on. The ship is sinking, but they're good for now. And it's that moment, that beautiful moment where it is a truth because we know it's true for her, but then it's a truth that's being used in such a deceptive way.
Yeah.
Because he gives her that platform to confess. And she's again using a moment to avoid telling him the truth. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah. It's so frustrating because obviously it's a Shondaland thing.
Yeah.
They want it to be as dramatic as possible.
Yeah.
But to take something as beautiful as this long-awaited love confession and then color it because she's literally lying to him by withholding the actual secret she needs to tell him is so painful.
And I still, like, sort of ride by the fact that Colin could have known she was Lady Whistledown in the first half, and the second would have just all been
With them navigating it.
dedicated to the the blackmail plot and everything. I think it could have been a much more compelling story between the two of them as a couple.
Polin against the world, dealing
Yeah.
with external conflict.
Yeah.
It would be a very different story.
Yeah.
And, like, I love the story we got, but
Yes.
I really would have loved to have seen them working together
Right.
to overcome some of the obstacles in their path.
Just this scene of, like, them preparing for maybe Frohn's wedding and also like Colin and Pen going to the Queen's Castle, and there's like a mix-up of like shots and everything.
Yeah.
I think we imagined that, so she'd turn him down, Colin would be like, what the hell? He'd follow her, find out.
Right.
He'd really struggle, but they'd be together. And then, part 2 would be them navigating that. And then Colin finally thinking that, he's got his head around it. But a part of Penelope who still has that fear and that sort of need to control the situation a little bit.
Independently
Goes to the Queen.
Yeah.
And that's where like a sense of betrayal comes. It's like, I thought we were in this together and you've just gone and done something like this again.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas here she just cuts him out of the story for such a long time that by the time we get to episode 8, there's just not enough time to resolve it.
Exactly.
And we were talking about this at the top of the episode when you two weren't in it. I was positing, is this episode completely filler?
Yeah.
And it's hard because like if this was like a 10 episode season, I think there'd be plenty of time for all of this that happens in this episode where there's toing and froing and a lot of thinking and going back and forth. But because we're so constricted with the rest of part 2...
They have to cram so much in episode 8 that it's like they're speed running the rest of the plot. Like they definitely needed more time.
And like this is such a key moment. And if you listen to Penelope's confession, which is a truth, like that is a truth that she has. She's loved him since the moment they met.
Yeah.
We hear that. And she's embarrassed about how long. And she said, all those years I pretended to be your friend. She acknowledges that she'd always hoped for more.
Yeah.
But she'd always held this part of her back that she'd loved him in secret. And that she's always loved him. And that's not true. And that's a beautiful love confession that we've waited for. Like, we've been waiting way longer than Colin, babe. Like, get in line.
Yeah.
Like, for an opportunity for her to stand there and confess her truth and be proud of it and to stand by it. But then because of the way the story is told, you have to use that moment here as a way that she's lying to him.
Yes.
And it's like, why could we not have a moment for her to confess genuinely?
At least a happy love confession, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, they're not going to have a fucking happy wedding, are they? So we're just asking for one happy event.
Yeah.
Remember when you guys thought that the wedding was going to be really nice and fine? Me and Obs were realists.
Well, Beans and I thought that. You guys were...
I thought it was going to be fine.
How did optimism work out for you guys? And this is why I'm so conflicted in this scene, because it's gorgeous. And you have to give Penelope, and by that I mean season 1, season 2, season 3 Penelope, all those iterations of her, she deserves a space to tell him another of her truths. Because she has been keeping the secret that she's loved him all her life.
Yeah.
Fair play. And she's had that secret longer than she's had the secret about Whistledown. But our listener ZS_0607, I'm so sorry, Zed, if that's not how you say it. They said that they were listening back to our part 2 trailer reaction video.
Yeah.
To which I would say I blacked out. No idea what I would have said.
I think that's one of my favorite episodes because that's when...
Is that the one that you'd not ever watched it?
Yeah, I hadn't even watched it at all.
Well, apparently, according to Zed, we were discussing this church scene. There must have been a little clip. And they said, I'm shocked by how spot on you were with the fact that her love confession would be related to Lady Whistledown and how Colin would notice something is wrong and she would then tell him that she'd always loved him.
I said that?
Somebody.
I think we collectively...
Oh, okay. I was like, damn.
We were very tired at the time, that's all I know.
I don't remember either.
We must have noticed that this was a setup that when Penelope was going to confess, it was going to be a way of her getting out of confessing about Whistledown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Zed said, while the sentiment is true from Penelope, I just can't help feeling Colin will later look back on this and it will be an extra dagger to his heart.
Yeah.
He will ponder on whether this was really true or not, or if it was just a distraction to change the topic because he was getting too close to the bone.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this whole scene? Could Penn have done or said anything differently here? Of course, they were still in public, expected outside by their families, so I don't realistically think she could have confessed here. What do you think? I think that's really sums up the frustration that you get, that like it's a good point that is he going to look back on this and be like, another lie?
Yeah, I feel like this could have been a point where she said, I really do have something to tell you and I'm ready to talk about it.
However,
But she has had Portia and Elle in her ear. I wouldn't say however and then confess her love.
she's like, I'm going to go in chronological order of secrets.
Jesus Christ. I got a list.
Yeah, start at the top.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of my frustrations with this moment because it's so beautiful, but it's so overshadowed
Yeah.
Grim Reaper yet again.
and like eclipsed by the Lady Whistledown issue.
And Colin gets so many moments to confess his love that are really beautiful. You don't really get like an unburdened confession from her otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not one that like you hold against Penn necessarily, rather than like the structure of how it was done.
Yeah.
Colin's thrilled in the moment, I have to say. This is music to his little ears.
Colin declares that he will spend a lifetime begging Pen's forgiveness for not seeing her sooner, but Pen tells him there is no need.
I like that. It's like, oh, don't you apologise, babe. Don't you worry.
Stop apologizing, Colin.
Yeah.
Not right now. Not now.
This is like book Colin, though, because just before they slept together for the first time, he was reflecting on when he realised he was in love with her. And he said, I don't know when, I don't know how, and to be honest, I don't care. But I know this much is true. I love you, and I hate myself for not seeing the real you all of these years. And Penelope in the book replied, Colin, don't. No recriminations, no regrets, not tonight. And the thing is, the strand that connects show Pen and book Pen is that she knows that it was her secret to have, that she loved him. As in, like, I loved you from the moment we met. I held on to that. I pretended to be your friend. Which, you know, you could argue with that one. But she knows that he didn't owe her love at the same pace.
Exactly.
Even though he always had hers, which I think is a beautiful sentiment. But again, is that slightly overshadowed by Pen being like, oh, you don't need to apologise because, you know, I'm the one who's in the wrong, rather than it being that really sweet moment between the two.
Yeah. Instead of saying you shouldn't feel guilty that you didn't come to this realization sooner, it's kind of, again, colored by the Lady Whistledown of it all.
Yeah.
But she continues saying that there is nothing in the world that makes her happier than being with him. The scene description after this reads, not even Whistledown. At least that's what Pen's telling herself. As Pen's resolve sets, joyful Colin suddenly pulls her into a waltz. Pen looks around, scandalized. Thankfully, the church is now empty. When she asks what he is doing, Colin happily declares that he is dancing with his future wife in the church where they will be married. This entire scene is so moving that I get swept up in it, even with Pen withholding the truth from Colin.
Yeah.
I just love the way he kind of tucks her into him after they dance. It's so sweet. But one criticism of the dance here, well, one of a couple actually. I wish they had done more close-ups and more angles of the dance. We get to see this dance from a few more points of view in behind-the-scenes videos, and it's so cute. I just wish the camera had let us get lost in the moment a bit more with Polin, which may have made it even easier to sympathize with Pen as she continues to withhold the truth from Colin.
Yeah, because it's like the scene description says. She says that nothing makes her happier than being with him, and it's like, not even Whistledown. But that's what she's telling herself. So it's that conflict that, like, she is swept in this moment and her love for him is kind of overtaking it, but then also not really, because she's not really been truthful to herself in that either.
Yeah.
And I love the dance. It's so bittersweet. Kind of like
Everything in part 2.
welcome to part 2.
Yeah.
And even part 1 if you think about it for long enough.
I once compared this to the Berkeley Square dance, but I don't think it is. I think that was just my very wishful thinking. But I think what is beautiful from this scene is how relieved Colin is, thinking that he has the truth.
Yeah.
And knowing that Pen is just as much in love with him as he is with her. And the thing is, we know that is true. No lies detected there. And like you say, the music sort of kicks in and it just sort of gathers them up in this private moment together. Our listener Late said, it's always bothered me that Pen didn't fess up to Colin in the church. When Colin asks Pen what it is that has been bothering her, she tells him it's always loved him in secret. Not that she's Lady Whistledown, as we said. This decision is directly tied to her conversations with Elle and her mother.
So this is the Patreon member I was referencing earlier. Late, you made a great point here, and I feel like that's so true, that this is what's motivating Pen's behavior here.
Yeah.
But it is so painful.
Yeah, so I suppose as much as you can criticise Pen for this moment, you have to have that perspective. Like, what is the most recent conversation she just had? What would it look like had she had Jen's voice in her head just before she'd gone into a scene like this?
Yeah.
What if the last thing she'd heard was that Eloise told her to confess? What if this scene had taken place in episode 5?
Yeah.
Would she have confessed then? Because she's so lost, she is swayed. And she's kind of detached from her Lady Whistledown identity a little bit. And on that topic, Scribble Vinyl said, the church scene is so good. I wish this was after the reveal and not before it. If you guys had the opportunity to rewrite the script, where would you place this scene?
I would also like this after the Lady Whistledown reveal. And I feel like I have very different opinions about when the Lady Whistledown reveal should have taken place. So in the season as it currently stands, I guess that would be episode 7. I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah, if you sort of had to rejig it all. Yeah.
It's hard. I almost feel like I'd have to rewrite part 2 in order to find a right place for this scene.
Yeah.
I suppose if you think about it, is the wedding dance not this after the reveal? Is that not the same kind of thing? Is that not almost the same beat as in we're caught up in this own little world where it's just the two of us and we're struggling and we're trying to find each other?
And then you're torn apart again by more conflict.
Yeah. Or even like maybe in a scene where, do you know, like where he's so physically struggling to connect with her because he doesn't want to sort of sleep with her when he's angry. If, and again, this wouldn't work in the current setup, but like if when they're really at odds, if there is a moment somehow where he pulls her in for a little dance somewhere and it's like, they're still trying to connect with one another.
Sorry. I just feel like this scene doesn't really work in part 2 as, as it stands.
In conclusion.
But it's beautiful.
Now, in part 1,
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
a scene like this, hang on.
Oh, yeah.
I am fiercely thrusting my Berkeley Square mug.
Yeah. So I guess our answer is
Listeners, if this had been in part 1, when they thought they weren't going to be together and they thought they were friends, we've got a little scene called Berkeley Square and it should have been in there, and I will forever be sad that it wasn't.
okay. Yeah, I feel like our answer then collectively is part 1 or in a rewritten part 2.
Or part 2, I honestly think it's the wedding dance. It does the same thing.
You think this is the wedding dance?
I think this dance in part 2 after him knowing is the same beats that you get in the wedding dance.
You're saying it's the same feeling,
Tone.
so we
Yeah.
kind of didn't need both.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you did move it post-reveal, you already have it. And our lovely Purple Cat said,
That's Dr. Purple Cat to you.
sorry, Dr. Purple Cat Doctor is an OG reader of the book series. Sorry to dox you, but from way back when.
You read books. Sorry.
You read books. Sorry to tell everyone.
Yeah.
And so the skin in the game, Purple Cat has a lot. She said, I love me a direct book quote, but Pen asking, was Colin ever punished as a child after the church dance just feels odd.
Agree.
Where else would you put that line for it to sound more natural? And yet, so that's the bit at the end where they're just dancing and they're pulling away and then randomly Pen goes, were you ever punished as a child? And they just kind of laugh.
It's so weird. The placement is so weird and it does not work here at all.
It doesn't work.
I feel like this would have worked much better during their lessons.
I think we said it when we were watching it for the first time. We were like, why is that mentioned there?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I think maybe 302 during the lessons because Colin is kind of being scandalous in the way he's carrying out the lessons, and that sort of playfulness works much better in an episode like 302 as opposed to here.
I completely agree. I would put it in 302, either during the promenade scene. Do you know when he's being like, don't read books anymore kind of thing? And he's like, this is what men want. Men are simple creatures. Or when Polin visit the market and he's again being a little bit rakey, because this line, I think there is a place for it in the season when she's like, were you ever punished as a child? It's not my favourite book line ever, but that is a perfect countering for Colin with his annoying rakish persona when she's like trying to knock that part of him down a little bit and he's been like really cocky and flirty, and then she cuts in with, were you ever punished as a child because you're a dickhead now? And like that, I think he would have been like, like
excuse me,
called out, and then his real personality would have been like, fair play. It's like what Elle says or doesn't say when he's like, did you see what she wrote about me? She like called me an annoying dickhead or whatever.
Yeah.
And Elle's like really sad. She's like, well, she had a point.
Yeah.
It's that kind of energy.
Yeah.
That wasn't so bad. It was truthful.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we at the time were like, why was that line there? And he doesn't even really respond to it. They just sort of laugh.
Yeah. For the most part, I feel like the writers found really clever ways to work in some of the book quotes, can even reinvent them in some respects, but this inclusion always felt clunky to me.
Yeah.
However, this is sweet. The scene description says, as Colin laughs, we pull away from these two friends turned lovers basking in one another's love.
That's cute. And it's sweet because dance has always been a really beautiful part of their love story, right from 101. And it feels right that they would have a moment like this, where it's just the two of them in their own world.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is their first non-dramatic dance of the whole season. Ooh. So we take the joy where it comes. But now we're stepping to the external church, the exterior of the church, you might say. Beans, where on earth are we?
Okay. If you remember from our Crumbs episode, what an exterior church wall. This scene was filmed at Chiswick?
Chiswick.
I said Chiswick.
You had it first time, babe.
Yeah. I literally hate how that's pronounced. I am so sorry. It was filmed at Chiswick House in London. Oz made a trek through the thick of the fog and did not see a single thing.
Yeah. Wasted day.
Yeah.
An attempt was made.
Right.
But outside the church, the rest of the ton are all chatting post-service. Lady Danbury channels a little bit of Eloise by doing some cock-blocking of her very own as she introduces Marcus to Judgy Mama, who very excitingly, and this is a real revelation of the entire episode, forget the Whistledown nonsense, Judgy Mama, after 2.5 seasons of literally being credited as Judgy Mama, finally has a name at long last. And you know what, Beans, what do you think her name is?
Keswick?
Keswick.
Oh.
It also rhymes with the filming location.
Oh, it does.
Oh.
Chiswick and Keswick.
Keswick.
There's a silent W for both.
That's very annoying. That's so annoying.
Britain apologises for so much. I'm sorry.
We have a lot to apologise for, but I wouldn't say that's one of the things.
We can add it to the list, you know.
Anyway, Eloise spots Cressida. Hilariously, the writers originally envisioned this moment with Cressida disguised in a hat, hiding behind a gravestone, which is a very funny visual.
Why did you not get it?
More depressingly, the script says that Elle feels some pity for Cressida, seeing how in over her head she is, but she's also just so over the friendship, and she takes this as an easy out. Elle, this is so mean.
She incites a fight is what she does.
Yeah.
This is where, and you know I love Elle, but this is where she really starts to lose me in this episode, because she just turns so vindictively on Cressida.
Yeah.
And like the script says, you actually really do get the sense that she's just over the friendship and she's just ready to run back to Penelope. And it's like that classic Elle thing of like, oh, I've made this really complicated situation. I'm just going to pick like a messy, quick way out of it without really thinking of the ramifications.
Yeah.
And I find it personally quite hard to justify for Elle because she just turns on her so quickly. And like, I don't think Cressida to Elle has done enough to justify this response.
Nope, not yet.
In time. And Eloise keeps making digs at her wanting attention. But it's like, Elle, if you'd literally just listened to what she was saying at the engagement ball, you would fully understand the position Cressida's in. And you can understand why she's so desperate to figure something out. And Cressida asks Elle to join her in writing Whistledown, but Elle is just aghast at the notion.
Yeah.
And this moment, I think it's really funny because it's like Eloise momentarily forgets that Cressida isn't Whistledown because she's like, yeah, and you know what? Look what you wrote about me last year. And it's like, you know that wasn't her. It's just, she's using all of these excuses to get away from her, and it just drags her character down a little bit.
And Eloise casually drops that she can't be Cressida's friend any longer and makes to leave. The two soon-to-be ex-friends' conversation was originally a little longer and a little more hurtful. In the show, Cressida asks, is this truly about Whistledown? And in the script she added, or is it that miserable wallflower you keep running back to? I am not blind, Eloise. She continued by saying, for whatever reason, you are obsessed with Penelope Featherington, and you cannot stand that she has moved on without you. To which Eloise replied, the only one moving on is me, from you. For a moment, I thought your frankness was refreshing, but it is just meanness disguised as truth after all. And then the conversation continued much as it does in the actual show, with Cressida saying, you wish for the truth, it is no wonder Penelope abandoned you. All you ever do is talk. You are clearly just envious that I have made something of myself.
Sounds a bit familiar. And Jess Madsen talked about this particular scene where she falls out with Elle at the bands. She said, the pressure of everything going on is too much. It starts to outweigh her reason. She becomes a driving force to get what she needs and what she wants. She opens up with Eloise and then she shuts really quickly when Eloise is like, I'm not going to help you. It happens very quickly, and when she says, I can't do this, the sharpness comes straight back in, which I think just shows as a protection because her vulnerability has been threatened. She's scared. A lot of it is working with fear. And I think that's what's complicated about this scene is you really understand why Cressida turns so quickly. We understand the difficult position she's in, and we know that she's lashing out because that's her sort of default setting, isn't it? Like, I tried to be vulnerable with you, it didn't work, so now I'm going to go into like attack bitch mode. Whereas I don't know that Elle's reasons hold up in the same way.
And obviously you said this scene was a bit familiar, and they kind of allude to this in the script because the all you ever do is talk line is exactly what Penn said to Elle during their fight in 208. Even the scene description notes that Elle has heard something very similar before in her fight with Penelope last year, and this time she's not afraid to admit that she is envious of Lady Whistledown. Eloise continues by saying she now is beginning to understand why someone might be driven to write Lady Whistledown, especially after feeling invisible herself. Her allegiance has definitely shifted.
Oh, it's like you can begin to understand why someone might write Whistledown, but you can't understand why someone might pretend to be Whistledown. Do you know what I mean? It's like one issue at a time I think she can sort of metabolize.
Yeah.
And it's just such a turn because Cressida didn't announce this to spite Penn.
Yeah.
But obviously Eloise is still angry at her taking credit, and I think she's probably feeling guilty about the fact that she's buddied up with Penn's enemy for the best part of a year.
For some reason, Eloise just can't imagine being friends with two people at once.
At the same time.
Especially if they're at odds. Yeah. Imagine how Colin feels. Sorry.
Imagine how Ben would feel next year.
Yeah.
But I think maybe as well, it is just the notion that she disagrees with, because maybe what upsets her so much is that Cressida is blatantly lying to Eloise. It's like, I know that you're not Whistledown. You don't know that I know. But I know that you're not. And so you're just lying to me.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe like a generous way to look at it. And maybe Eloise just doesn't like the notion that she's taking credit for something that she hasn't built.
Yeah.
It's like, I can respect now with distance what Penelope did and what Penelope built. But you're just lying and taking credit for like the bricks that someone else laid. And I think Elle is also like, I actually like hanging out with Penn, and I always did. And now I'm back on her side. So we've all had friends that ditch you because they get a better offer.
Yeah. In happier news, look how cute Finch is when he praises a very tired-looking Philippa, describing her as cute as a chocolate box. Meanwhile, Pen and Colin walk out of the church arm in arm, causing Portia to remark that they make such a charming couple, do they not?
They do look a charming couple, so we can't disagree with you there, Portia.
Prudence is once again not happy to have lost her mother's attention to her younger sister, and she takes a lot of this frustration out on Philippa, implying that she not only is not carrying the heir, but that her baby girl is stealing her beauty. Meanwhile, as Lady Danbury and Vi discuss Frohn, Lady Danbury wonders if the two lovebirds still sit in prolonged silences. Violet admits that they talk a bit more now, and the script goes a bit further, revealing that Fran likes to talk about music, and John likes to talk about architecture, which is the reason why we later hear him talking about porticos at the end of this conversation. The script at that point would also have cut over to John for a little comic beat, with us hearing him pointing out more architectural features of the church to an intrigued Fran, saying, "The semicircular colonnade is an elegant feature," making Lady Danbury and Vi giggle a bit. I think maybe they cut this because what's revealed after this point with Violet confessing that she respects the match but still has doubts about Frohn, the drama of that would have been cheapened slightly by a jokey moment about his interest in architecture.
Yeah, and also it would be mean to like point and laugh and make fun of someone for their conversation.
And in the script, Lady Danbury also offered to arrange an audience between Vi and Queen Charlotte at the Mondriche ball, but cautioned her that she should approach the Queen when she was in high spirits, which I thought was funny. But we have a very sweet moment as Penelope and Colin then reach Violet and Lady Danbury, being warmly embraced by the two of them. Book fans will especially love seeing Lady Danbury exclaim, "Marvellous!" as they fuss over Polin.
Oh, it's lovely for Polin, but not so lovely for Frohn. Fran sends a death stare over to her mother, furious at the difference in treatment they're receiving for their own engagement. It's so stark and in public. It's just rude. Polin are being embraced while Frohn is being held at arm's length. If you've been a very long-term listener of the pod, you'll know that we used to think the opposite would be true. We used to think that Violet was going to fawn over Fran and John, not really realising that the whole Pen and Colin story was the real love story of the season.
We got the reverse.
How wrong we were on that one.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, we believe in you, even if Violet doesn't. And our listener Victoria's here said, so my question relates to what we don't see in the episode. We know at the very least there are 2 other readings of the banns, so it's a minimum of 3 weeks in total. How much are Pen and Colin meeting up outside of what we are shown? Surely there are at least some sneaky snogs, right? Promenading, ices at Gunter's.
Oh.
Yeah, the timeline does go a bit wonky, doesn't it?
Yeah, timeline's wild.
Oh, don't worry about it, babe.
Yeah.
It was like super compressed for like 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then between this episode and next episode, it's like weeks on end. I would have wanted to see, do you know, there was like more humour in this episode.
Yeah.
I'd have liked to have seen them sort of like hooking up, hanging out, sneaking around.
Yeah, sneaking around, yeah.
Because there's so much comic potential there as well. And yeah, who knows? Did they sleep together again? Probably not, because it sounds like it was just the one and done time, the couple rounds.
More Colin, my future wife, Bridgerton, would have been great at this point.
With an edge of chaos.
Also, 'cause I feel like she would start having symptoms of her pregnancy, you know? Like, she would definitely start to notice.
She might find out at some point. Yeah, I don't know.
Just
Yeah.
scenes of her hunched over a chamber pot.
Yeah.
Great. I'd have turned off.
And Varley would be like, did we give her the potion? Sorry.
Yeah, it is like, I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of shenanigans and a lot of fun. Sneaking in through a bedroom window, perhaps.
Through the stairwell at Bridgerton House. Penelope knows how to sneak into Bridgerton House. Why didn't we see that?
Where is this? Where is the impatience to be married? Where is the moving up a couple of weeks? That was a great book moment that we could have seen.
Oh, because there was that cut moment back in season 1 where Penelope bumps into Colin as she's sneaking out after the Marina reveal. It would be great if there was like a callback to that where Eloise exits her bedroom and sees like the door to Colin's bedroom shutting or something like that. And it turns out they'd come over for tea and have decided to have a quickie, and she just rolls her eyes because like they're just so disgusting.
Yeah, there's so much potential for it, but alas. On that note, Veg has to fly away, so we will see you later, Veg. Beans, you are sticking around with us for the rest of the ep.
Yes.
And you may still hear Veg's voice here and there.
I will be bringing you outfit tidbits and my bow score, of course.
Absolutely. Farewell, kind of, Veg. We'll see you around.
Bye.
Later that night, we find Penelope in her bedroom, about to hide her quill and papers away under her floorboards.
Roll up, roll up. It's the dramatic hair down nightgown look. It's also the perfect dramatic look for some paper burning.
Penelope then catches sight of her ring, which she touches for a moment before coming to a pretty bleak decision. Reaching into the floorboards, she pulls out her copies of Lady Whistledown and chucks her life's work into the fire.
Depressing.
Yeah.
I hate it. I cannot tell you how much I hate it. I think it like taps into something in my psyche.
Yeah.
Never do this.
No.
Ever. I'm genuinely so upset that she like burnt her copies. I think the only thing that redeems this for me is someone must have had some spares. Like I'm betting that Hyacinth had spares somewhere.
Eloise has a drawer full.
Well, she ripped all hers up though.
Well, she had the original. She finds it later this episode. Maybe she had 2 copies of each issue.
That would be very Eloise. Like it disturbs me, the thought that she burnt them. I know it's dramatic, but no.
Yeah.
Unacceptable to me.
Well, this might cheer you up, Ovs, as the script says that we find Colin burning the midnight oil, not his issues of Lady Whistledown, encouraged by the confirmation of Pen's love with a satisfied grin on his face.
Wait, he's touching himself?
No. No, he's writing.
He's writing.
I guess it could go either way, burning the midnight oil.
I mean, with a pen in his hand, an actual pen.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Pick your poison.
You know what? You know what goes on late at night in that study is between him and his stick.
And God.
I thought that was just like a cutscene we were figuring out, you know?
Can you imagine? Meanwhile, Pen is devastatingly burning her life's work. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
he's
Colin's
just
cranking it.
He's ripping one out across the road. Now that is nightmare fuel. Jesus Christ. On reflection, part 2 perfect. Don't change a single thing. Well, this whole thing is traumatizing. No matter what Colin's doing across the road, it's traumatizing. The show even has the audacity to play happy, bouncy music over Colin writing, as if we haven't just seen something horrific.
Right.
And I honestly think like I'm ready to throw myself in the fire because I know that the point is that these 2 scenes are like they're huge implications. Like, she has made the decision. We should be sat here being like, okay, so she's made the decision. What are the implications of her decision? What are the consequences of her giving up her dreams for Colin's dreams? But I don't want to talk about it because I think it's just horrible.
Yeah.
Another thing is anyone who's read Little Women, they know that this is traumatic. The manuscript burning scene, don't do it.
Yeah.
And Scribble Vinyl says, my heart just breaks when the scene transitions from Pen burning her life's work while Colin is creating his own. And that's the contrast.
Yeah.
It's like he has been so elevated by her love confession and safe in their love story now that it's opened up his dreams for him while she's had to sacrifice it. And it is the sort of the visual contrast, but hate it.
Yeah.
Hope she had spares.
Over at the Mondriches residence, preparations are underway for a ball, and they're going for a floral theme, it appears. Sir Philip, you would have loved it.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Rest in season 5. You know.
Yeah.
Did he die too? It'll be like the zombie edition, like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies will be like Eloise's love story. A gothic romance for the ages. But we find Portia planning the Polin wedding with Penelope. Portia likes the green napkins, but perhaps silver would be a better choice.
And the thing is, we've talked about worse things on this podcast. I mean, case in point, Colin across the road. But is this like a really weird hint at season 4? Changing green for silver?
You mentioned this to me and I was like, it's a stretch, but you know, go for
We
it.
stretch farther.
Yeah.
Changing green for silver.
Yeah, so green is the Polin colour, and then
Silver for Benefi.
I see.
Yeah.
Sophie is the lady in silver.
I see.
Yes.
And we were talking, well, we had a very in-depth conversation about it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fully acceptable as like a member of the fandom to believe this is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I believe worse. Anyway, Penelope indulges Portia's choices and says, let us plan the greatest wedding Mayfair has ever seen. Now her dreams are ash in the fireplace. She's trying her best to really genuinely throw herself into the wedding planning. She's all in on Colin, and she smiles to see how happy it makes her mother. And there's that guilt as well, where, like we talked about, you really see how much those early conversations with Portia had an influence on Pen and what she's trying to learn from her mother and how you step forward into a life without your dreams.
This is literally their relationship healing before our eyes. It's actually really sweet.
Yeah.
It is sweet, yeah. And I think you see that lingering here with Pen, where she chooses to closely align herself with Portia, almost like a, you know how to do this, you know how to give yourself over to marriage and let me follow in your footsteps kind of vibe.
Or also she knows that this wedding planning is making Portia very happy.
Yeah.
And so she's happy to kind of let her mom revel in it a little bit.
And it's like, it's worth it. It's worth it for the people you love to be happy.
And to make them happy.
Yeah.
Later, we find Pen visiting Jen in her new shop, which we can only imagine is to cater to a wider and perhaps taller clientele. Why, you ask? Because if you look closely, you can spot what appears to be a 10-foot-long dress in the corner of the room.
Favourite spot of ours one day would appear in an object game in a distant land.
Yeah.
But a nice little catch-up. We haven't seen Jen in a hot minute. How's she doing?
Yeah. Jen, speaking in a French accent, declares that it has been too long since she last saw Penelope, reminding us that Pen has not been writing. There's a little bit of cut dialogue here where Jen mentions her new shop as well, saying, "Finally, you have come to visit my new shop," to which Pen would have replied, "It is quite an improvement, the much-deserved result of all your hard work."
There's an unnamed body's crying in Vienna as we speak. And Genevieve mentions Pen's engagement, to which Penelope says she's very happy. And she also mentions that the last few weeks have gone by in such a whirlwind, which again reminds us of how fast this has gone for her. Genevieve assumes that Pen is going to continue with Lady Whistledown, but this is when Penelope reveals, "I'm letting Miss Cowper take the credit for the column." And in a cut line, she would have gone on to say, "or for what used to be the column.
Because it's changed now, yeah.
The issue you read about my engagement will be my last." Dun, dun, dun.
In the script, Genevieve kind of pushes back a little further, asking, "What about our partnership?" And Penelope's like, "Oh, I thought you would be happy. You're no longer in danger of being revealed to the queen." And Genevieve presses the issue even further by saying, "What will you do without your column?" Jen is taken aback that Pen is giving up her life's work and subtly tries to discourage Pen from giving up her dream by explaining how she feels whenever she sees a bride taking in her wedding dress, adding she could never give that feeling up. But Pen insists that she has found a love match and doesn't wish to take that for granted. 207 vibes.
Genevieve was so needed in this episode, I think. And I'm really glad that we have this moment with Penelope with her. Because I think that when Jen hears her, she can hear there are other people's voices in Penelope's perspective. She's like, I know you.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't coming directly from you. You're being swayed by someone. And it doesn't sit right with Jen at all that Penelope is going to sacrifice the work she loves. Because Jen is the only person in Pen's life who has this perspective, who has worked for something and built something and understands what that means to build. And she understands that there are sacrifices involved. And the thing is with Jen, we know she's more the other way. So if you remember what she told Ben in season 2, Jen, Ben and Ben, it's one of those nightmares again. I've got again, even rhymed. If you remember what Genevieve told Benedict in season 2, she rebuffed him and she said that her work mattered more than her love affairs.
Yeah.
And so if you have a spectrum, you've got Portia and kind of Eloise on, ironically, on the side of marriage is great.
Love matches, yeah.
That's when you know Eloise doesn't know what's going on. And then you have Jen on the complete other side, which is like, I dedicate my life to my business above all else.
Yeah.
And you know that Pen is a person who's in the middle, who wants all of it. And so because she's kind of gone so far the other way this episode, it's really good to have Jen balancing her back out a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Could have done that before she burnt the Whistledown papers, but better late than never.
As Pen takes this in, she takes in her reflection in the mirror, affected by Jen's words, but trying to be happy as Jen promises her a beautiful dress of her own for her wedding.
Penelope's always had a complicated relationship with her own reflection because it's always tied into her concealing parts of her true self, or like episode 2 where she sort of looked in the mirror and felt like herself for the first time. It's always been very tied up with her issues of identity. But as she looks at this version of herself, who is a girl who's giving up her dreams for her husband, you can tell that she's not fully settled in what she sees reflected back.
Yeah.
But how is she looking, Reg?
So Pen's outfit here is kind of unusual. She's got a textured dress that's purposely crumpled. It's almost feather-like to me. Kind of looks like a bird. It's quite a deeper teal, and this look actually harkens back to the 303 dream sequence look. This does have emulations of that. This could therefore be an indication that Pen is moving more towards Colin's vision of her and his dreams now that she's given up on Whistledown. She's accessorised with tiny little pom-pom-like mesh hairpins. It is, though, quite a demure look, and her hair is tucked to the side, just like her future writing career.
You all know we love a mirror reference though, and here we get 3 angles of Penelope. Colin would be all over this mirror, probably, literally, especially if he's been busy like Beans thinks he has been.
Yep.
Over at the Cowpers, things aren't looking any better for Cressida. She overhears her parents angrily arguing over her. Daddy Cowps has been ousted from his club, so he's pulling her dowry. He doesn't care that she will lose her prospects because no one will have her anyway. He storms out, leaving Lady Cowper to find Cressida in her childhood nursery, attempting to write her own version of Lady Whistledown.
And what has she come up with, Veg?
Dear reader, it is I, Lady Whistledown. Today I bring you much gossip from about the many lands, near and far. Far and wide.
The many lands always kills me. But the many lands. Mayfair and beyond. Anyway.
Oh, it is really childish as well, the way she writes it. And it's pitiful. You see how young and lost and vulnerable she is. And they chose to situate her in her childhood nursery. So you really feel it. When she says she's frightened, you really see that cool exterior has crumbled. And she's just a young girl who doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. And Jess Matson offered some insight into this by saying, Cressida's mother starts to realize this is incredibly serious and starts to help Cressida. But I think what's interesting is that they have a very cold relationship to start with. There's not a lot of warmth there, and this seems like the first time warmth is creeping in. I don't think her parents gave her a lot of warmth. There's something cold there in the Cowper house. But we do see that she is warm in a very controlled way, and you see this restriction that Cowper women have in a really sad way, but also a really tough way. She goes on to say that Cressida is a blueprint of her parents who are a blueprint of theirs. You can see it in the Cowper house, all of these male statues haunting the walls. This is a scary ancestry. Meanwhile, over at the Bridgerton house, Elle is getting ready for the Mondriches ball. She rummages through her drawers and finds a copy of the very first issue of Lady Whistledown.
Of all bitches, dead or alive, a scribbling woman is the most canine. If that should be true, then this author should like to show you her teeth.
Now that her anger and jealousy, of course, have cooled after, only a year, and now that she's been able to understand Penelope's perspective, Eloise finds that she has this space to really admire Penelope's writing. Because if you remember back to season 1, Eloise was always idolising the writer. Even in season 2, she wanted to discover who she was because she revered her. And the humiliation and anger took over those emotions for her. And it's only now that she has the distance to self-reflect and to look back and to really observe the skill and the craft, which is what she fell in love with initially. And she recognises just what kind of feat Pen has managed to pull off. Better late than never. But she's now finally officially back on Pen's side. Sorry, Cress.
Over at Tilly's place, Ben's having dinner with Tilly and her friend, Paul. Paul hits a nerve when he asks Ben if he has any creative pursuits such as painting, and Ben not only senses a connection between Tilly and Paul, but also feels drawn to Paul despite himself. Interesting.
Painting mentioned.
Painting mentioned.
But then nothing. It just it devolves into nothing.
And I'm sorry, guys, but if we rush over some of the Benedict, Paul, Tilly stuff...
You understand.
It's a big episode.
Right.
We've got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
I think we can all sit and agree. A great actor. We'll visit him again in future episodes.
But just also genuinely, why was he there?
When a storyline is so inconsequential, it just is a bit frustrating because, the premise of it, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a really interesting arc for Benedict to have.
Yeah.
But because of the way it ends, you just kind of feel like, what was any of that for? Because if the story is teaching Benedict that, he can have different partners and he doesn't mind what gender or sexuality or anything someone is, it's like, okay, that's a revelation.
Yeah, they never actually get there.
Yeah, and it's like, well, he's meeting Sophie next year. So, what are you going to do with it?
I don't think any of this, him, having bi tendencies, whatever, very heteroflexible, is, going to translate at all into his season. I don't think they're going to bring it up again. I don't think they're going to talk about any of that shit, if I'm being honest.
I think we'll see him have flings, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting that Colin says, this is the happiest you've ever been. And here we get a reminder that he hasn't even thought about painting.
No.
Yeah.
What is that about?
His character's so lost.
Ben, babe, we'll get you a map at some point. But for now...
The floral ball is now underway. The Bridgertons are here, and Colin is happily in tow.
And how is he looking, Veg?
Colin is wearing a waistcoat I really like, and we're seeing his debut here. Lovely. It's a dark black, I think, and it's got gold leaf detail on it. Really love this. Please, someone make me a dress out of this. And we see this again in episode 8, but I'm a big fan of it here. I'm a big fan of its debut. He's letting shirt ruffles poke through, and he's topping it off with the dark cravat.
Pen has yet to arrive to the ball, but the true star of this evening is already present. We are speaking, of course, of the flower Dalek. How is she looking, Veg?
Well, what a spectacle indeed. In the state we first see it, it's trying to somewhat blend in, is our lovely flower Dalek. There are flower paintings around it, which match those on the wall. Wall flowers, if you will. The Dalek also has some real flowers that you can see in a mixture of shades of orange, white and pink that match the rest of the decor. Production designer Alison Gartshaw shared that the flowers painted around were selected to align with Alice and Rill's relationship with their flower language, which is super cute. So things like geranium for sincerity, rhododendron for strength, amaryllis for pride, passion flower for faith. So that's cute. The Dalek itself is an imposing turret towering above the guests, but for the moment it's sitting idle, hiding its secret. Not unlike our protagonist.
Lady Danbury catches Marcus checking out Vi and quickly drags some widows in his direction while the Featheringtons finally arrive. Portia dotes on Penelope, praising her dress for the evening by saying, "I've never liked that color, but it is winning on you." This is a vast departure from the Portia of 301 who was complaining about Pen's melancholy dress color.
Now, Penelope arrives in a colour we've seen her in a good few times by now, but this time it earns a compliment from Portia, so we love. This dress has little 3D flowers on all the way down to the bottom and also trimming the sleeves, which I think is lovely. Her hair is down with a cute clip holding back one side, and she's wearing silver jewellery again, which is sure to clash with her ring. Bad job, Colin.
And Polly Walker spoke about this moment to the Bridgerton podcast. She said it's an acknowledgement of her daughter's achievements. She's been forced to look at her with fresh eyes and recognise that she's not my little pet or my little dolly, and she's an individual doing really well. And Polly Walker was asked whether this little moment of acknowledgement between the two was an active olive branch that Portia was using to bridge across and heal old wounds. But Polly had a really interesting take on it. She said, maybe on Penelope's perspective, so maybe Pen read that scene that way, but I don't think Portia's that evolved yet. I think that's maybe next series. Oh,
Interesting.
I think it's an opportunity for Penelope to recognise that her mother is trying. It's not an easy relationship, it's not a perfect relationship, but she does recognise that she has misjudged Penelope and that actually she's pretty special. And I thought that was a really sweet way to look at it, because it shows that Portia doesn't have an ulterior motive with her compliment. She's not just saying it to like make up for past wrongs. She's just genuinely taking in her daughter with new eyes and is proud of what she sees and just tells her because she is. But speaking of eyes, Prue's are welling up as she watches Portia fuss over Pen, but she's definitely not crying. It's just the baby pushing water up into her eyes.
Portia then asked, "Where is your dashing fiancé?" Portia absolutely loves Colin now.
Welcome to the club, Portia. You're welcome on the podcast anytime. Colin is actually a little bit busy helping out with the Mondriches now.
Some cut dialogue from Colin's exchange with Will and Alice also foreshadowed the Lady Whistledown reveal at the end of the episode. Initially, he pointed to a large mystery box on display and asked what was inside. Alice replied by saying, "Wouldn't you like to know? We all have our secrets." Colin then responded by saying he was intrigued, which I also think was meant as foreshadowing with him picking up on Pen's strange behavior later at this ball.
Has Pen also got a floral Dalek inside of her?
She's wearing florals, so yeah, maybe. But never mind that. The Queen has finally made an appearance. She is less than impressed with the lackluster, at best, decor until the flower Dalek finally unfolds. There's also some really funny scene description for this moment, where it says, "Off the Queen's dissatisfaction, Alice nods to a box handler. On cue, a string is pulled and the box opens. As the sides come down, a magical garden grows from within, tendrils unfurling down and out onto the floor. The crowd gasps at the beauty. Will and Alice look up to discover the Queen is smiling. She raises a brow at Alice, and then it says that she's thinking, "Okay, new girl." Very funny.
As the secrets of this Dalek are revealed, the mechanical beast opens to reveal a beautiful work of papercraft by paper artist Anna Mareka Klusterhoff. The team spent a couple of weeks working out the mechanics of it, including looking at pop-up books, and the point of it was to give something of the time really, really impressive to the Queen. And she's had that wig with the swans in, so it was going to take a lot. And I think this is fun. A bit of fun. Why not?
At this point, hilariously, Queen Charlotte was supposed to do a little golf clap with the rest of the guests slowly joining in.
What's a golf clap?
Oh, it's
You know,
like a...
Like a little golf clap.
Oh, I thought you meant like a really sarcastic.
It's like a polite, so like when people are golfing and they hit really good, you don't cheer, you just do a polite clap. Yeah. It's very...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
So the other guests would have joined in, and then Alice would have declared, "The secret is revealed," which would have been very funny, but maybe a little hokey at the same time.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
And I have to wonder if the secret was maybe that she had a degree in mechanical engineering and an affinity for origami.
And she's the one that pops out of the Dalek. She's like, "Oh yeah, here I am."
Yeah, that could have been it.
Someone popping out of it would have been great.
Uh-huh.
And there's like cake.
Imagine Cressida hiding in there with her little Whistledown cards to like throw them everywhere.
That should have been Cressida's entrance, yeah.
Uh-huh.
As Colin sweeps Pen into a dance, Fran urges Violet to approach the Queen. Violet's hesitance upsets Fran, who knows exactly what Violet's real issue is. As the two go back and forth, Violet blurts out, "I do not wish to ruin things for you." Fran is not pleased and directly challenges her mother on how exactly she thinks it could ruin things. John, sensing an argument brewing, tactfully steps away to go look at the very fine wainscoting.
That's apparently what the Dalek's called, guys. Who knew?
Fran then calls Violet out for still not supporting the match and accuses her of being perfunctory in her support. In the script, Violet adds a little more detail in the scene, saying Lord Sterling is delightful, but and then Francesca cuts her off and says, what, is this about the butterflies again? And the scene description says that Violet blinks and her inability to deny this is enough to tell Fran that that's exactly what this is about. Fran shakes her head, so she definitely isn't supporting this match deep down inside. This may not be the kind of love that Violet wanted for her, but Fran loves John nonetheless and finds it easy to love him.
I like that even though Fran is quite quiet and reserved in the house, that she stands up to Violet, because she fully calls her out. She's like, fuck off. You are just being
perfunctory at best.
Why was it okay for Anthony to marry Edwina?
Mm-hmm.
And why is it okay for XYZ? And yet when it's me...
Upset with herself, Vi leaves the ballroom. Marcus attempts to go after Violet, only to get into a heated argument with Lady Danbury. Marcus is sick of speaking to widows. He has a genuine affection for Violet and just wants to follow after her. But Lady Danbury stops him and lays claim on Violet. Lady Danbury exclaims, "Must you take everything from me?"
Marcus defends himself, saying he had no power over having his father's favour.
But Lady Danbury finally snaps and reveals the true reason for her animosity, explaining Marcus prevented her from fleeing the night before her wedding to her wretched husband. Marcus tries to reach out to her by calling her Soma, her born name, but Lady Danbury is unmoved and goes to find Violet.
Yikes. I don't know with this. Should this have come a bit earlier?
Probably.
Is this another one where we don't deal with it, then it kind of gets brushed over really quickly in the next episode?
I feel like this was their attempt to tie in the Queen Charlotte plot, but it just feels a little forced to me.
Yeah.
And like you said, that we have so much other stuff to deal with that this drama kind of feels like a little bit of a waste of time, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard because he sort of has a quick rebuttal to it, doesn't he? He's like, oh, I didn't intentionally do that.
I didn't know. Yeah.
How far can you push that then? Whereas if it had have been like a little bit more complicated, like there was a reason, or I don't know, it's quickly sort of brushed over, I think. I think the resolution to it is so quickly handled that it's another of those moments either have dealt with it earlier or I don't know.
It's a hard one to criticize because Adjua's acting is really, really good. But I just feel like the writer's attempt to include the drama from Queen Charlotte here, there's so much going on that I'm not sure we had enough time for this.
But then it's linked into Marcus and Violet. It's kind of wedged into a ball where it doesn't have time to breathe.
Yeah. Maybe she should have just been worried that he is this ladies' man persona.
Yeah.
Because that would even have parallels with Colin's own storyline where he comes back and everyone thinks he's a rake and he's not really. And that might have been more effective because then it kind of ties into the main love story as opposed to revealing this secret here.
Yeah, it just doesn't really have the space to breathe.
Yeah.
But we take it as it comes.
Meanwhile, Ben receives a shock of his own as sparks fly between himself and Paul, and again when he catches Paul and Tilly in an embrace. The script says that Ben's frozen, partly confused, but also sorta turned on. Tilly and Paul invite Ben to join them upstairs, but Ben responds to this invitation by bolting out the front door.
I remember that was one of the only spoilers we had originally, that Benedict was going to run away from a threesome.
Yeah.
Imagine hearing that out of context. We were like, another season for Pen.
Yeah.
Back at the floral ball, Pen and Colin are dancing together yet again, and Archer Marsh is back on the strings as Demi Lovato's Confident begins to play.
When Pen remarks that this dance doesn't hold a candle to the one they shared in the church where they will be married, Colin charmingly declares that they should add some flourish to their dance, cutely spinning Penelope.
And Murphy's Mama, a lovely listener, said, not a question, but more of a squee observation. When Colin gives an impromptu twirl with Pen at the Mondriche ball, my heart swooned so hard.
Aww.
He's showing off his fiancée and so proud to have secured his true love.
It's so cute.
It harkens back to that season 1 Daphne moment where she was like, oh, my brother, always showing off.
But it seems as though it's time for Lady Whistledown to make an appearance, and the description for this moment reads, Scarlet Letter be damned, she is the Scarlet Letter, dressed in a fiery red gown. The Tawn's collective jaw hits the floor as Cressida soaks up the attention, only a flicker of fear behind her eyes. Some turn away, reviled, while others watch her like a car wreck. Mamas pull their daughters closer and the crowd parts, no one wanting to be near this ruined woman. Ingle on Lady Stowell signing to Miss Stowell, and she says, do not speak to that devil. At the very beginning of this episode, Lord Cho describes Cressida in similar terms as being hellborn, and she's a vision straight out of hell here in her red dress with its voluminous bows and sharply cut bodice. And Portia remarks, a scandal writer for a daughter, can you imagine? Imagine it with us, Portia, is what Colin would say.
Jess Madsen spoke about her affection for this dress, saying, the red dress is my favourite. I've never worn a dress like it in my life. It was wearing a sculpture. It was huge on my back, and I loved the shoulders going up in this vampire's wife-esque with the point. I just felt very powerful in it. A lot of the time, the costume gave me her strength and her structure, because to walk in that red dress, that's brave. It had these teardrops hanging off the headpiece, and my makeup was red, I had red eyes. They went to town on the red.
And Murphy's mama again commented on this scene saying, Cressida's entrance at the Mondriches ball was incredible. The hair, the dress, the red colour and the song, utter brilliance. I love her entrance so much.
It's so good. One of my favorite moments in part 2. This always reminds me of Jaws, especially at the tail end of the song as she's cutting through the dance floor. She makes her way to the wall. I feel like she's just like a shark cutting through the room.
Yeah, because the way the music is, it genuinely has that.
The beats like dun, dun, dun.
It is the perfect mic drop moment. Muffin's mama said, do you think Cressida deserved to have a bit more time to shine as a fake Lady Whistledown? I'd have loved to see her crash and burn a bit harder when she's outed. Maybe have a devilish potential suitor revoke his offer to court her.
Oh, sad.
It would have been cool to, like, again, let her breathe a little bit in that moment before it gets completely captured by everyone kind of just hating on her.
And that would also make Penelope's dilemma feel more significant as she's literally seeing Cressida steal the limelight from her.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally seeing her physically masquerade in her space because Penn's had to keep it from fear of what being outed would look like.
Right.
It'd be really cool because it would show Penelope what life would have been like for her if she was Lady Whistledown openly. If she had suitors, attention, her voice mattered in public, not just on the page. It'd be really interesting.
Also, if anyone was worried that Cressida's arrival would cause a fight between Cho and Emma, worry not. Lord Cho has come over to Emma's side in adoring Whistledown. He concedes that although he detests Cressida, as Lady Whistledown, she is a clever writer, foreshadowing why it is perhaps that the Ton aren't that bothered about Penn being the writer, or why they certainly don't seem to like openly hate her in episode 8.
Yeah.
Because what you find out in this episode is they specifically don't like Cressida as a person.
Right.
And so when she's outed as Whistledown, they treat her with vitriol because of who she is.
Right.
Whereas they don't really know who Penn is as a person beyond being a Bridgerton by that point. And so their innate admiration for Lady Whistledown as a writer sort of steps in and replaces any vitriol they might have. So maybe that's why they're not like baying for her blood when she is revealed at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Queen decides to let Cressida squirm a little as Colin assures the squeamish Penelope that he won't let Cressida ruin their night. We'll see how that goes, Colin. But as they continue to dance, Penn treads on Colin's toes, feeling envious as the other guests continue to gossip about Cressida.
And Scribble Vinyl said, just an observation, I thought it was impolite to dance with the same partner more than twice, but Penn and Colin definitely did 3. Do you think they're going to be added to the list of improper couples mentioned in 302? Absolutely, that's so cute. That's
Love it.
Such a Colin thing to do, like those gentle breaking of the rules of propriety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Colin goes on to tell Penn that he's been editing his travel diaries, largely due to her encouragement. Penn protests when Colin reveals he's removing some of the more personal passages, but she's appeased when he clarifies they are only for her to read. The girl likes her smut. My sex stories are just for you, babe.
My partners have had sex with other people, and it's like, you know, talking about experiences that I've had, but straight up reading, like, fuck this bitch, but well, I'm not sure. I don't think that's how Colin said it. But, like,
Can you imagine?
like, I don't think I'd want to read diary entries of the sex that my, because it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, this guy like tied me up one time, and then that's like one thing. It's like, I mean, maybe I like it. It's another thing to be like,
I lost my virginity to a widow. She also gave me this ring.
yeah, it's another thing to be like, I use red satiny fucking sheets to tie that bitch to the bed. Like, I don't want to read that. No.
I like that your version of Colin just refers to women as bitches.
Yeah. She had a birthmark on her right butt cheek. Like, I don't care. I don't want to read those things.
Yeah.
Maybe he does need editing after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is like she's so het up by his writing because she's like a writer girl at heart.
She's just titillated by it.
Yeah, you're with other people, but beautifully written, babe.
I know, yeah. Speaking of editing, Penn leaps at the chance to offer her editing services, clumsily arguing that she enjoys writing letters and what have you. Penn only offers to edit because she's grasping at straws here, trying to retain some semblance of her own dream. The script confirms this, saying that she is thinking this is a way forward for her, and when Colin rejects her offer, the script says that her face falls, her chance at channeling her talents dashed.
Oh, that's really upsetting because Penn is just trying to find some way of still pursuing her love for writing. And she thinks she's going to have to do that through her husband, which is kind of what her mum said, right? It's like it all gets channeled through him. And it's even worse in this because in bringing up his writing and offering to edit it, it makes the reveal a lot worse, I think.
Colin declines Penn's assistance, although he sweetly tells her that she does write the very best letters, except when she doesn't respond to him, but never mind that.
Shh, in the past.
He wants to prove to himself that he can do it on his own and prove his worthiness to Penelope. She assures him that of course he is worthy, but Colin harbors some insecurities about his writing writing, which will make the Lady Whistledown reveal so much worse when the truth is revealed.
I remember when we first watched this, and I knew that as soon as that happened that we were doomed.
Yeah.
When she suggests editing his diaries, we know that she's doing it because she wants to still write, but he hears, oh, my writing needs editing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It taps straight back into the insecurity about his writing. And the fact that, because we knew the reveal was coming at this episode, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, God, the fact that like the last conversation they've had with each other before he finds out, it's her being like, your writing needs help.
Yeah.
Which isn't the truth, but that's what he hears. So it's just a recipe for disaster. And honestly, this was when I think I messaged and I was like, it's over.
Yeah.
It's going to be really bad.
Honestly, my best advice for any artist is just go into a classroom with young artists, like students who literally do not give a shit and they're in competition to be the meanest person in the room, and then just like get your art critiqued by them. It's the best way to get over it.
Yeah, that's one of the best ways to improve as a writer is to get criticism. But, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah. And editing is hard. We do it all the bloody time.
it is.
And the thing is those little art twinks are just gonna sit
Art
there
twinks.
and they're gonna shit on you so fucking much.
Yeah.
And you just have to take it. But that's the thing. They're not in a competition even to be like, oh, I am making the best art. They're in a competition to be the sassiest bitch out there. And they want to make everybody feel terrible. And while you're not always going to get the best corrective criticism, because sometimes, honestly, participation in our classes is like,
People's opinions are shitty sometimes.
yeah, and you get participation points in like art classes because you have to at least say something to be like you're involved in the conversation. So you'll totally question yourself, but then that gives you the outlet to learn how to like discern between good corrective criticism that's going to help you or criticism that just is dumb and like you can ignore it or look past it or whatever. But yeah, if every one of these Bridgerton kids needs to go to one of these art classes, including Ben.
You learn that like editing, there's like a level of depersonalization from your work when you're editing.
Right.
It's like killing your darlings is really painful.
I've learned from writing classes that you can learn from taking notes, whether they're bad or not. People's suggestions can really help you, or they can really reinforce that you have a better idea than they maybe think it is.
Right, yeah. But it gives you a chance to actually think about that for sure. But yeah.
But when you're Colin, who's already struggling with being vulnerable about his writing and feels insecure about it,
He's not in the place yet.
and then Whistledown comes along, who's this revered writer, and she's like, I'll edit your work.
If you can't take an art class, work in customer service.
Yeah, you'll get criticized then. Don't you worry.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, Penelope treads on Colin's foot again as he notes Cressida approaching the queen. He wonders if it's finally time for the gossip writer to meet her consequences. All of this brings us back to the Polin promenade from 302, where Colin declared that he'd dance on the day of Lady Whistledown's demise. Here we find Polin dancing as Lady Whistledown's on the verge of finally receiving her comeuppance.
Dun dun dun.
The queen continues to seem skeptical of Cressida's claims, but that all changes when Cressida announces that she's prepared a gift for the queen. A flood of footmen enter the room with copycat Lady Whistledowns, which the guests all snatch, including one extra who's wearing Cressida's dress from the Featherington ball into a wait, by the way.
One of your favourites.
But the ballroom then descends into a Lady Whistledown frenzy as she has returned.
What's she got to say for herself, Veg?
Dearest gentle reader, it is said that there is no rest for the wicked. If that's true, this author must be rather virtuous, for I've been enjoying a much-needed respite from observing all of you. You may now know my name, but have no doubt, I know you even better. Yours truly, Lady Whistledown.
Lady Cowper adjusts her gloves, revealing ink stains on her arms. Interestingly, in the script, originally we would have heard her voice in voiceover instead of Cressida's, cementing the idea that she actually wrote this issue.
Oh, that's an interesting notion.
And if you look really closely at the Lady Whistledown cards, you can see they aren't properly printed and are not in the usual Lady Whistledown format or even the size. All signs that this Lady Whistledown is a fraud, but the Ton are far too caught up to notice. Unfortunately for Cressida, the queen won't be appeased until she sees Lady Whistledown's next full issue, which she expects the following morning. So it seems she's not entirely convinced either, which is interesting when you see in 308 how quickly she does accept Pen as Lady Whistledown with probably even less evidence, but that's a discussion for another day.
A letter that we'll never see. Could have said anything on there.
I wish we'd seen that letter. I actually, no, I did not want to see the letter. I wanted to see Pen and the Queen meeting.
How about a conversation?
Yeah, I really wanted a conversation between... We'll come back to it.
308.
Anyway, the scene description says that we find Pen equally freaked out, watching with complete envy and horror as everyone reacts, titillated to Cressida stealing her life. She looks around for Colin, but he is lost.
Not the titillation.
When suddenly, Eloise emerges through the crowd. The two of them see each other, and it's like there's no one else in the room. Only they can understand how screwed up this all is. Seeing Pen, Elle then starts short-circuiting, which I thought was a very funny way to describe it.
You should remember that your fiancé is in the room.
Yeah.
And probably is invested in your well-beings. Elle is freaking out even more than Pen is. And I guess this is one of those situations where, as we said, Elle is going to finally learn what it's like to have to write an issue in difficult situations.
Yeah.
As Pen pulls Eloise from the room, Colin takes notice and the camera zooms in to catch his reaction. It's really interesting what the script says when her and Elle look at each other. It feels like the only two of them in the world. It's like such like an original Penelope's moment.
It actually feels like a Polin moment because Penelope says, "Come with me." And it's so Featherington Ball 208, where Colin's watching literally his sister steal Penelope out of the ballroom, just like he did in season 2.
But she should have known he was going to follow because when he only has eyes for her, he's going to have eyes on you.
Yeah.
Right.
Doomed.
So in the other room, a scared Eloise tells Penelope that this entire situation is her fault.
And I know she's stressed out, but I find that line when she goes, "Now she has written something coherent." It's like one of my favourite lines. It's so brutal.
Again, poor Cressida. She just takes the brunt of it this episode.
I know.
You couldn't possibly be Lady Whistledown. You're not clever enough. You're not observant enough. You're not coherent enough.
We've created a monster pen. And it's like, a monster? She's just writing a piece of paper. You know, calm down. And that monster was your friend 5 minutes ago. And I like the fact that even Pen is like, calm a little bit, babe.
Yeah.
But Elle fears that she's endangered her family, just like she did last year, finally taking accountability for her own reckless actions last season. And she says that she regrets befriending Cressida, or the Viper, as she calls her, who now has nearly as much power as the Queen. Penelope, who always is a bit reckless when the Bridgertons are in need of saving, assures Elle that it will be all right because she plans to pick up her pen. With one issue, she will discredit Cressida because, as we said earlier, Whistledown is power. It is not just gossip.
Our listeners were very intrigued to know what Colin was up to during the scene. Scribble Vinyl and Sasha both wondered if he was listening to their conversation at the door. Scribble said, "I have a headcanon that he was listening, probably in denial, and he followed to ensure what he heard was right." And of course, Pen repeating it to the printer just confirms this. Whereas Sasha wondered if he wasn't listening, then what was he doing?
Because he does leave the room.
Well, he leaves the room, but we know he's not good at eavesdropping on their conversations. I like the idea that he is still in denial. He knows that something is vastly wrong. And I think this is when he starts to twig, oh, what she said in the church wasn't the secret.
Well, we also know from 305 that he's not very good at finding Penelope when she wanders off, even if she's breathing heavily behind the room right in front of him.
Yeah, she's lost him.
So I wonder if he went out, followed them out, but he wasn't sure what doorway they went through and he couldn't find her.
Just went the wrong way.
And even if they were speaking really loudly, he just couldn't hear them because it's a TV show and you just have to imagine that he couldn't possibly hear them.
Selective hearing.
But Pen finally explains why she began the column and pokes fun at her use of alliteration in her first issue, explaining that she felt powerless in her own home and writing offered her a voice. But she now knows that she should have been using Lady Whistledown to offer a voice to other voiceless people, criticizing her own past actions. She's done damage with her pen, but is now ready to use her power to do some good.
And let's be real, she's ready to pick the pen back up, isn't she? She feels most herself with that pen in her hand. And we will get into what she says about, you know, using it as a voice of the voiceless. And it's going to be interesting to see if she actually does that in season 4.
Yeah.
And how Whistledown evolves and changes. But this is the energy, the writing under the pressure, the getting the whistle down out, the regaining the power. When Elle tells her to get a full issue out right away, Penelope like snaps into her Whistledown gear again after being like adrift for the whole episode.
And this is where we have that callback to that earlier conversation and that cut line I mentioned where Eloise said that Penelope had lost her way. Here in Penelope's speech, she would have said, "But you're right, I lost my way." And we kind of agreed that they cut that because we don't really think Penelope lost her way in the end.
Yeah.
She called Colin out for being
fake. Yeah.
No lies detected, Pirate Colin.
Yeah.
And so Pen and Elle get to work. Whistledown is back in action. And Moonpie says, it really bothers me when Pen writes Whistledown in the carriage. Did she have her supplies with her? Moonpie, you're in luck, babe. Lecky has an answer for you.
I do. In another funny cut exchange, Penelope originally would have told Eloise that she didn't have quill and parchment, and Eloise luckily found both on a nearby desk in the study that they're in, so we kind of saw them working together to get the next issue out. But then she also revealed that she would need a bonnet and a cloak, and then we then see her wearing a borrowed cloak and one of the Mondriches maids' hats in the carriage.
Yeah.
Luckily, they decided to scrap that and give her a really cool green cloak.
Did she nick a Mondrich carriage?
No, I think it's the Featherington carriage.
But in the script, would it have been a Mondrich carriage?
No, I think it was supposed to be a Featherington carriage because in the cut dialogue, she mentions that she wants to get back to the ball before she's noticed that she left.
I'd have liked that moment, to be fair. I'd have liked the idea that she thought she could come back without being noticed.
Yeah.
And I understand why that little Pen and Elle scene was like a tableau was cut, but I think it'd been really funny. In this really serious scene, there's like this comedy of errors where they're just sort of plodding around.
We need to find an outfit. Yeah.
Oh, and we need this, and oh, we need this.
Yeah.
But I suppose we really do need to get going. Off to the carriage you go, or to the gallows. You know, synonymous at this point, babe, for you in your relationship.
So we cut to a carriage making its way down cobbled streets.
And my title for this section, guys, is Colin finally, fucking finally, finds out.
End scene.
Well done.
But anyway, we find Pen smiling to herself inside the carriage as she writes her issue discrediting Cressida. It may be a stressful situation, but a part of her has missed this. Also, at the start of the episode, we found Pen so angry that she was surrounded by failed attempts at discrediting Cressida, but with the clock ticking and the thrill of Lady Whistledown hitting her again, she manages to perfectly put pen to paper.
Yeah, you can't give this up, girl. But Veg, how is she looking?
Pen has thrown on a dark teal long coat with a hood to write on the go and rushed to the printers. Let's hope it's hooded enough to hide her face.
Pen knocks on the printer's door, apologising in her Irish accent for her late delivery and assures him he'll be paid handsomely for a rush service. I love the printer. He's such a good guy. He's like totally on her side.
Yeah.
He would not have betrayed you, babe.
Yeah.
He remarks anything for Lady Whistledown.
Murder, maybe? I don't know.
He'd be on his hands and knees for her.
Right.
And that makes Pen smile until she turns around and comes face to face with a betrayed Colin Bridgerton.
Colin!
Colin! She does like, Colin!
Yeah, Colin.
She struggles to breathe as he dramatically confronts her, asking, Beans?
You are Lady Whistledown!
Actually would have been really funny if she was like, Colin, and he was like, Lady Whistledown.
Donkey!
And off Pen's panicked, heaving breaths, we end our episode.
Girl needs an inhaler. Jesus Christ.
There's also some more funny scene description here where it says, as the printer heads inside, a smile sweeps across Pen's face. She's back, baby, which I think is really funny. But it says, as she turns, her smile quickly fades because they are just stepping out of the shadows is Colin.
Out of the shadows, named.
Out of the shadows.
Not in the way you wanted.
And the script specifies that there is a dark rage in his eyes. But his delivery, as we all know, ended up being a lot more emotional, which we will talk about next episode.
Yeah, that boy sobbed his little heart out, didn't he?
Yeah.
And there we have it at long last. We have the Whistledown reveal about bloody time. We will talk more about the reveal itself next episode, but of course there is similarity to the book where Colin followed Pen. And in the book, we were in his perspective as we chased Pen through the streets of Mayfair and down to the seedy parts of town. And some of our listeners said that they wish we'd seen this scene from Colin's perspective in the show, and I thought it was a really interesting point to raise. So Tracy said, did Pen just ditch him at the ball and run out the back door? Could we have seen that unfold from Colin's perspective?
Ooh, that's a really great point.
Yeah, Scribble said, I think I would have preferred to see the carriage ride to the printers all the way up to the Lady Whistledown reveal from Colin's perspective.
I think so too.
We have been seeing Pen's perspective since season 2.
Yeah.
I totally agree. What do you think, guys?
I agree.
I 100% agree. I feel like some people think that Colin doesn't get enough screen time in part 2. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I feel like this particular sequence would have been really great from his perspective.
He doesn't always have his agency, you know?
Right.
Well, because that is the big reveal, is Colin finding out, so it should have been from his POV, his point of view.
We should have been with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine his dread and also our dread and how they would have ratcheted up suspense if you see his carriage following her and like glimpses of her carriage in the distance or her cloak rounding a corner until finally he catches her outside the printers? Like how great that moment would have been.
Yeah. In the book, it's quite funny because he has like 5,000 thoughts in quick succession. He's like, she's going to meet someone else. She's going to my house. She's going to... And obviously it would have been a lot more serious had we seen it from his perspective. But also like, imagine the devastation on his face, because Luke is great at this work where he gets in confused and you go through that journey of him being confused and concerned and worried. And then this mounting fear of dread where he realizes what really he's kind of known all along. And I don't mean that he's known the Whistledown all along, but he's known that something's wrong.
Right.
And it is similar to the book where we would have been with Colin in that scene. I like the argument that Scribble made. It's like, we've been with Pen so many times. Do we need to be with her again? Do we need this? Like, we know she's Whistledown.
Right, yeah.
I think that's a really great point. Yeah.
Do we need to see her realization or do we need to see Colin's realization?
Yep, I agree.
I know that the intention is to make the audience have that gut punch realization when she turns and sees Colin.
Yeah.
But I think it's an example of where, and this happens quite a bit, we get cut out of some of the more interesting Lady Whistledown moments. It also happens in 308 where we never see the Queen's proper reaction.
Right.
And we never see Violet's reaction. And so I think we need to be with Colin there.
And I think it would have been so poetic to, if they ended the episode, we see it from Colin's point of view and his perspective, and we are like seeing Penelope looking at him, and then when it opens up the next episode, it's Penelope looking at Colin, like we see Colin's face for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that.
That's really interesting because what we have in episode 7 is Colin, when he realizes that she's Whistledown.
Yeah.
But that scene, he can only see Whistledown. Like, he can't see his pen.
It would have been such an interesting episode if this entire thing was just Colin reacting to Penelope's behavior. And then the following episode is Pen's fallout from that. Like, then we see her point of view after.
Go back to her.
Yeah.
Again, Scribble said, I'm really disappointed that Colin is not even a little bit suspicious of who Lady Whistledown could be. During my first watch, I thought Colin was tracking who Lady Whistledown could be. And I thought he was taken aback that Cressida revealed herself because he had eliminated her from his own list of suspects. If we think back, we always wanted Colin to suspect who Lady Whistledown was.
Yeah.
He didn't have to get it right. We're not saying he had to literally figure it out, but
just to have some thoughts on the subject, yeah.
just some thoughts. But you remember from our season 2 rewatch, it seemed like, and of course it was, you know, season 2 is different to season 3.
Right.
Whatever. But it seemed like the show was setting that up. And it was suggesting that Colin was going to start suspecting someone.
Yeah.
Namely, that he was going to suspect Eloise. Just as Colin did in the book.
Right.
And it felt like those seeds were being planted.
And it would have kind of made sense because he could even think that the falling out between Eloise and Penelope was for that reason.
Yeah, but it was the other way around.
Which would add more layers because he's got it exactly wrong. It's the opposite.
He'd be like quietly angry at Eloise and she'd be in the position of being like, you're accusing me, but I'm still kind of protecting Pen, so I can't really defend myself. And Colin, like Cressida, is a very intelligent character who's good at observing people. And it would have been nice to have seen that where like he might not have got the answers right, but he noticed.
Also, he knows from season 2 that Eloise has been hanging out in the city near the printers.
Yeah, exactly.
She's been hanging out in the city. She's been writing letters. Penelope lies when it comes to Eloise.
Yeah.
They've had all these. And then this season, there are all these moments where he could interpret either Eloise or Pen as doing something. I mean, we literally have the ink on the fingers, which is from the books, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, it's Penelope's fingers, not Eloise's. But when you watch that scene as a book reader, you're like, oh my God, that's so clever. He's logging that moment in the back of his head. And he's like, yes, he might not be processing it right now, but he's noticing and it's adding up.
Yeah, maybe that should have lingered in his mind a little more in the show.
Yeah, we kind of see elements of this in different ways. Like, he definitely knows something is wrong with Pen, for example. He's so deeply attuned to her. But I think ultimately his insecurities take over so much that he turns it inwards.
Yeah.
Anything that could be wrong with Pen is because of something I've done,
yeah,
or my failures, or my lacking. And we also see him being surprised by it's being Cressida because he doesn't think she's clever enough. So, like, once again, that's another seed that's planted where it's like, you have laid the groundwork for him to have suspected something.
You could have followed his mounting suspicion. suspicions, yeah.
And yet having his perspective would have added a different twist, because it's like, who in that moment of discovery should the impact be with? Should the impact be with Penelope and her consequences, or should it be with Colin? I personally feel like, although it's an episode very tied into Penelope's questioning, seeing it from Colin's would have been, I don't know, just slightly more compelling, I guess. But I suppose, you know, do you want the cliffhanger at the end?
Yeah. I wonder if this episode may have been a little more, as you said, compelling if we saw more of his mounting suspicions, and that he was trying to distract himself from that by trying to remind himself how happy he is with Penelope, basically romancing himself.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think it also gives him more agency. Again, he doesn't have to be right in his assumptions, but it gives him more agency in a story where you could argue he has a lot of agency taken away from him at various points.
Yeah.
Like, if he at least has the ability to suspect and to put pieces together, because he's clever and he notices.
Love that suggestion. I don't think I've ever really thought about that before, but yeah, that would make more sense to me. Yeah.
And Tracy said, I wish they could have figured a way to do the Lady Whistledown reveal mid-episode to give us more time on the back end to resolve everything. But because it had to come at the end, it felt like filler till we could get there.
Yeah.
And Scribble finished by saying, I personally hate the reveal happens this late. I would have preferred the part 1 cliffhanger to be the reveal, and the episode 6 conflict as their engagement party in the books.
Agreed.
I also think Cressida should have revealed herself as Lady Whistledown in that red dress.
Oh, love the red dress.
And Laurie finished off the thought saying, nonetheless, the end of episode 6 breaks my heart to see how gutted Colin is when he finds out.
I think I agree with all those points.
Yeah.
And there we go, on a cliffhanger. What a chunky episode. What were you thinking? Like, whistle ups, whistle downs.
Whistle up the bandstands. Yeah.
Oh, it is very sweet, isn't it?
I love all the different shots we've gotten of this behind the scenes, because I would just love to see like 2 hours of this dance. It's so cute.
Yeah. In the church where we had to be married.
And the Whistledown, probably the Lady Whistledown reveal, just because of where it falls in this season, I think, for me.
Yeah.
But I do really love how it plays out within this episode and the next. Though the suggestion of framing it from Colin's point of view, I think, is excellent. I would have loved that.
Yeah, absolutely. Bow ratings. This is an interesting ep, because if you can't tell from the whole hours we've been talking about it, a lot of mixed feelings.
Yeah.
How do we feel? Do we find it is filler? Do we think there's value in storytelling that happens?
This is a hard one for me.
I'm just going to go bows right away. I'm going to say 5, mostly because it's like, it's not one of my favorites. I think that there was a lot of clunkiness to this episode, in my opinion. Not necessarily that it's all filler. I definitely think there were filler portions to it. I just think that the way that it was structured was not necessarily a benefit to the story itself.
Yeah.
Is how I feel.
I feel like I'm in the same range. I was going to go with a 6 out of 12.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with a 6 as well. It's an interesting episode. What I will say is, having rewatched it in this deep way that we have, I have a lot more sympathy for Pen than I did originally. I think we see a lot of her perspective and we hear a lot of the voices that are in her head, and it is impossible for her. It really is.
Actually, our listener, Kate, made a really interesting point that ties into this. She said, the gloom and dread hanging over the happy moments do make it harder to love, but on rewatches, episode 6 has become one of my absolute favorites. For Pen, I think it has some of the best and most necessary character development. She chooses Colin over Lady Whistledown, encouraged into making a choice by Portia and Eloise, but she can't stop feeling that she's giving up part of herself. It's the 2 most important aspects of Pen's life, her deep, long-time love for Colin and her hard-won sense of self as Lady Whistledown in conflict. And at the same time, it's exploring a wider theme. Should we have to give up a part of ourselves to be worthy of love? The tension between the joy and sadness is gorgeous. I agree with that. I think that's a very good point. And I think that is something conveyed successfully in this episode.
I think the reason I find it to be filler is that so much of Pen's journey in this episode is her coming to terms with the fact that she's going to give Whistledown up. Right. And she makes that decision. She's going to stick by that.
Yeah.
But she never says that to Colin. Like, it never has any emotional resonance. She never has the ability. Funnily enough, she did in season 2 with Elle. She never has the moment where she's like, I was going to give this up because I love you so much.
Right.
Like, that would have hit Colin in a way, being like, oh God, like, I understand, like, I love my writing, you love your writing, and you're going to sacrifice that for us, even though it's messy. And so because we never had that payoff of, like, the fact that she was going to give it up for him and for their life together, it makes this feel like filler. Does that make sense? Because it's like, that had no consequence. We just have Pen tormented a long time before her hand is forced and she just has to act regardless of it.
Yeah.
But then you do have really beautiful moments like the bands, like Portia, Polin in the beginning. Eloise has some great moments. It's just, I think, the pacing of the whole season. Can it afford a big episode like this? With a lot of things happening with a lot of different characters?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I'm going to give it a 6. Veg, come from wherever you are to insert your thoughts here, babe.
Hello, I would like to give this episode a bow rating of 6. Sorry, out of 12 bows. I just didn't take to this episode. I think I didn't like the flow loads. I think the couple of Polin scenes we had were cute, but it felt like quite long to have the Whistledown reveal hanging over us still, and for it to happen right at the end, it dragged a little. But we saw the dress from the library in 304, so how can I fault that?
There we go. A beast of an episode, a viper of an episode, you could say. We have done episode 6, which means next time we have got a wedding to attend. But until then, where can everyone find us?
You can find us at WhatABarbPod on Instagram and TikTok.
And you can find us with your eyes and ears on YouTube, where we have the episodes plus little collages to go alongside. Or you can find us on all of your favourite podcast platforms.
And if you would like to join us over on Patreon, we'll be having a chat about this episode once it's come out.
Maybe a bonus episode or 2 are on there.
But come and join us over at patreon.com/whatabarbpod. But until then, Beans, do us the honour and sing us out.
Das Violin. Du, 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 du. Du, 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 du.